A cataclysmic natural disaster swept across the land, transforming ordinary people into ravenous zombies.
Stripped of their humanity, they were left with no choice, no escape from their horrifying fate.
The few fortunate enough to survive the initial onslaught found themselves relentlessly hunted.
Among them, a lone pregnant woman, heavy with child. Desperate to protect her unborn child, she sought refuge in the shadows, evading the relentless pursuit of a grotesque creature, a chilling stalker who had picked up her trail earlier that day.
For a fleeting moment, a glimmer of hope emerged.
Luck, it seemed, was on her side.
The monster's attention was abruptly diverted by the ill-fated appearance of a young couple in the hallway.
But the reprieve was short-lived.
More of the mutated horrors, drawn by the commotion, converged upon the scene.
Tragedy struck swiftly.
The young woman was brutally slain,
leaving her grief-stricken partner to become a gruesome meal for one of the foul creatures.
A bloody carnage ensued, the entire area transformed into a macabre playground crawling with monstrous figures. Amidst the chaos and despair,
the pregnant woman fought with every ounce of strength to remain concealed, but the insidious infection had already taken hold.
The bite mark pulsed ominously, her body beginning its horrifying transformation. Time was slipping away, a precious commodity rapidly dwindling.
She had to bring her child into the world before the monstrous metamorphosis consumed her completely. With a desperate act of will, she gagged herself with a piece of cloth, stifling the cries that threatened to betray her location. Then, bracing herself against the inevitable agony, she prepared to endure the excruciating pain of childbirth. The screams of the dying and the infected echoed around her, a terrifying symphony of suffering. As the apartments echoed with the horrifying sounds of others being torn apart, her own agonizing mutation intensified. Yet, fueled by a primal determination to survive, she fought back with everything she had, desperate to bring her unborn child into the world before time ran out. 7 years later, the ravaged landscape remained infested with monstrous creatures. Within the decaying walls of one of the abandoned apartments, a small girl trembled, huddled in a quiet corner. The ominous thud of heavy footsteps, signaling a monster's approach, reached her ears. Panic seized her, she clamped a hand over her mouth,
praying to remain undetected.
But her efforts were in vain. The monstrous presence found her.
In a desperate bid for freedom,
the girl bolted, but the creature's grasp was too quick.
Its monstrous jaws gaped open,
poised to devour her. But fear not, for this mutated monster harbored no intent to harm. This creature was, in fact, her mother.
Their terrifying game of hide-and-seek was a twisted reflection of their reality. Indeed,
this mutated being was the same pregnant woman from 7 years prior, forever changed by the cataclysm. And this little girl, full of vibrant energy, is Chukbok. Despite all appearances, she is her daughter. This formidable, monstrous mother
cherishes the simple yet profound title of Mom.
A little while later, we find Chukbok stubbornly pleading, her small voice filled with determination, to go outside. Her mother's refusal brings a wave of sadness over the young girl's face, her bright eyes clouding over. Tears well up and begin to stream down her cheek. Between sobs, she voices her longing to accompany her mother, to join her on a quest to find Gamdo.
Now, you might be finding yourself wondering, what exactly is Gamdo?
Patience, my friend. All will be revealed in due time. The monster mother, her voice firm, instructs Chukbok to quiet down. But the sight of her daughter's tear-stained face, the raw emotion in her eyes, softens her heart. She kneels down, her voice gentle as she reminds Chukbok of the dangers that lurk outside. Yet, she makes a promise. She will bring Gamdal back, and she will return as quickly as she possibly can.
Later,
the monster mother navigates the treacherous streets, a landscape still haunted by roaming monsters. As she cautiously makes her way, one of these grotesque creatures lunges at her from the shadows. With lightning-fast reflexes, she dodges the attack and retaliates, striking the monster with a sharp, tentacle-like appendage. The creature, paralyzed by the blow, crumples to the ground, defeated. The sight of the fallen creature sends a tantalizing aroma through the air, making her mouth water.
Without hesitation, she indulges in a ravenous feast. The taste is unfamiliar, almost alien, but it satisfies her gnawing hunger.
Her appetite sated, she suddenly notices a pair of survivors in the distance,
desperately struggling against the onslaught of mutated monsters.
One man brandishes a flickering torch, casting lone, dancing shadows, while the other aims a pistol with trembling hand.
A wave of bewilderment washes over the mother.
These fools are practically inviting death, she thinks, venturing into this forsaken place so late at night. Their foolishness is only compounded by the fact that the torchlight and gunfire are serving as nothing more than beacons, further enraging the already frenzied monsters. Acting swiftly and decisively, she picks up 2 rocks and hurls them with deadly accuracy. The first rock shatters the torch with a resounding crack,
plunging the surrounding area into an oppressive darkness.
The second finds its mark, striking the gunman squarely on the head with a sickening thud. Having effectively neutralized the gunman,
she turns her attention to the now defenseless torchbearer, her approach predatory and silent. She advances with a terrifying determination, her intentions clear. What fate awaits him? Only time will tell. Later, we find the remaining man stumbling through the darkness, gasping for breath and consumed by terror. It appears he's fallen victim to an attack by survivors who have stripped him of his weapon and supply, desperately seeking refuge. He unexpectedly comes face to face with the monstrous mother. With lightning speed, she lashes out, launching a tentacle in his direction. But then, in a surprising turn of events, her razor-sharp needle halts mid-strike. As fate would have it, this man is none other than Gomdal, the very individual young Chuckbox had spoken of. Overwhelmed with recognition, the monster lady engulfs him in a tight embrace. Gomdal, meanwhile, is petrified, the near-death experience leaving him trembling. He's utterly astonished to find that she not only located him, but somehow managed to retrieve his stolen backpack. As for the unfortunate robber who dared steal Gomdal's belongings, he now finds himself surrounded by a ravenous horde of monsters. His only recourse is a desperate cry of terror, before meeting a grisly end, serving as a gruesome feast for the creature. The scene abruptly shifts, transporting us back 7 years. We find a younger Gomdal, lost and wandering aimlessly. His eyes scan the debris, searching for anything of use. Then, a glimmer of hope, a discarded flashlight caught his eye. Clutching his newfound treasure, he considered turning back. The darkness beyond held the chilling possibility of monstrous encounter. But curiosity, a dangerous companion, urged him onward. He ventured deeper into the unknown. His footsteps echoed eerily through the desolate building. Suddenly, a faint noise broke the silence, emanating from a nearby room. Cautiously, he raised his gun and pointed the flashlight ahead, his heart pounding in his chest. The sight that greeted him was horrifying. A limbless monster, grotesquely contorted, was crawling across the floor. Gondal's mind raced. What could have happened here? Had this creature been the victim of something even more terrifying? Whatever the answer, it was a clear sign of danger. He spun around, ready to flee. But just as he turned to leave, a voice echoed from further down the corridor, seemingly from the same room. Despite the overwhelming urge to run, a flicker of courage ignited within him. He had to investigate. He could have walked away, but something compelled him forward, into the heart of the unknown, and frantically sought another hiding place. But a sound stopped him in his tracks. A faint, almost imperceptible noise, the kind that seemed impossible to detect in the cacophony of such a place. Driven by curiosity, he investigated, and what he discovered was utterly astonishing. A taut string, aimed directly at his throat. Terrifying in itself, the threat was amplified by what lay beyond. But it wasn't the string that truly shocked him, it was the sight of a bloodthirsty monster, tenderly feeding a human baby. The scene was more jarring, more surreal, than anything he could have possibly envisioned. That was the day he met her. And now, years later, that same mother was effortlessly decimating monsters as if they were mere nuisances. He watched, mesmerized, filled with a potent mix of awe and admiration. He felt a surge of pride, profoundly grateful to have such a fierce, powerful woman as his wife. Suddenly, their desperate flight brought them to an abrupt halt at a dead end. With a horde of monsters closing in, their only escape route was a perilous jump across the building gap. The man drew his gun, a picture of grim determination. He exuded confidence, ready to face whatever came next. But just as they braced themselves for the onslaught, a figure emerged from the shadows, violently yanking Gomdal backward. With lightning reflexes, the girl seized his hand, her other hand gripping an iron rod with white-knuckle intensity, jutting out jaggedly from the floor, her grip unwavering as she refuses to let go of her husband. Gomdal, on the other hand, feels an agonizing pain as if his leg is being ripped apart by the monstrous force pulling him down. The creature relentlessly tries to drag him into the abyss. This monster attempting to snatch Gomdal is no ordinary beast. It's a grotesque abomination, its hunger for fresh meat palpable. Meanwhile, far removed from this desperate struggle, little Chuckbox lies peacefully in the safety of her home, innocently sketching drawings of herself, her mother, and Gomdal. She eagerly awaits his return, her heart filled with the simple desire to play with him. Back in the terrifying chasm, Gomdal hangs precariously between life and death. Monsters from above swoop down, attempting to snatch them alive, while those below eagerly await their fall, anticipating the gruesome feast of fresh meat. Even Gomdal's powerful mother struggles to maintain her hold. Her hands tremble with the strain, the terrifying realization dawning on her that if she doesn't act quickly, they will both perish in this horrific abyss. With a surge of adrenaline, she makes a desperate decision. Releasing her grip on the iron rod, she plunges downwards, pulled by the monstrous creature. With lightning-fast reflexes, she lashes out with her tentacles, seizing another monster from the side of the building. With brutal force, she slams it down upon the massive monster's head. Disoriented and reeling from the unexpected blow, the behemoth stumbles. The monster mother seizes this crucial opening. Her sharp needle pierces the monster's tongue, which had been relentlessly gripping Gomdal's feet. As the tongue finally releases its hold, a wave of relief washes over the mother. The plan worked flawlessly. Now, their survival hinges on a safe landing. Once on solid ground, she can eliminate the remaining threat and ensure Gamdal's safety. But Gamdal, it seems, has a different strategy in mind. He pulls her close, holding her tightly as they land squarely on the monster's grotesque face. Fortunately, the large bag Gamdal carries cushions their impact, lessening the brutality of the fall. Gamdal swiftly leaps from the monster's gaping maw, rolling across the ground to absorb the remaining force of the landing. Wasting no time, Gamdal swiftly regains his footing. He scoops up his wife and sprints away with all his might. Meanwhile, the monstrous creature is consumed by rage as it witnesses its intended meal escaping its clutches. As they flee, the monster mother chastises Gamdal for his reckless action. She sharply points out the injury he sustained, while leaping and running with her in tow. As Chuck Box's father, any harm to him would be a devastating blow to their family. However, Gamdal's concern remains firmly fixed on her well-being. He apologizes profusely, taking full responsibility for their perilous predicament. He admits his actions led them into this dangerous situation. The monster mother can't help but think he's completely lost his mind. He just injured himself protecting her, yet his primary concern remains her safety, not his own pain. While she continues to scold Gamdal for his recklessness, a sharp thong suddenly pierces her belly. The agonizing pain confirms the monstrous creature has struck back with a vengeance. The relentless beast, driven by insatiable hunger, attacks with ferocious intensity. This horrifying creature, the relentless pack of monsters, isn't about to let their wounded prey escape so easily. Despite the gaping wound in her belly, the tenacious monster mother stubbornly dismisses it as a mere scratch. Her defiance is cut short as another monster lunges, clamping its jaws around her throat. Desperate to intervene, Gamdal frantically rummages through his enormous bag. He's certain he is just the tool to turn the tide of the battle in their favor, but locating it amongst the jumble proves momentarily challenging. Precious seconds tick by as the relentless monsters close in. The monster mother, refusing to succumb, uses her powerful tentacle as piercing weapons, skewering the attacking monster. Fighting ferociously, she fends them off with everything she has left. After a frantic search, Gamdal finally unearths what he's been desperately seeking: grenade. With a swift motion, he pulls the pins and hurls them towards the swarming monster. The grenades detonate in a deafening roar, obliterating several creatures in a single, devastating blast. But the fight is far from over. Gamdal, without hesitation, arms himself with more grenades, bombarding the remaining monsters with explosive force. The pursuing creatures are engulfed in flames and smoke, and obliterated in a series of fiery explosions. Though they'd successfully dispatched the smaller monster, this colossal behemoth remained a relentless and unyielding adversary. They paused, desperately searching for a weakness, a way to overcome this impossible foe, a plan to survive. And that's when the monster's mother, fueled by a primal instinct, made a daring, almost suicidal decision. She snatched the grenade from her husband's grasp and launched herself into the air. Just as the monster lunged, its fangs and tentacles reaching out to ensnare them, Gamdal instinctively dropped to the ground, his eyes widening in disbelief as he watched the monster's mother pull the pin from the grenade with a fierce determination. With a powerful kick, she sent the grenade hurtling towards the creature's gaping maw. The monstrous beast opened its jaws wide, anticipating the taste of fresh meat, but instead, the grenade landed squarely inside its mouth. The ensuing explosion ripped through the monster's head, obliterating it in an instant. In the aftermath of the blast, the monster's mother triumphantly flipped the creature the middle finger, a defiant gesture of victory. Gamdal, watching with a surge of pride, beamed as he witnessed his wife's incredible display of bravery and skill. With the threat finally neutralized, seeking refuge and privacy, they make their way to a nearby apartment. Once inside, the monster mother sheds her garment, and Gamdal breathes a sigh of relief as he notices that the wound on her belly has miraculously vanished. With a playful tone, she reminds him that he should always prioritize caution, as he is the steadfast protector of their family. Now that their immediate concerns are alleviated, they set their sights on finding their daughter, who must be anxiously awaiting their return. Upon reaching their apartment, Gamdal calls out for his daughter, and little Chuck Box comes rushing into her father's arms. They embrace in a deeply affectionate and heartwarming hug, brimming with love and relief. Chuck Box proudly displays a painting she has created for her father, and Gamdal responds with an enthusiastic thumbs, delighted to see her artistic endeavors completed. As a reward, he presents her with a bar of chocolate, sending the little one into a frenzy of joy. Overwhelmed with delight by the sweet treat, the monster mother observes the tender scene unfolding before her, her gaze filled with warmth as she looks upon her family. Her eyes, filled with unwavering love, remains steadfast, even amidst the hardships of life. Each time she witnesses her daughter's radiant smile, a surge of renewed energy washes over her, revitalizing her spirit. She knows, with unshakable certainty, that no matter the obstacles ahead, she will fiercely protect her precious family, at any cost. As the family of three basks in the warmth of their shared happiness, a shadowy figure lurks just outside their humble apartment, observing them. The stranger's expression betrays a deep-seated resentment, unable to bear the sight of this small family's simple contentment. Meanwhile, inside the warm embrace of their home, the family gathers around the table for a shared meal. A profound sense of joy fills the hearts of both parents, as they watch their little daughter devour her food with unrestrained delight. Young Chuckbox, in a gesture of sweet affection, decides to share her meal with her beloved parent. First, she offers a bite to Gomdal, her father, tenderly feeding him with her own tiny hand. Next, she turns to her mother, offering a spoonful of rice. Her mother hesitates, but the persistent little one insists, urging her to take a bite. Despite her daughter's insistence, the mother's hesitation lingered. Gomdal, sensing his wife's reluctance, gently reminds their daughter that Mommy insists she's full, but Chuckbox remains unconvinced, especially since she hasn't seen her mother eat a single bite. Gomdal attempts to intervene, claiming he's witnessed her eat plenty of time. This piques Chuckbox's genuine curiosity. She wants to understand how her mother eats, having never actually seen her do so. Her mother gently takes Chuckbox's hand, offering reassurance, and explaining that she doesn't require food. She encourages her little one to simply enjoy her own meal. A dejected Chuckbox begins to pick at her food, her expression filled with sadness. Later, we see her holding a cookie. Her face now lit by a joyful smile. She declares the cookie delicious, and insists her mother try it, eager to share her favorite treat. Chuckbox's persistent urging for her mother to take a bite only intensifies her mother's anxiety. She struggles to find a way to refuse her daughter's offer without causing her any hurt feeling. Finally, succumbing to her daughter's persistent plea, the mother's trembling hand hesitantly reaches for the offered cookie. But just as her fingers graze the sweet treat, Chuckbox quickly snatches it back. She, too, desires the deliciousness, wanting a share of the cookie herself. With a determined effort, she tries to break the cookie in half, but her small hands result in two distinctly uneven pieces. A weighty dilemma now confronts Chuckbox. Should she keep the larger, more tempting piece for herself, or offer it to her mother? After a moment of internal struggle, she yields to temptation, extending the smaller piece towards her mother. But the mother hesitates once more, uncertainty clouding her features. A glance at Chuckbox's face reveals the truth. The little girl's desire to devour the entire cookie herself is undeniable. Unwilling to force her mother, Chuckbox decides to simply eat the whole thing. However, the selfish impulse is fleeting, quickly replaced by a pang of guilt, as she remembers her initial intention, to make her mother eat the cookie. Just then, Gomdal cheerfully chimes in, requesting a bite with innocent enthusiasm. But Chuckbox, overwhelmed by her eagerness to savor the treat, and devours it entirely. Undeterred, she grabs another cookie, determined to try again. Later, Chuckbox persistently pesters her mother, urging her to eat various random things. This constant badgering continues relentlessly. The monster mother grows increasingly exasperated by her daughter's incessant requests. Finally, she snaps, her patience wearing thin. Using her customary sign language, she firmly tells Chuckbox to stop bothering her. She signs, "Does it bring you joy to tease mommy so much?" Her mother's outburst leaves Chuckbox on the verge of tears. Tears well up in her eyes, threatening to spill over. She never meant to upset her mother, her intentions entirely pure. Through choked sobs, she tries to explain her genuine worry. "Mommy, I was just worried. I've never seen you eat anything," she continues, her voice trembling. I thought maybe you were hungry." The monster mother, deeply touched by her daughter's heartfelt concern, gently places a comforting finger on Chuckbox's small palm. Finally, she resolves to reveal the truth she's kept hidden for so long. The secret has weighed heavily on her, and witnessing her daughter's distress makes her realize she can no longer keep it concealed. The weight of the secret becomes unbearable. She can no longer keep silent. With a deep, steadying breath, the mother prepares to confess to Chuckbox. To reveal the horrifying truth, a ravenous hunger for flesh and blood consumes her. But as her fingers brush against her daughter's palm, a monstrous craving ignites within her, surging with uncontrollable intensity. A single drop of blood trickles from Chuckbox's nose, and the mother's primal instincts scream out, urging her to devour her own child. No cost is too great, no sacrifice too immense. The scene abruptly shifts, the silence punctuated only by the jarring slam of a door. Alerted by the sound, Gondal rushes to investigate, his heart pounding with apprehension. But the house is eerily empty, devoid of light. Chukbok confirms his fears. Her mother has vanished, driven outside by some unknown force. Outside, under the shroud of darkness, a terrifying scene unfolds. The monstrous mother, lost to her insatiable hunger, tears into another creature. The sight of her daughter's blood had shattered her fragile control, sending her fleeing into the night, desperate for release. She seeks to satiate her monstrous urges, to quell the beast within, by devouring this new prey. Driven by a desperate need to protect her child, she battles her own inner demon. Later, a semblance of peace returns. The family of 3 lies asleep in a single bed. Chukbok nestled safely between her parents, a fragile island of tranquility amidst the storm. Lost in thought, the monster mother reflects on the unexpected sweetness of a child's blood, a revelation that chills her to the core. From this moment forward, she vows to exercise extreme caution in her daughter's presence, dedicating herself to her protection, eternally vigilant against her own monstrous nature. Dawn breaks, painting the sky with the promise of a new day. The father, his face beaming with a bright smile, bids his family farewell before departing for the day. He urges them to remain safe until his return, and gently reminds the little one to let her mother sleep, undisturbed. Chukbok, acknowledging her father's words, adds a sweet request, a chocolate bar upon his return. With a final wave, the father departs, leaving Chukbok and her mother alone. The moment he's gone, and the door closes behind him, a mischievous grin spreads across Chukbok's face. Seizing the opportunity presented by her mother's slumber, Chukbok decides to embark on a little adventure. With a quick preparation, she slips out the door and into the vast world beyond. Almost immediately, she encounters the corpse of a slain monster, but she passes it by without a second glance, seemingly unfazed. Continuing her exploration, she wanders freely, her eyes bright with curiosity. Her gaze sweeps across the desolate streets, noticing other figures moving amidst the debris. She approaches a wall, stained crimson with blood, and with a piece of chalk, quickly sketches a whimsical doodle. Her artwork complete, she resumes her journey, a small figure against the backdrop of destruction. Meanwhile, Chukbok meticulously sifts through the rubble, searching the pockets of the fallen. Her persistence is rewarded as her fingers close around a small treasure, a handful of brightly colored candies. A radiant smile illuminates her face, her eyes sparkling with delight at the unexpected discovery. Clutching the candies tightly, she envisions a triumphant return home. She imagines the warm praise from her parents, their astonishment at such a rare and precious find in these times. A flicker of doubt crosses her features. Should she reveal the true source of her treasure? Should she tell them she found them amongst the dead? The thought lingers unanswered as she sets off once more. With renewed determination, she continues her solitary trek. Her next objective, to find someone named Hira, a name whispered like a promise. Unbeknownst to her, 2 figures observe her from the shadows, their eyes glinting with predatory intent. A child, a rare and unexpected sight in this ravaged landscape, has caught their attention. Excitement, tinged with something darker, flickers in their eyes. They hadn't anticipated encountering a child, let alone one so seemingly vulnerable. The man, a dagger glinting menacingly at his hip, already envisions the riches to be gained. A hefty ransom from desperate parents, the possibilities dance in his head. He's determined to seize this opportunity, to claim the child as his pride. But his female companion, her expression more calculated, raises a crucial point. What if the girl is an orphan, alone in the world? They'd have no use for her. The dagger-wielding man quickly dismisses the concern, reminding her of the lucrative market for children. Intrigued by the possibility, she contemplates selling the child to a cannibalistic tribe for a hefty price. To be honest, the child's gender remains a mystery, so let's assume she's a girl until we learn otherwise. Up ahead, the path forks, and the little one swiftly veers to the right. The bat-like woman accelerates, desperate to snatch the child before anyone else. Unbeknownst to them, the hunters are about to become the hunted. A figure wielding an axe emerges from the shadows and, without hesitation, swings with deadly force, instantly felling the dagger-wielding man. The woman stops short and whirls around, her eyes widening in horror as she sees a white-haired figure standing over her fallen companion, left for dead on the ground. Undeterred by the gruesome sight, she turns to confront the new threat, asking who the hell this person is. She wonders if this white-haired might be the girl's guardian. The whitehead just stares at her with lifeless eyes, and it looks like this whitehead is a lady as well. The ponytail then decides to pay dirty, and tries to distract the whitehead by making her think that someone is behind her. When Whitehead turns around, the ponytail charges at her with a bat in hand. Meanwhile, Whitehead lady can't seem to find anyone behind her. The ponytail thinks she's outsmarted her, having tricked this whitehead into believing someone was approaching from behind. But little does she know she's the one who's about to be screwed. In a blink of an eye, This whitehead cuts her throat with a single swing of his axe. I'm honestly glad that Ponytail Shithead is dead. We now won't have to figure out if this creepy sucker was a lady or a guy. Meanwhile, Chuckbox stands quietly behind the wall, trembling as she hears footsteps approaching. Eventually the little one is discovered by the white-haired woman, but as soon as the little one looks at her, we learned that this woman is actually Hira, the one our little girl had been searching for. Suddenly a monster crawls up and leaps at the woman, but Hira crushes it with her axe. As soon as the injured monster touches the sunlight, it disintegrates into dust. Hira turns to the little one and reminds her once again that she must always check before entering dark places. Most importantly, she asks why the little one is even outside and where her mommy is. Chuckbox looks absolutely terrified, and eventually she ends up taking a bike over her head. Hira had given clear instructions over the years. Always check for monsters before entering dark places. Always carry a flashlight or a weapon. Never go to a place where you hear strange noises. And never follow strangers other than mom, daddy and Hira herself. The most important rule: never go outside alone. Hira is frustrated that, despite drilling these rules into her for years, the little one still hasn't learned. She sternly tells her to never break these rules again, but Chuckbox quickly protests, claiming she's old enough to go outside. Of course Hira gives her a deadly glare, enough to make the little one fall silent and humble. Anyway, since Chuckbox is so determined to go outside, Hira decides to take her somewhere grown ups go. Chuckbox lights up like a kid at the prospect of another adventure, although she was excited at first. All her enthusiasm fades when she finds herself in a pitch-black place, because she doesn't really like the dark. She calls out to Hira but gets no response to her plea. Once Chuckbox is finally terrified to her core, Hira finally answers, asking if she still wants to act like a grown-up, to scare the little one even more. Hira reminds her that monsters love to dwell in dark places like this, since adults come here because they can find valuable things. This place is always filled with bloody fight. Suddenly, the little one stumbles over something and falls to the ground. She has no idea what she bumped into, but when she pulls her hand from the ground, her face goes pale as she notices blood all over her hand. This is the breaking point. The girl finally loses her will to stay and begs to get out, pleading to be taken outside. But all her cries fall on deaf ears. She becomes teary-eyed and sweaty, unable to see anything around her. She is finally terrified by the realization that adults come here every day to fight for food. Finally, Hira reappears, reminding the little girl that this is where adults come, despite their own fears, because survival necessitates it. Even grown ups are reluctant to visit such perilous places, but their need for sustenance leaves them with no alternative. She wants Chuckbox to keep this lesson in mind. Then she tells her it's time to leave. Together they start walking out of this chaotic place, stepping past hordes of monster corpses lying scattered on the ground. Once they finally reach the apartment, Hira finally decides to part ways, but promises to meet the little girl again. When she comes outside with her mother and father, she also firmly warns Chuckbox not to tell her parents anything about what happened. Suddenly the little one makes an unusual request, asking Hira to sit down. When Hira obliges, Chuckbox gives her a playful bonk on the head, which is supposed to be the payback for making her cry earlier. Afterward, Chuckbox hands Hira a piece of candy she had found during her adventure. With that, she waves goodbye to Hira, a big smile on her face as she heads home. This little candy leaves a big impression on Hira, and she can't help but crack a smile, realizing that the little girl has gotten much stronger than she expected. It makes her believe that Chuckbox is going to grow into a fascinating person. Meanwhile, as Chuckbox reaches for the doorknob to open the door, she notices that the color of her finger has changed. The scene transitions back to the past. During winter, we see Chuckbox amidst the debris, a mother and father frantically sifted through the rubble, desperately searching for something of value. Suddenly, the father unearthed a vibrant scarf, gently draping it around the monster mother's neck, a warm gesture of affection that brought a blush to her monstrous features, her heart touched by the thoughtful gift. Lost in a passionate embrace, they momentarily forgot about their daughter, lost somewhere amidst the chaos. The father's voice broke the silence, calling out for Chuckbox, but a chilling realization washed over him as silence answered his call. She was nowhere to be found. Meanwhile, the little adventurer, Chuckbox, was on a quest of her own, her small hands exploring the wreckage, searching for something useful. It was during this solitary exploration that she first encountered Hira, sitting on the ground, seemingly injured and in distress. Even turning her head towards Chuckbox seemed a monumental effort for the wounded Hira. Finally, with a pained grimace, she managed to face the little girl, her first words a harsh command to leave her alone. But Chuckbox hesitated, her kind heart unwilling to abandon someone so clearly in need. Hira responded with a cold, piercing glare, hoping to frighten the persistent child away. However, the intimidating stare failed to deter the determined little girl, her innocent eyes unwavering. Instead of leaving, Chuckbox, in her endearingly curious way, inquires about the very meaning of get lost. The phrase seems to be a complete mystery to the young girl. Hira, growing more specific in her frustration, tells her to return to her parents and cease being such a nuisance. But instead of obeying, Chuckbox reaches out and takes hold of Hira's injured hand, and begins to gently blow warm air onto her cold, frozen arm, attempting to soothe it with her breath. Hira instinctively recoils, using her other hand to pull the girl away, but she freezes mid-motion. Struck by the genuine and earnest concern in Chuckbox's efforts to help alleviate her pain. This simple act of kindness was the foundation of their past encounter, the genesis of their connection. Suddenly, the little one jolts awake from the memory, the dream she had been immersed in. But after a brief moment of wakefulness, she drifts peacefully back to sleep. Meanwhile, hidden from view, her parents are desperately seeking refuge from the lurking monster. Frustration gnaws at them as the ominous dark clouds have emboldened the creatures to roam freely, even in the broad daylight. The mother, despair evident in her voice, tells her husband that there's nothing left for them here. To compound their woes, this was the last pharmacy in the entire region, their final hope dwindling. Overwhelmed by exhaustion and worry, Gondul decides to take a much-needed rest. But the mother, consumed with worry, can't find a moment's rest. Her every thought focused on healing her daughter's injured finger. A gnawing fear grips her, the terrifying possibility that the damage might be severe. The big man, sensing her distress, tries to offer comfort, gently urging her to ease the burden of self-blame she carried. He assures her that a solution, a way to mend her daughter's finger, must exist. But the mother remains inconsolable, trapped in a cycle of guilt, utterly convinced that she alone is responsible for her daughter's plight. Gondul observes her self-recrimination with growing concern, his worry etched on his face. Finally, unable to bear witness to her despair any longer, he reaches his breaking point. With a heavy sigh, he interrupts her spiraling thoughts, reminding her that their frantic, desperate search for a cure has yielded nothing but frustration. For days, they have scoured countless shops and pharmacies, their efforts proving futile. Each empty-handed return reinforces the agonizing realization that their quest has been in vain. A chilling thought dawns upon him. Perhaps they were foolish from the very beginning. Resolutely, he proposes a new course of action. They must journey to Hope Village. Rumors speak of a skilled doctor residing there, a beacon of hope in their bleak situation. As far as Gondul knows, this doctor represents their only chance, their last desperate hope. But entry into Hope Village comes at a price, an entrance fee. And therein lies their greatest obstacle, is the rather unique entrance fee. They only accept items of significant value and practical use. Gondul is at a loss, unsure where to find such a treasure. Then, she begins tapping her palm against his, a familiar gesture, but the words that follow send a shiver down his spine. While I can't fully decipher her hand language, it appears she intends to venture into Dungeon Village, a perilous place, to acquire something of value. Her husband reminds her of the inherent danger, that the village is, quite literally, a nest of monsters, even for someone of her ability. Undeterred, the lady assures him the monsters pose no real threat. The risk, she declares, is well worth the reward. She boasts of prior experience in such treacherous locale, implying this should be a relatively simple task. Her only concern is avoiding an encounter with the dungeon's formidable master, a being far beyond even her considerable capability. Gondul agrees to remain behind with Chuckbox, granting her permission to embark on this dangerous quest. Before she departs, he offers her a flashlight for the journey. But the moment he opens the bag, he discovers the little one sound asleep inside. Initially, both parents are in disbelief, rubbing their eyes in astonishment. But a second glance confirms the reality. She's truly nestled within the bag. The shock leaves them both sweating profusely. As the little one's groggy eyes flutter open, she's met with the piercing gaze of her mother. Chuckbox's mind goes blank, the realization of being caught dawning upon her. In a desperate attempt to salvage the situation, she tries to play it off, acting like a magician emerging from a bag. However, her impromptu performance falls flat. Instead of applause, she receives a sharp bank on the head from her mother, and a lengthy, exasperated lecture from her father. Daddy is absolutely furious. This might be the first time his anger towards the little one has been so palpable. Surprisingly, his outburst serves as a mere translation of the truly incandescent rage emanating from her mother. Mother, still fuming, tells the big guy that it's time to return home immediately. There's no time for further argument. With no room for debate, the matter is settled. As mother turns to begin the journey home, Chuckbox starts to pester her relentlessly. He questions her destination. But she's consumed by a chilling certainty. Her mother is walking into danger, a danger somehow connected to her. Desperate to prevent the inevitable,
She pleads with her mother, begging her to return home, but her mother remains unmoved, resolutely continuing down her chosen path, leaving the young girl in the care of her husband. As her mother disappears from view, a wave of regret washes over Chukbok. She's convinced that her own actions drove her mother away. Gamdal attempts to comfort her, assuring her of her mother's imminent return. He suggests they head home themselves, but a sudden, urgent rumbling in the big man's stomach interrupts the moment. Nature calls, demanding a bathroom break. He heads off to relieve himself, leaving his daughter behind, with instructions to wait patiently. Meanwhile, Chukbok's mind spirals into a vortex of dark thought. A terrifying memory surfaces, the chilling experience she endured in a place of shadow, and a dreadful suspicion takes root. Could her mother be heading towards that same terrifying darkness? Is utterly traumatizing for her. Meanwhile, the monster mother continues her journey, heading towards her next destination. A palpable sadness etched upon her face. The image of her daughter's heartbroken expression, seen as she tried to hold her back, lingers, refusing to fade. Regret gnaws at her. She shouldn't have left without comforting her precious girl. The guilt weighs heavily upon her heart. It's all her fault. She should have checked the bag, ensured everything was in order, before embarking on this adventure. Lost in these agonizing thoughts, she remains oblivious as the surrounding monsters begin to converge. Drawn to a nondescript cardboard box by an enticing aroma, the tantalizing scent of food, and is that something living beneath the cardboard? Faint voices can be heard, confirming their suspicion. A frenzied rush ensues as the monsters descend upon the box, only to discover nothing. But of course, it was the clever little girl, concealed beneath the discarded cardboard. In a flash, her mother appears, swooping in to rescue her daughter from the ravenous jaws of the hungry monster. The moment she scoops up her child, the monstrous horde surges forward, intent on attack, but the woman is swift, darting away, gracefully leaping over the writhing mass of monsters. A creature lunges, tentacles flailing, but she slices through them with effortless precision, as if they were mere thread. The other foul beasts meet the same swift end, cut down in a whirlwind of deadly grace, dispatched as easily as a farmer's harvest. Yet, the relentless onslaught begins to take its toll. Exhaustion creeps in. If this continues, the fight will soon become unsustainable. The child, sensing her mother's plight, points a tiny finger towards the heaven. Looking up, the mother witnesses the clouds parting, revealing a brilliant light. As the light intensifies, the monsters recoil in agony. The creatures that moments before hungered for flesh now desperately flee, seeking refuge from the burning light. They scramble for any scrap of shade. With the city under siege, the mother has no choice but to seek refuge in the depths of the dungeon, as the surrounding buildings are quickly overwhelmed by panicked monsters, desperate to escape the chaos. Suddenly, a colossal monster blindsides the mother with a brutal attack, leaving her young one paralyzed with fear. Ignoring the searing pain, the mother lashes out with a powerful tentacle, attempting to bring the monstrous assailant down, but the creature is deceptively swift for its immense size, unleashing a relentless barrage of blows against the desperate mother's back as she shields her child. Just as hope seems lost, a glimmer of salvation appears. Out of nowhere, a hurled axe cleaves the air, striking the behemoth squarely in the head, sending it crashing to the ground, incapacitated. The mother, bewildered by the unexpected rescue, has no time to ponder its origin. Driven by instinct, she presses onward, fleeing the danger. Meanwhile, Gamdal arrives at the entrance of the building. Following the path the monster mother took, he is utterly exhausted from the desperate sprint, his breath ragged. Before him, the building swarms with a terrifying multitude of monsters, and his desperate search for his daughter reaches an impasse. Overwhelmed by guilt, he torments himself, blaming his decision to leave her momentarily for a bathroom break for her disappearance. Meanwhile, the identity of the mysterious axe thrower, the savior of the monster mother, is revealed. It's Hira. She strides purposefully toward a stunned Gumdal, his face etched with shock. He's utterly bewildered, completely unfamiliar with the woman before him. But before a single word can escape his lip, Hira delivers a brutal blow to his face, sending him crashing to the ground. Simultaneously, the monster mother scolds her young one, her voice laced with anger for following her into such perilous danger. Fury burns within her as she berates Chukbok for disobeying her instructions to stay with her father. But then, a moment of tenderness unfolds. Chukbok gently places a tiny finger on her mother's palm, her touch conveying unspoken emotion. She confesses her fear, admitting that she couldn't bear the thought of her mother being harmed. Chukbok explains, her voice small, that she understands the sacrifices her mother and father made, the constant struggle to provide for her. They shield her from their pain, but she senses it nonetheless. She refuses to be the source of her mother's suffering any longer. Instead, she yearns to be her mother's comfort, a soothing presence at her side. Whenever pain threatens, she wants to be there to mend it. The mother's heart aches as she gazes at her daughter, and with a sigh, she pulls her close, enveloping her in a tender, heartfelt embrace. Meanwhile, monsters swarm the area, their numbers growing. To protect Chuckbox, the monster mother swiftly conceals her beneath her shirt and begins to navigate the throng of mindless creatures. Escape lies beyond the walls of this building. Hold tight, she whispers to Chuckbox. She moves cautiously, desperate to avoid any contact. But suddenly, one of the monsters encroaches, its proximity unsettlingly close, making the monster mother's skin crawl. She fights to maintain her composure, knowing any reaction could be disastrous. The slightest movement might provoke the monster, putting Chuckbox in grave danger. In a hushed whisper, she urges the little one to remain calm and unresponsive, no matter what. The monster mother suddenly feels a creeping sensation, as if the very dungeon itself is trying to communicate, to whisper insidious doubts into her mind. A voice, seemingly born from the shadows, insinuates that her desperate flight, her fierce protection of her child, is all for naught, a futile struggle against inevitable doom. But when she whips around, searching for the source of the unsettling voice, there's nothing there. No monstrous presence, no visible threat. Confusion washes over her. How could something so palpable, so menacing, vanish without a trace? Pressing on, she forces the unsettling encounter from her mind. The exit, the promise of freedom, is so close. She can almost taste it. Then, without warning, a colossal hand erupts from the darkness, its gargantuan fingers reaching for her, attempting to snatch her and her child away. With a desperate leap, she narrowly avoids its grasp. The monstrous hand, in its blind grab, seizes a throng of other creatures, sweeping them away in a chaotic flurry. Disoriented, she struggles to comprehend the sudden, violent upheaval. What just happened? But as she focuses on the retreating hand, its sheer immensity sinking in, a horrifying realization dawns upon her. It's the dungeon master, the ultimate terror of this infernal place. This monstrous entity isn't even concerned with its lesser brethren. It's simply seizing anything and everything within its reach, driven by a primal hunger. The colossal hand sweeps again, another indiscriminate grab for anything in its path. And this time, tragically, it ensnares the monster mother within its grasp. By a stroke of luck, only the mother is ensnared, as Chuckbox had already tumbled to the ground. But the sight of her mother's capture sends Chuckbox into a fit of tears. Despite her distress, her mother urges her to flee. "Run," she cries, her voice filled with desperation. In a surprising display of obedience, Chuckbox heeds her mother's words and sprints in the opposite direction, abandoning her previous stubborn stand. As the monstrous hand retracts, the captured mother summons all her remaining strength and rakes her claws across the monster's flesh, leaving deep gouges. The searing pain causes the monster to flinch, its grip instinctively loosening. The moment her feet touch the ground, she races off in search of Chuckbox. Meanwhile, deep within the building's labyrinthine corridor, we are introduced to a strikingly attractive monster woman who exudes an aura of power, likely the dungeon master herself. The scene abruptly shifts back to Chuckbox, who is now desperately fleeing a relentless horde of mindless monsters. She runs for her life, desperately trying to outpace her pursuer, but tears stream down her face, blurring her vision. A clumsy step sends her tumbling to the ground. The monstrous figure looms over her, its shadow engulfing her small form. Jaws agape, it prepares to devour her, but just then, another monster intervenes, slaying the beast about to claim Chuckbox. Instead of relief, a fresh wave of terror washes over her. The remaining monsters freeze, forming a silent, menacing circle around the scene. Paralyzed by fear, they watch as the dominant monster savors the anticipation of its pride. The moment the monster's claws brush against Chuckbox, she snaps. Overwhelmed by terror, she loses all control. She soils herself, a stark testament to her abject fear. A desperate cry for mommy escapes her lip. Ignoring her pleas, the monstrous beast scoops her up, drawing her closer to its gaping maw. Suddenly, the monster recoils, its nostrils twitching, catching an unexpected scent. Panic floods its senses, sending it into a frenzy. It's not alone. The other monsters, too, begin to sweat, their bodies trembling as panic sets in. Suddenly, they break into a run, fleeing in the opposite direction, as if their very lives depended on it. At first, Chuckbox is bewildered, completely caught off guard. But then, a foul odor assaults her nostrils, something rancid and deeply unsettling. Before she can even react, a monstrous figure lunges from behind, striking her a devastating blow. Her precious candies scatter across the ground, her offering lost. Out from the shadows emerges the culprit, a grotesque, mutated child. With a shocking display of power, the brat punches her from several feet away,
his bare fist connecting with brutal force. Chuckbox desperately reaches out, trying to salvage her scattered candy, but the monstrous child is quicker, snatching them up from the dirt. It becomes chillingly clear, this brat's only intention is to torment her. Chuckbox pleads with him, begging for the return of her candy, explaining that they are precious gifts meant for her mother and father. The mutated brat brings the candies to his nose, sniffing them briefly, and then, without a shred of hesitation, pops one into his mouth. Chuckbox is devastated, her heart sinking at the sight. Those weren't just candies, they were gifts for her parent, treasures she had searched long and hard to find. And now, this cruel brat had devoured one without a second thought. Fueled by rage, Chuckbox lashes out, landing a solid punch square in the brat's face, sending the candy flying from his mouth. Exasperated, she pinches his cheek, clearly oblivious to the fact that this little terror is a genuine monster. Undeterred, she continues to scold the brat, who retaliates by pinching her cheeks right back. And so they engage in this childish squabble, their back and forth escalating until it resembles two children at play. Finally, thoroughly outmatched, the brat gives up, running away in tears, defeated by our girl. The lady, on the other hand, is simply pleased to have retrieved her candy. The other monsters, witnesses to this unexpected altercation, are utterly stunned. They're practically sweating bullets. Shocked that she handled that brat so effortlessly, they stumble around her nervously. And the moment she sneezes, they scatter in terror. Chuck, oblivious to the reason for their sudden flight, pauses to consider the situation. A sudden memory jolts her, that awful, lingering smell. Could it be the stench, the utterly repulsive odor she'd picked up from that obnoxious brat? The very smell that likely sent those monstrous creatures fleeing in terror. A surge of confidence courses through her. Fear vanishes, replaced by a newfound courage. She's invincible. Emboldened, she breaks into a run, determined to find her mom. But her desperate dash is abruptly halted as a firm grip seizes her from behind. Bokchuk's keen ears pick up the hushed voices of two monsters, conversing nearby. Mistaking her scent for that of the dungeon master's child, they make a critical error. They believe she belongs to the dungeon master, and to their utter astonishment, they realize she's human. A terrifying thought strikes them. This small human must have been in close contact with the dungeon master's own offspring. Her soft, delicate skin confirms their suspicion. A decision is made. They will take her. Incidentally, the name of this monstrous lady is Dion. As their clawed fingers pinch her cheek, the little girl trembles, her voice a whisper. I want my mom. She pleads with them, her small voice filled with desperation. Please, help me find her. Dion feigns concern, her voice dripping with false sympathy. But then, a twisted smile contorts her lips as she leans in, her voice a sinister purr. I'll be your mommy now. They torment the frightened child with cruel jests. And then Dion's companion suggests, shouldn't we present her to father? But Dion refuses, her possessive grip tightening. She wants the girl for herself. However, the hooded monster interjects, a chilling reminder of their true purpose. We are here to assist father in capturing the dungeon master. He rasps, and devouring him. Therefore, this small morsel should be offered to father as a nutritious snack. Dion counters, I found her. I deserve at least one arm. Her casual cruelty sends shivers down Bokchuk's spine. Terror grips the little girl, leaving her paralyzed with fear. While the hooded monster's mouth waters at the thought of such a tender treat, Bokchuk trembles uncontrollably. Her tiny heart filled with one overwhelming desire, to find her mommy. But then, a spark of ingenuity ignites within her. Desperate to escape her captors, she hatches a daring plan. Whirling around, she cries out for her mommy, her voice filled with faux panic. As the monsters turn to follow the sound of her cry, their attention momentarily diverted, our quick-witted little lady, whom we'll call Chuck Bok, seizes the opportunity and bolts, her tiny legs pumping furiously. The monsters erupt in laughter, amused by the sight of the tiny human scrambling away, her escape seemingly futile. But their amusement quickly turns to predatory intent as they give chase, sinister plans forming in their mind. As they pursue their fleeing prey, they unexpectedly encounter a throng of panicked monsters, rushing in the opposite direction. Chuck Bok, ever resourceful, uses the chaos to her advantage, diving into the heart of the frenzied crowd, seeking refuge in its midst. The hooded monster, a terrifying figure, cuts a swathe through the lesser monsters, his weapon flashing menacingly. Though momentarily delayed, the pursuers are relentless. The brief respite buys Chuck Bok precious seconds, allowing her to widen the distance. Dion, not to be outdone, unleashes a tentacle-like appendage, joining the fray, tearing through the obstructing monster. Amidst the carnage, Chuck Bok dashes onward, her small form disappearing into the welcoming shadow. Finally, she finds a moment's reprieve, ducking behind a massive pillar, her heart pounding in her chest. But one of the vile creatures swiftly closes the distance, seizing her. They offer hollow promises of family, urging her to come with them. Overwhelmed by terror, the little girl teeters on the brink of unconsciousness. It seems Her sheer fright triggers a spontaneous mutation in one of her tiny fingers. As she swings her hand, the mutated finger makes contact, slicing through the hooded monster's hand with shocking ease. A jolt of pain registers, then rapidly escalates into an unbearable agony. The searing pain spreads, consuming his entire hand in a fiery torment. His final moments are spent writhing in excruciating pain, his flesh burning as if consumed by flame. Meanwhile, Balchuk, utterly bewildered by the sudden turn of events, stares at her hand in stunned silence. Elsewhere, Dion tears through other monsters with savage ferocity. She's oblivious to the fate of her hooded companion, and the thought of him devouring the girl alone fuels her rage. She craves a taste of that tender flesh, a texture unlike anything she's ever encountered. The desire consumes her. The very notion of devouring a child, of consuming such innocence, fills Dion with a terrifying blend of thrill and madness. The lingering taste, the delicate scent of the girl's skin on her hand, sends a wave of ravenous hunger through her, making her drool with anticipation. But her perverse excitement is short-lived. Monster Mama has arrived, and her fury is a palpable force. The sight of this twisted creature, harboring such vile fantasies about her precious little girl, is the final straw. The consequences for Dion are about to be dire. One can only imagine the horrors to come. Meanwhile, the hooded figure continues to writhe in excruciating agony, consumed by a burning sensation that sears his very flesh. His blood-curdling screams reverberate through the chamber, amplifying the little girl's terror, pushing her further into the depths of fear. Driven to the brink of madness by the unbearable pain, the monster takes drastic measures. He severs his own hand, desperate to escape the burning torment. The severed hand falls to the ground with a sickening thud. Though now maimed, the wretched creature finds a moment of reprieve from the agonizing pain, but fury burns within him, directed at the small, trembling creature before him. He envisions devouring her alive, savoring each bite, a gruesome revenge for the torment she inflicted. But before his wicked intentions can manifest, a brutal blow to his back sends him reeling. The force of the impact launches the villainous creature through the air. The projectile responsible for his sudden flight? The enormous bag Gomdal habitually carries. As Chuck Box turns, she's met with the sight of her father, his face contorted with rage, advancing towards the downed figure. This monster dared to lay a hand on his precious daughter. His first priority is his child. He rushes to her side, offering comfort and apology, understanding the terror she must have endured. Then, his eyes fall upon her altered finger. Concern etched on his face, he questions her about the chain, but words fail her. Instead, tears stream down her face as she sobs, "Mama, monsters took Mama." Meanwhile, the hooded figure struggles to his feet. To his horror, and theirs, his severed hand begins to regenerate. He's ready to resume his attack, his hunger now fixated on them both. Confusion washes over the monster as he watches the father calmly rummage through his bag, instructing his daughter to stand behind him with an air of utter tranquility. Bewilderment grips the creature. They're completely ignoring him, as if he doesn't even exist. The blatant disregard only fuels his rage. He charges, launching himself at the pair without a moment's hesitation. But before he can close the distance, Gomdal, with a casual flick of the wrist, sends a brick hurtling towards the monster's grotesque face. The brick connects with a sickening thud, but the assault is far from over. This absolute legend of a father already has another brick in hand, poised to utterly obliterate the monster's features. The monster charges again, and from the opposite side, Gomdal prepares to unleash another brick with lightning-fast precision. The brick flies, a blur of earthenware, but the monster, with a swipe of his hand, pulverizes it mid-flight. However, that was merely a feint, a distraction. Dozens of bricks, a veritable hail of masonry, are already upon him. He barely has time to react, let alone deflect them all. Bracing himself, he raises his arms to shield himself, taking the full brunt of the brick barrage head-on. But Gondal's fury is relentless. His brick barrage continues unabated, each impact more devastating than the last. With every throw, his strength seems to amplify, fueled by a burning determination to pulverize the monster, to reduce it to rubble. He will avenge the threat to his precious Chuck, his beloved Bach. Finally, the father's ammunition is depleted. The last brick is thrown. The monster seizes the opportunity, lashing out with its tentacles, ensnaring Gondal in their slimy grip. The poor father struggles, immobilized, helpless. A smug grin spreads across the hooded monster's face. Gondal is out of bricks. Victory is within its grasp. This will be easy. The tentacles tighten around Gondal's throat, choking the air from his lungs. Meanwhile, the monster revels in its triumph, savoring Gondal's desperate struggle for breath. But then, a chilling presence descends, a sudden shift in the air behind it. Before it can even register the danger, Hera strikes, With a swift, decisive motion, she severs the monster's vile hand. Beads of sweat erupt on the monster's bald head, a testament to its sudden, shocking terror. Panic sets in as the realization dawns upon him: he's been played. Meanwhile, Hira's countenance remains as menacing as ever, promising this treacherous creature utter and complete destruction. The monster, sensing the imminent danger, attempts a hasty retreat, but Hira, with relentless ferocity, gives chase, meeting his every attack with unwavering force. The monster lashes out with its tentacles, hoping to ensnare her, but Hira effortlessly slices through them as if they were mere thread. The father observes the spectacle, awestruck. He marvels at Hira's prowess, her ability to corner such a formidable beast with only an axe. And that's not all. He witnessed her single-handedly slaughter countless monsters along their journey, leaving him with a burning question. Where does she draw this seemingly endless strength? She defies the very definition of a woman. She is a force of nature, a veritable monster in her own right. As the hooded monster fights for its life, a memory surfaces in the father's mind. He recalls a moment shared with Dion, when another alien-like monster appeared, subjecting both him and Dion to a chilling interrogation on the fundamental differences between monsters and humans. Dion confidently asserts that monsters are driven by instinct and lack intelligence, while humans possess keen mind. The alien-like monster readily agrees, adding that humans are cunning and remarkably adaptable to their surroundings. However, he notes a crucial weakness: humans are inherently fragile. Monsters, on the other hand, possess brute strength but are intellectually limited, acting solely on instinct. Thus, each species exhibits distinct strengths and weaknesses, creating a delicate balance. The monster then boasts that he and those like Dion transcend these limitations. They are neither as weak as humans nor as mindless as common monsters. Instead, they embody the best of both worlds, possessing both human intellect and monstrous strength. Even other monsters, he claims, dare not challenge them. This, he declares, makes them the ultimate species, perfectly adapted to survive in this harsh and unforgiving world. According to his perspective, those belonging to their cannibalistic tribe are the chosen ones, destined for greatness. He urges Dion and the hooded bastard to embrace their heritage with pride and gratitude. Both concur, accepting his words without question. The hooded bastard even addresses the grotesque monster as father, revealing a familial connection. It dawns on the observer: this monstrous figure is the leader, the one to whom they intended to present Balksha. With a decisive command, the father orders his two companions to eliminate the dungeon master's child. He himself sets his sights on a more formidable foe, the dungeon master himself. Back in the present, the battle rages with unrelenting ferocity. Gondol's sharp eyes detect a sinister movement from the hooded figure, a cowardly attempt to strike from the shadows. He shouts a warning to Hira, alerting her to the impending danger. Trusting her honed instincts, the lady warrior ducks low, narrowly avoiding the treacherous attack. In a swift counteroffensive, she retaliates with a deep slash across the villain's belly, forcing him to stumble backward, momentarily stunned. But even after enduring such a devastating blow, the monstrous being remains unwavering in his confidence. He believes she cannot defeat him. Echoing his father's words, he proclaims himself the chosen one, destined for greatness, impervious to her attacks. He boasts that she is powerless to stop him. As his wounds miraculously heal, he delivers a chilling declaration: everyone present will meet their demise. With renewed vigor, he charges towards Hira, intent on fulfilling his grim prophecy. But Hira stands firm, unyielding in the face of his advance. She remains motionless, prepared to confront this formidable adversary head-on. A clash of wills inevitable. But before disaster can strike, the scene cuts abruptly to Monster Mama, who is unleashing a relentless assault upon Diane. Confusion washes over Diane as she notices the monster woman's piercing yellow eye, the same striking hue as her father's. But why this brutal attack? Why the sudden betrayal? And beyond the bewilderment, there's the sheer force of the onslaught. Dion learns this the hard way, as a single, devastating blow from Monster Mama sends blood trickling from Dion's mouth. But the pain ignites a fire within Dion. She steels herself, ready to face this formidable mama and discover the true extent of her power. She collapses, utterly spent, unable to continue. Mama, teetering on the precipice of exhaustion, has pushed herself beyond her limit. The one-eyed monster, a creature of pure malice, seizes Mama. With a cruel sneer, he lets her know, in no uncertain terms, that every sacrifice she's made, every ounce of strength she's poured into her family, every hidden reserve of power she might possess, amounts to nothing. It's all meaningless. He promises her an eternity of torment, vowing to drag her into the deepest depths of despair. His foul maw opens wide, poised to devour Mama whole. But just as his jaws are about to clamp down,
A sudden commotion draws everyone's gaze to Gambol. He holds the brat aloft, a tiny figure clutched in his massive hand. His voice, booming with the force of a thunderclap, rings out a stark warning to the monster. Release his wife, Gambol commands, or the child will pay the price. The child's life hangs in the balance. The yellow-eyed monster recognizes the brat as the dungeon master's offspring. But Gondol's intentions remain a baffling mystery. What could he possibly hope to achieve? Gondol's intentions are crystal clear now, his actions speaking volume. His voice rings with unwavering resolve as he declares he's holding the child hostage. If that monstrous creature wants his son to live, he'll release his wife this instant. But the monster scoffs, dismissing Gondol's threat as utterly meaningless. He's not the dungeon master, after all. Why should he care about some insignificant brat? But the one-eyed monster has gravely miscalculated. Suddenly, his finger twitches involuntarily as the child's screams intensify. The dungeon master, the child's mother, begins to wrest control of her own body. The one-eyed monster feels his grip on her slipping away, his power wane. Mother and child lock eyes, their gazes meeting in a moment of profound connection. In a flash, a torrent of memories floods their minds, transporting them back to the past. The mother is overwhelmed by the sheer force of her love for her child, a love she thought she'd lost. Tears stream down her face, a testament to the depth of her maternal bond. The yellow-eyed monster is utterly bewildered. He cannot comprehend this display of emotion. How could he possibly lose control, be defied by something as trivial as love? This insignificant, human emotion. The dungeon master's body begins to fight back, rejecting his control with every fiber of her being. He can feel it now, the raw, untamed power of a mother's love surging through her, fueled by the connection with her child. Mama's grip weakens, her fingers slipping from the precipice as she begins to fall. With a desperate surge of willpower, the one-eyed monstrosity wrenches control of her hand, lashing out with razor-sharp claws in a savage attempt to retaliate. But before the blow can land, Hira's hurled axe slams into the creature's hand with brutal force. The impact grants Mama a precious opening, a chance to strike back. She unleashes a ferocious counterattack, her blade carving a deep gash across the monster's body. The devastating blow cripples the creature, rendering it helpless. Gumball watches in awe, his heart swelling with pride as his wife achieves the seemingly impossible. Hira, too, is filled with amazement. Meanwhile, their little one, oblivious to the gravity of the situation, is utterly delighted, her eyes shining with excitement as she witnesses her mother's triumph. But Mama knows the battle is far from over. She presses her advantage, launching another attack. This time, her target is the yellow-eyed parasite, a malevolent presence clinging to the fallen monster. The parasite reacts swiftly, inflicting a painful wound on Mama's hand. But Mama is undeterred. The fight is not over yet. With a renewed surge of fury, she retaliates. Her venomous claws flash, poised to deliver a final, fatal blow to the wretched creature. But just as her attack is about to land, Diane bursts forth, interposing herself between her father and the deadly claw. Completely caught off guard, Mama is stunned. She hadn't anticipated this tenacious wretch surviving. Before she can react, a searing agony rips through her tentacles, a white-hot pain. The cost of her relentless assault becomes devastatingly clear. She has pushed herself too far. Overwhelmed by exhaustion, she begins to collapse, her body failing her. Victory, so tantalizingly close, slips from her grasp. She had been on the verge of triumph, of crushing her enemy beneath her heel. Yet, at the very precipice of success, she faltered. As she falls, the lifeless form of the dungeon master, no longer supported, begins to topple as well. With its host vanquished, the puppet master can no longer stand. Both bodies crash to the ground in a sickening thud, their battle concluded. Later, as the dust settles and silence descends, Gondal and his daughter cautiously approach, searching for Mom. To their utter astonishment, their absolute unit of a lady stands before them, seemingly unscathed. Mama stands motionless, her gaze fixed upon the lifeless form of the dungeon master. Frustration simmers within her. She'd missed the parasite. Yet, relief washes over her. The grueling battle is finally over. Or so it seemed, but a chilling realization dawns. The dungeon master lives, weakened, exhausted, but undeniably alive. He clings to life, his strength depleted. Seeing this, Mama seizes the opportunity. This is her chance to eliminate the dungeon master permanently, ensuring the safe acquisition of the vital supplies within this domain. Menacing claws inch closer, prepared to deliver the final, devastating blow. But just as she's about to strike, a small figure intervenes. The dungeon master's child, tears streaming down their face, stands between Mama and their fallen parent. The sight of their mother, helpless and near death, is unbearable. Mother and child, in a desperate attempt to connect, exchange fragmented words, their voices raw with pain and overflowing with love. All eyes are upon them, witnessing the heart-wrenching reunion between a mother and child. The child erupted into a torrent of tears, inconsolable and heartbroken. His cries echoed through the chamber. No,
I don't want mommy to die. Mama hesitated, her resolve wavering. Finally, she relented. For who could understand the profound bond between a mother and her child more deeply than she? But just as hope flickered, a twist of fate, just as it seemed she would let them go, Mama swiftly plunged her venomous needle into the dungeon master. The brat's world shattered. Devastated, he wailed, tears streaming down his face. Helpless, the poor child could only pound his tiny fists against Mama in anguish. Even the stoic Chuck Box appeared visibly disturbed by the heart-wrenching scene. His father, sensing his son's unease, offered words of comfort, assuring him, "There's nothing to fear, my son. Mommy is here to help." And Gumdoll's reassurance rang true. Mama's actions were not malicious, she was indeed trying to save the unconscious mother. The effects of Mama's injection were immediate. The dungeon master stirred, her eyes fluttering open. Awakening from her slumber, her first instinct was to call for her son. Overwhelmed with relief, the young boy burst into tears once more, his small arms outstretched as he rushed to embrace his mother, pouring all his love and longing into the reunion. A warmth blossoms in Mama's heart as she witnesses this tender scene. She recognizes that beneath the monstrous exterior, this fearsome creature is driven by the same primal love that she herself feels. Just another mother, fiercely devoted to her child, just like any other. Her own daughter's voice calls out, breaking the spell. Turning, she's instantly enveloped in a passionate hug from Chuck Box. Now, with everyone safe and sound, it's time for the daughter to return home. Quietly, they begin to slip away. Chuck Box offering a final, heartfelt wave goodbye to the little monster. The small creature reciprocates with an awkward yet endearing gesture of its own. Later, Dion walks beside her imposing father, hesitantly questioning why he didn't absorb the dungeon master. Her father offers a chilling reassurance, explaining that he's already drained sufficient nutrients from others. His gaze now fixates on Mama and her little girl, his ultimate goal, to reclaim his true body and achieve his final form. Then, he will no longer be reliant on absorbing power from others. He issues a chilling command to Dion, mobilize the cannibal tribe sibling. They are to bring him the mother and daughter. Later, we find our intrepid adventurers navigating the desolate, monster-infested street. Our party treads carefully, moving with stealth and purpose amidst the lurking creatures. Silence is paramount. Hira is injured, her movements labor. Crimson droplets, a stark testament to her wounds, stain her path. The scent of blood, tantalizing and irresistible, reaches the sensitive noses of the roaming monsters. A palpable wave of excitement, a predatory hunger, washes over them. But just as the tension reaches a fever pitch, our heroes slip through the entrance of their apartment building, finding sanctuary within its wall. A collective sigh of relief echoes through the group. Their home, safe from the perils of the outside world. Mama beams, her heart overflowing with relief at the sight of her returned companion. But Gomdoll's sharp eyes notice a glaring absence. Hira is missing. As panicked calls of her name fill the air, a chilling discovery is made. Hira lies unconscious in the apartment corridor. Alone in the dim light, she remains still. Finally, her eyelids flutter open. She's greeted by the sight of Chuck Box, her face etched with worry and fear. Overwhelmed with concern for Hira's well-being, the poor girl's anxiety takes over. In her distress, she fails to realize that her frantic ministrations are only exacerbating Hira's pain. With a surge of effort, Hira sits up. And then, her physique is incredibly imposing, muscles rippling beneath her skin. She bears little resemblance to a typical woman, save for her remarkably prominent asset. Just then, Mama peeks in from the doorway, observing the scene. Gomdall, overjoyed by Hira's awakening, gestures towards the steaming food, inviting her to join them. The noodles, freshly prepared, look absolutely delectable. Overcome with emotion, the large man's eyes well up with tears as he slurps down the savory noodles with gusto. He can't recall the last time he tasted something so incredibly delicious. Meanwhile, Mama sits silently, a palpable aura of annoyance surrounding her. She's likely irritated that everyone else can indulge in the feast, while she must remain fasting. As Hira prepares to eat, she realizes the clothes she's wearing aren't her own. Chuckbox quickly explains that they washed her clothes, and these belong to her mother. Hira finds the garments rather childish, a stark contrast to her usual attire. Meanwhile, Gomdall is completely captivated by Hira's impressive musculature. Having not noticed her powerful physique before, hidden beneath her jacket, he's equally taken aback by the sheer number of injuries she bears. He's certain now she's no ordinary woman. Her extraordinary combat skills from earlier no longer surprise him. It all makes sense now. Her prowess, her ferocity. As Chuckbox clings tightly to Hira, Hira's gaze falls upon Chuckbox's mutated finger. She notes the noticeably shorter nail. The change is subtle, yet undeniable. Her nail is definitely shorter, but she remains silent, continuing her meal without comment. The little girl, finished eating, scampers off to play. Once the child is out of earshot, Hera addresses the peculiar change. Her fingernail, it's shorter, she observed. Curiosity laces her voice. Did you clip it? Gondal quickly shakes his head. No, it's been like this since yesterday. He assures her they'll investigate further once they reach the village. A shadow of worry crosses his face. I fear the cannibal tribe may be hunting my wife and daughter. His voice drops to a low murmur. Even if we reach the village, safety is not guaranteed. His apprehension is palpable. He steels himself, preparing to ask Hera for a significant favor. I need your help, he begins. I implore you to accompany us to Hope Village. And of course, he subtly reminds her that her generosity will be handsomely rewarded, to the very best of their abilities. In return, they ask only one thing, her protection for him and Chukbok, until their safe return from Hope Village. Beaming, he offers her a second helping of the delicious meal. Seeing that she's devoured the first with gusto, she readily accepts, a mischievous glint in her eye as she agrees to accompany them. But her agreement is a clever ruse, a playful twist he hadn't anticipated. He'd expected a heartfelt acceptance, but instead, she sets him straight. Just because she aided them in the dungeon, doesn't suddenly make them comrades. They shouldn't get any ideas about a newfound friendship. She couldn't care less about their fate, whether they live or die. She won't lift a finger to help them directly. She'll travel with them, yes, but her protection extends only to Chukbok. As for the rest, well, they're on their own. Resigned, the large man finally agrees to look after himself, but his wife immediately protests. Incredulous, how can he possibly handle everything alone? The large man quickly reassures her, his voice a calming rumble. He's more than capable of taking care of himself, he insists, so she needn't worry. Mama then shifts her attention to Hera, her expression hardening. Annoyance flickers in her eyes, directed at the stubborn woman before her. She can't fathom Hera's inexplicable obsession with her daughter. It's as if Hera believes Chukbok is her own flesh and blood. Just then, a furious Chukbok storms into the scene, her little face a mask of indignation. No one bothered to look for her. Hera seizes the opportunity, readily agreeing to play with the pouting child. In an instant, Chukbok's anger melts away, replaced by a sunny smile. But just as peace seems to have been restored, Chukbok's mother scoops her up, attempting to pull her away from Hera. Hera, equally determined, refuses to yield. She grasps Chukbok's other hand, tugging her in the opposite direction. A playful tug-of-war ensues, each woman vying for the little one's attention. The rivalry between them is palpable, a silent battle of will. Yet, this unusual competition ultimately benefits Chukbok. It signifies the unwavering devotion of two powerful women, each determined to protect her at any cost. As the two women lock eyes, their sharp gazes could cut steel. The tension hangs heavy in the air. Oblivious to the silent battle raging beside him, the father blissfully slurps his noodle, secretly relieved that Hera has agreed to accompany them. Now, all that stands between them and their destination is finding a suitable vehicle for four. The scene shifts abruptly to a group of menacing bullies, hot on the heels of a young girl with bright yellow hair. Spotting a room ahead, she desperately ducks inside, seeking refuge. Panic sets in as she realizes her mistake. It's a restroom, a dead end. Trapped, with no escape route in sight, she hears the thugs burst through the door behind her. Cornered and terrified, she finds herself in a truly nightmarish predicament. But before her fate is revealed, we return to our intrepid adventurers. Their search for a working vehicle continues, each car inspected with growing frustration. 20 vehicles later, they're still stranded, their hopes dwindling. After so many failed attempts, their prospects look bleak. Gondal, at a loss for what to do next, feels the weight of their predicament. Just then, Hera's voice cuts through the despair, urging him onward, just keep moving. And with that, she resolutely sets forth. The towering figure beside her, a gentle giant named Gondal, cautions against such haste. It's dangerous out there, especially considering you haven't fully recovered, he finishes, concern etched on his face. But the lady's steely gaze brooks no argument. Inaction is not an option. Gondal, it seems, has met his match. He can hardly refute her unwavering determination. Or can he? A flicker of defiance crosses his features, but the moment passes. He abandons his attempt to dissuade her, resigning himself to her will. Very well, he concedes, but follow my lead, and stay close behind me, he adds, a note of warning in his voice. Hera, quick as a flash, steps forward and delivers a swift kick to his leg. Gondal winces, a sharp intake of breath betraying his pain. Her point made, Hera fixes him with a piercing stare. You stay back, she commands, her voice leaving no room for argument. As they journey onward, the throbbing pain in Gondal's leg serves as a constant reminder of Hera's strength. He's grateful for her protection, of course, but her brutal efficiency leaves him slightly unnerved. A disturbing thought creeps into his mind. Could she accidentally kill him before they even encounter any real danger? But for now, at least, they press on. Meanwhile, back at the apartment, mother and daughter are blissfully unaware of the perils ahead, lost in their own world. They laugh and play, patiently awaiting Gamdal's return with a vehicle. As they continue their trek, piercing screams suddenly shatter the silence, the cries of the young girl they encountered earlier. The harrowing sounds seem to emanate from a nearby apartment building. Gamdal instinctively glances towards the source of the scream, but Hera, her face a mask of fury, yanks him back. "Have you forgotten our mission?" she demands, her voice dripping with anger. Annoyance radiates from her. Why, she seethes internally, is this fool even considering helping someone else when he can barely take care of himself? Fixing him with an icy glare, she orders, "Focus on Chuckbok, or I'll go my own way." Despite his simmering anger, the large man summons the courage to speak. He just needs her to listen. "Just hear me out," he pleads. But Hera is on the verge of exploding, barely able to contain her rage. Meanwhile, the thugs have already bound the terrified girl with rope. The thought of striking her crosses their mind, but one of them, displaying a rare moment of cunning, intervenes. "Leave her unharmed. She might prove valuable, a bargaining chip to be traded for food." But a flicker of doubt arises from one of the monstrous figures. What if, he rasps, the villagers refuse to accept her? The question hangs heavy in the air. Undeterred, the most vile of the creatures insists on sticking to the original plan. "We'll snatch her," he snarls, "and abandon her somewhere remote." A sinister hope flickers in his eye. He secretly yearns for the village to reject the girl as payment, allowing him to keep her for his own perverse desire. But their wicked scheme is about to encounter a significant obstacle. Gamdal, a force to be reckoned with, crashes onto the scene, swiftly immobilizing two of the repulsive thugs. With brutal efficiency, he delivers a powerful kick to the very creature who dared to entertain thoughts of harming the innocent girl. Panic sets in. The remaining monsters scatter, fleeing for their lives. But their escape is short-lived. The fastest runner is met with a crushing blow, courtesy of Hera. Her voice rings out, sharp and commanding. "Hand over your supply." She stands firm, unwavering in her demand. Foolishly, the remaining monsters defy her order, making a grave mistake. With a roar, they charge towards Hera, their doom sealed, only to receive a resounding clap to their faces moments later. The girl, overwhelmed with relief, expresses her gratitude, tears welling in her eyes. "My name is Younghee," she introduces herself, her voice trembling slightly. The larger of the two returns the gesture, introducing himself and his companion, Hera. With introductions out of the way, he quickly returns to the matter at hand, reminding Younghee that he overheard her conversation earlier, and learned she hails from Hope Village. Younghee readily confirms this, and a broad smile spreads across the big guy's face. His decision to rescue her was undeniably the right one, having saved someone from the village. Getting Chuckbox the treatment he needs will be much easier. "We have some business in Hope Village," he revealed. Younghee's face lights up at the mention of Hope Village. "Strong people like you are always welcome in our village," she exclaimed. She continues, explaining that this was her first venture outside the village, a trip to promote its merit. Never did she imagine she would encounter such dependable and kind individuals. She's certain the village's principal and instructor will welcome them with open arms. The unexpected mention of the principal and instructor catches Gamdal completely off guard, and just then, at that precise moment, a sinister figure attempts a cowardly sneak attack, but the would-be assailant's efforts are thwarted in a flash by Hera's lightning-fast reflexes. The impending onslaught is stopped dead in its track. The newcomer's face contorts in fury. He's not just angry, he's absolutely livid. It seems he's mistaken our unsuspecting duo for enemy. He bellows a threat, demanding they hand over the Younghee immediately. But the aggressor's bluster is quickly deflated when He herself intervenes, silencing him and clarifying that they are her savior, not her enemies. She apologizes for lagging behind, admitting it was her fault that led to the misunderstanding. The big man's stern expression melts away, replaced by a relieved smile. All that matters is her safety. Relief washes over him. He wastes no time in offering a sincere apology to the duo. Gamdal is utterly bewildered, struggling to reconcile the friendly giant before him with the menacing figure who just moments ago threatened their lives. With that same menacing glare just moments ago, now oozing false charm. Gondal's sharp eyes catch a subtle detail, something amiss. The girl is trembling uncontrollably, her small body racked with shivers as she addresses her instructor. Sweat beads on her brow, she's shaking like a leaf in a storm. As her apologies continue to tumble out, the unsettling man places his large hand on her tiny shoulder, a predatory smile twisting his lip. He offers empty reassurances, his voice dripping with insincerity, warning her to stay close next time. The vile man's grip tightens, his fingers digging into her delicate shoulder. His warnings continue, each word a veiled threat. Finally, a whimper escapes the girl's lips. "It hurts," she murmured. Relief washes over her as Gomdal intervenes, his strong hand clamping down on the other man's wrist. Their eyes lock, a silent battle of wills raging in the intense gaze. The newcomer's aggressive stance speaks volume. The tension in the air crackles, a clear indication that violence is imminent. Hira's mind races, mentally dialing for emergency services, ready to confront the creep head-on. But as we all know, resorting to violence isn't always the solution. Choosing diplomacy over confrontation, our imposing figure opts for de-escalation. A broad smile spreads across his face as he extends a hand for a friendly handshake. In an instant, the palpable, killing intent that permeated the air melts away, replaced by the warmth of a joyous reunion between old friends. Gondal, ever the smooth operator, lays on the charm thick. He showers Young-hee with praise, claiming to have heard tales of Hope Village's magnificence. He gushes about her impassioned speech, declaring himself utterly captivated. Words, he insists, cannot adequately express the sheer brilliance of her performance. Not only did she promote the village with exceptional skill, but she also spoke of her esteemed instructor with the utmost reverence. Young-hee, fully aware of Gondal's blatant exaggeration, decides to play along. When her instructor turns to her for confirmation, questioning the veracity of Gondal's claim, she flashes a playful peace sign and nods her head with a mischievous grin. The gesture serves as unequivocal confirmation. The big guy's words are, indeed, gospel truth. For a fleeting moment, the imposing figure fixes her with an icy glare, but the coldness quickly melts away, replaced by a mirroring smile as he returns Gondal's friendly gesture and introduces himself as Sumin Beck, an instructor at the esteemed Hope Village. Now, with the conversation firmly under his control, Gondal wastes no time in asking Bike about the possibility of a family visit to Hope Village. The mention of family catches Bike off guard. He quickly inquires if Gondal is accompanied by others. Gondal, ever the opportunist, clarifies that he has a wife standing just behind him, and a daughter as well. His daughter, he explains, is ailing, and he seeks treatment for her within the village. Hira, upon hearing this scoundrel refer to her as his wife, fixes him with a withering glare that could melt steel. Gondal knows, with chilling certainty, that he's pushing his luck and his life expectancy. Meanwhile, Bike, ever the diplomat, confirms that Hope Village does indeed have a resident physician. He assures Gondal that the doctor will be able to examine his daughter. However, there is the matter of the entrance fee. But Gondal, ever prepared, has already anticipated this. After all, securing that payment was the very reason they endured that harrowing life-or-death ordeal. Within the dungeon's depths, Bike announces his departure. Burning with eagerness to deliver the news to the village first, he vows to reunite tomorrow, in front of this very building. With a final nod, he turns to leave. But just before vanishing into the shadows, the young man pauses, remembering to pay his respects to the formidable Gondal. In any case, the hunt has proven remarkably fruitful for Gondal and Hira. They are now tantalizingly close to achieving their goal, the chuckbox treatment. Gondal, brimming with happiness, turns towards Hira, but before he can utter a word, Hira unleashes a devastating kick to his leg. Gondal crumples to the ground, wincing in agony. Naturally, a sharp bitch escapes his lips, instinctively reacting to the searing pain. Hira's response is coolly delivered. Consider it a little love tap from your wife. As their playful banter continues, our scene shifts to instructor Beck and Young-hee, traversing a quiet, dimly lit corridor. Beck remains fixated on Gondal's incredible strength, the memory of that powerful grip lingering in his mind. He prides himself on his own considerable strength, considering himself among the elite. But a personal encounter with Gondal leaves him utterly awestruck. The man is clearly in a league of his own, possessing an extraordinary power. And his wife? She's no ordinary woman either. He's deeply impressed by her lightning-fast reflexes, the way she effortlessly dodged that attack. A sinister grin spreads across Bike's face. These two, he muses, possess talents that their village desperately needs. He cannot afford to lose them. He's certain that the village head will be overjoyed to meet such exceptional individuals. Anticipation bubbles within him. He can hardly wait for the dawn of a new day. Morning arrives, and we're greeted by the sight of Hera's exasperated face. Her frustration is palpable. That lumbering gorilla still hasn't finished packing. Meanwhile, the monster mother tenderly wraps her little girl's injured finger in fresh bandages. She ensures it remains completely covered, protected from the outside world. A deep longing to join them on their journey tugs at her heart, but alas, her monstrous nature forbids it. She tries to reason with her daughter, explaining the harsh reality. And finally, she manages to secure Bokchuk's permission to accompany them, albeit reluctantly. But Gondal swiftly interjects, a shadow of disapproval crossing his face. A wave of sadness washes over the monster mom once more, her hopes dashed. Even Gondal,
his heart softening at her distress, feels a pang of sympathy. He reaches out to comfort her, his voice gentle and reassuring. "We'll be back before you know it," he promises, his words laced with affection. "Just a little while, and we'll return." His wife's eyes, filled with a quiet longing, search his. "Promise me you'll come back," she whispered, without a moment's hesitation. The gentle giant gives his word, his voice firm and unwavering. He seals his promise with a tender kiss upon her head. A bittersweet melancholy momentarily envelopes the mother. If only she were normal. Free to explore the world, to embark on adventures with her beloved family. Lost in these wistful thoughts, she barely registers the final farewells exchanged between father and daughter. Even Hera, usually as stoic as a statue, offers a rare, genuine smile. And with that, they depart. As she watches them go, a deep longing swells within her heart, a yearning for the day she can live as a normal person, experiencing the simple joys of life, adventuring freely with her family. Left behind, abandoned in the cold reality of her situation, she finds herself alone in the dimly lit apartment. But amidst the despair, a spark of resolve ignites. She has a role to play, a purpose to fulfill. With newfound determination, she springs into action. Her intentions remain shrouded in mystery, but the urgency of her movements hints at a greater plan. One can only hope the answers will soon be revealed. Meanwhile, our intrepid trio finally boards the van provided by Instructor Bayan. Gondal, consumed by worry, questions the doctor's competence. Beck swiftly comes to the doctor's defense, offering a staunch reassurance. He declares the doctor to be one of the most indispensable individuals in their village, a testament to his skill. The reason for such high praise, however, remains unclear. Gondal, still plagued by uncertainty, clings to the hope that this desperate measure will save his precious little one. Back at the deserted apartment, the monster mother sheds her garments, standing naked in focused concentration. She can feel it, a grotesque presence writhing within her, the creature's tentacle, a parasitic invader. A chilling realization dawns upon her. This invasive appendage belongs to none other than the formidable leader of the cannibal tribe. His cryptic words now resonate with terrifying clarity, his desperate plea to have his body returned. Meanwhile, the leader of the cannibal tribe himself, with intense focus, he swiftly pinpoints their mother's location. Armed with this vital knowledge, he rallies his cannibalistic comrades, urging them to prepare for action. Dion takes the lead, spearheading the impending assault. Meanwhile, our intrepid adventurers arrive at the gates of Hope Village. As they approach their destination, Beck instructs the group to leave their luggage in the vehicle upon disembarking. He assures them that their belongings will be retrieved later. They'll be reunited with their possessions soon enough. Despite reaching the apparent safety of the village, Gondal remains vigilant, refusing to lower his guard. With a subtle gesture, he signals to Hera, urging her to stay close and act in unison. Hera, however, responds with an exasperated glance, clearly annoyed by his overbearing command. Turning to his companion, Gondal inquires if she recalls his earlier instruction. A brief silence hangs in the air before she answers. With a quick nod, she confirms her understanding. Launching into action, she seamlessly slips into her role, addressing Hera with an affectionate, "Mommy." Hera finds herself swept up in the charade, with no choice but to play along. A blush creeps across her cheeks, a touch of embarrassment warming her face. Yet, she perseveres, continuing to address Dion as sweetheart, pouring on the affection to sell the performance. Gondal, however, sees right through the act, her efforts transparent as glass. Despite her best intentions, the performance is undeniably lackluster. Finally, the car lurches to a halt. The van's back doors swing open, revealing a throng of villagers, eagerly gathered to greet the new arrival. Gondal, taken aback by the sheer number of people, turns to the instructor with a bewildered look, seeking an explanation. "It's just a tradition," the instructor reassures him calmly. The villagers are naturally curious about visitors. "It's nothing to be alarmed about. They're completely harmless," he adds, hoping to alleviate Gondal's apprehension. Despite the reassurances, a lingering unease remains etched on Gondal's face. Hera, on the other hand, appears visibly annoyed by the commotion. Stepping forward, the village elder extends a warm welcome. Hyung Jun Kim, he introduces himself, head of the village. "Welcome, everyone." His voice radiates genuine happiness at their arrival. As the villagers begin unloading the van, one struggles visibly with a bag that Gondal would normally heft with effortless ease. The subtle display of strength does not go unnoticed. A vibrant energy permeates the village, and even Gondal finds himself drawn to its welcoming, homely atmosphere. "Just another day in our village," the elder remarks with a gentle smile. He beams, expressing his heartfelt joy at seeing the visitors so at ease, a sight he confesses he's deeply longed for since the devastating apocalypse began. "This village," he explains,
is a testament to the unwavering hope and tireless labor of its inhabitant, built brick by brick over the past 5 arduous years. In the beginning, survival was paramount, a daily struggle that bred conflict and hardship. Clashes were commonplace, a grim reality of their desperate circumstances. Maintaining order amidst the chaos was a monumental task. Yet, with the passage of time, the villagers forged an unbreakable bond, becoming a family, a tightly knit community he now holds dear. Hira, however, remains unconvinced. A nagging suspicion lingers, a sense of unease about the man's sincerity. Abruptly, the old man steers the conversation towards Chuck and the urgent need for her medical attention. After a short walk, he gestures towards a building bearing a simple sign, hospital. He acknowledges its rather dilapidated exterior with a self-deprecating chuck, but assures them that the doctor within possesses skills bordering on the miraculous. Gondal expresses his sincere gratitude for the offered assistance, but the moment the old man departs, his words fading into the distance, Gondal leans in, voicing his own reservations in a hushed tone. A sense of unease settles over him, something feels inherently wrong. Hira shares the sentiment, detecting a palpable air of suspicion hanging heavy in the atmosphere. The most glaring anomaly is the complete lack of security. The entrance stands unguarded, a gaping invitation to any unwanted guest. No lights illuminate the night, offering no deterrent to lurking monsters. Furthermore, not a single villager seems to possess any form of weaponry. The village is utterly defenseless, vulnerable to any potential threat. This glaring vulnerability only amplifies their suspicion. For now, however, Hera prioritizes Chuckbox's well-being, focusing on her treatment. Without hesitation, they enter the dimly lit structure, this supposed sanctuary of healing, this so-called hospital. With each descending step, the path plunges further into darkness, leading them into a ward consumed by absolute blackness. It's almost inconceivable that anyone would deem it suitable to construct a hospital in the depths of a basement. As they navigate the oppressive darkness, Chuckbox stumbles abruptly, her foot catching on something unseen. She tumbles forward, a cry of pain escaping her lip. Through the pain, she realizes that the object she tripped over is no ordinary obstacle. Her gaze falls upon a faint, crimson glow emanating from beneath the cover. In a flash, primal survival instincts take over. The bandaged index finger on her tiny hand begins to throb with an unnatural energy, and the nail extends rapidly, transforming into a wickedly sharp, gleaming weapon. Driven by pure, unthinking instinct, she lashes out, piercing the spectral form beneath the blanket with her newly formed claw. Before the identity of the ghostly figure can be revealed, the scene abruptly shifts to a conversation unfolding outside the room. Instructor Bayek is engaged in a hushed discussion with an elderly man, the topic of their conversation, our intrepid trio. It becomes clear that the old man has orchestrated a test for the newcomer, a crucial prerequisite for participation in a mysterious event, known only as Food Day. A flicker of concern crosses Bayek's face. He voices his apprehension, questioning the consequences should the group refuse to participate, even if they successfully complete the test. The old man responds with chilling calmness. Should they refuse, they'll simply be disposed of, their skin harvested. A gruesome solution, but sufficient for his purposes. He issues a final, disturbing instruction. Bayek is to show exceptional kindness to the child, who accompanies the couple. A sinister undercurrent hangs heavy in the air. Their enigmatic founder has taken a peculiar interest in the young girl. The scene shifts abruptly back to Chuck's box. Her blood-curdling scream pierces the air, drawing the attention of both Gundal and Hera. A grotesque hand, belonging to the lurking figure beneath the blanket, snatches the poor girl's hand. The unsettling figure leans in, his voice a menacing whisper. "What in the hell do you think you're doing?" In the blink of an eye, Hera lunges, tackling the blanketed figure and pinning him to the ground. Dagger drawn, her eyes blazing with fury, she demands the trembling wretch reveal his identity. With a swift yank, she rips away the blanket, revealing a man paralyzed by terror, his face a mask of pure fear. Shaken to his core by the near-death experience, he stammers out a single word, "Doctor." Hera remains unconvinced. She eyes the pathetic figure skeptically, doubting his claim to be a medical professional. Moments later, Gondal steps forward, his head bowed low in apology. He attempts to smooth over the misunderstanding, but the doctor, still reeling from the shock, continues to berate the group for their reckless action. The sheer absurdity of the sight before him, a grown man, slumbering soundly with a childish pillow clutched tightly to his side, was completely unexpected. Gondal had certainly not anticipated encountering someone like this. The doctor, however, was far from amused. He was furious at the rude awakening and the blatant disrespect shown to his beloved pillow. He demanded an immediate apology from both Hera and the small child. The women, understandably, were hesitant to comply with this preposterous demand. The audacity of this man! He met their resistance with a condescending sneer. Hera, though seething with indignation, knew she was in no position to argue. Swallowing her pride, she forced out an apology. Her reluctance was palpable.
The forced apologies did little to appease the doctor's wounded ego. He curtly dismissed them, ordering them to leave at once. As he continued to usher them out, his gaze suddenly fixed on Chuck's finger. Something about it piqued his curiosity, immediately capturing his attention. Moments later, he was carefully examining her finger, his intrigue evident. After a meticulous examination, the doctor finally confesses, his voice laced with uncertainty, that he's baffled. He has no diagnosis. This admission, understandably, ignites Hera's fury. She lunges forward, seizing the doctor roughly by his coat, poised to slam him against the ground. The sheer intensity of her rage is enough to intimidate the seasoned physician. He stammeringly attempts to explain himself, his words tumbling out in a rush. Her symptoms, he insists, are incredibly rare, virtually unheard of. Such symptoms are typically observed in individuals who have suffered a monster bite, or those whose open wounds have been contaminated by monstrous blood. However, he points out a crucial detail: the girl bears no bite marks, no visible scars, no sign of external injury. He confesses that in all his years of practice, he has never encountered a case quite like this. For now, mercifully, the child appears physically healthy, but he cannot guarantee that this will remain the case. The future remains uncertain. All they can do is observe her closely, monitor her condition, and hope for the best. For the duration of their stay in the village, they must remain vigilant. Gondal then makes a solemn request. He implores the doctor to keep his daughter's condition a closely guarded secret. The doctor, a man of his word, wouldn't normally conceal something this serious, but intrigued by the rarity of the child's condition, he agrees to discretion. The little one's tiny hand rests atop her father's, a stark contrast in size. As she asks, her voice filled with innocent concern, "Are you worried about me, Pop? Is it really that bad?" Her father offers reassuring words, then steps outside, seeking a moment of respite, a breath of fresh air. As his daughter plays contentedly in the sand, he sits in contemplative silence. The weight of the unknown presses heavily upon him. He feels lost, with no answers, no clear path forward, and the arduous journey they've endured just to reach this point. He wrestles with the decision: should he burden the child's mother with this devastating news? Despair threatens to consume him, but then Hira rises, her voice firm. "Stay by your daughter's side. Even if this is the darkest hour," she reminds him. "Even if there's no escape, you must be her strength, her unwavering support. That," she declares, "is a parent's duty, their sacred promise." Finally, a spark ignites within the big guy. Something clicked. He sharply slaps himself across the face, a desperate attempt to break free from his stupor. Standing tall, radiating newfound confidence, she asks, "Do you have any idea?" With a sureness that belies his earlier confusion, the big guy responds, "We'll find our way. We just need to start digging." As the two engage in their determined discussion, our attention is drawn to Youngha, concealed behind a pillar, her face etched with anxiety. To understand her presence here, we briefly step back in time, to just moments earlier. The village chief, with a grave expression, instructs Youngha to keep a close watch on the family that arrived earlier today. Concerned for the safety of the village, the chief seeks assurance that they pose no threat. Their current visit to the doctor's office provides Youngha with an opportunity. She must find them there, and should she observe anything suspicious, she is to report back immediately. Obediently, she follows them to the doctor's office, and there, like an eavesdropper in the shadows, she too learns the shocking truth about Chuck's mutated finger. Now, in the present, she stands frozen, consumed by anxiety. Suddenly, a tap on her shoulder sends a jolt of terror through her. She whirls around, heart pounding, only to find her mother standing there, her brow furrowed in question. "What are you doing here?" she demands. Yankee stammers, offering a flimsy excuse about taking a walk. But her mother sees through the lie instantly, her gaze narrowing as she directly confronts Yankee about her surveillance of the family. Suspicion flares in the mother's eye. Had the principal put her daughter up to this? She wondered. Yankee's silence confirms her mother's suspicion. The silence hangs heavy in the air, thick with unspoken accusation. Her daughter's refusal to answer ignites a furious spark in the mother. She explodes, reminding Yankee, not for the first time, of her explicit warnings against blindly following the village head's every whim. Finally, Yankee snaps, her voice sharp with defiance. Everything she does, she insists, from promoting the village to venturing out this evening, are her own choices, her own decision. She demands that her mother stop placing blame on the principal for everything. "I belong here," she cries, reminding her mother of her connection to the village. One day, she declares with unwavering conviction, "I'll be someone important. You'll see." She's certain that, just as the principal bestowed a miracle upon her mother, she too will receive her own. Her words, instead of soothing, ignite a greater fury within her mother. With a resounding smack, she strikes her daughter across the head. The scolding continues, relentless and harsh. "That miracle you speak of," her mother spit, "is nothing like what you imagine.
Unable to endure the relentless barrage of blows and verbal abuse, the daughter breaks. Tears streaming down her face, she runs, as she flees into the distance. Her voice, choked with sobs, rings out, "I just want something to strive for. A purpose. Please, Mama," she begs, "let me have this. If Papa were here," she adds, a fresh wave of grief washing over her, "he'd be proud of me." That final remark shatters the last vestiges of her mother's control. Blind with rage, she seizes a handful of rocks and hurls them at her fleeing daughter. Consumed by fury at her daughter's defiant word, the young girl flees, leaving her distraught mother behind, her pleas for understanding falling on deaf ears. Frankly, this seemingly peaceful village is revealing itself to be a disturbingly twisted place. It's a breeding ground for the unhinged, a veritable haven for psychos. Later that evening, Gumdall is utterly bewildered by the lavish spread before him. The food is fit for royalty. He could never have envisioned, not even in his wildest dream, that he would ever experience such culinary extravagance. A bittersweet thought crosses the minds of both father and daughter. How much more perfect this moment would be if only Monster Mama were here to share in their unexpected feast. Meanwhile, Hira observes the scene, her annoyance palpable at the oblivious bliss radiating from the jackass, as she mentally labels him. To be so carefree in such a precarious situation, she reminds him sharply that this village is no place for chuckbox. It's far too dangerous. Even the village doctor remains baffled by the child's mysterious ailment. Hira harbors a dark secret, a chilling thought. She contemplates the unthinkable, eliminating Monster Mama. If that creature is the source of Chuckbox's suffering, she will not hesitate to act. Their quiet conversation is interrupted by the ever-enthusiastic principal, who insists on joining them at the table for after-dinner conversation. It's evident that young Chuckbox has indulged in a feast far exceeding her tiny stomach's capacity. She appears ready to burst at the seam. Gomdall marvels aloud, expressing his surprise at finding sausages in such a remote and unexpected place. The principal beams with pride, explaining that the local ranches and farms provide them with such delicacies. When Gomdall inquires about the availability of electricity, the principal admits their limited generator capacity. Power, he explains, is reserved only for essential needs, subtly shifting the topic. The principal steers the conversation towards Chuckbox's afflicted finger. Gomdall replies, explaining that the doctor requires more time to determine a suitable course of treatment. After carefully examining Chuckbox's finger, the principal casually proposes a late-night stroll outside the village. Gomdall expresses his hesitation, questioning the wisdom of wandering in the darkness of the night. The principal clarifies, explaining that weekly foraging expeditions outside the village are a necessity. Once a week, under the cloak of darkness, they venture out to gather sustenance. The village's burgeoning population demands it, requiring a substantial influx of supplies to sustain its inhabitants. Gomdall, however, remains perplexed. Why the perilous night? Why subject themselves to the lurking dangers of nocturnal monsters? The principal, with an air of serene composure, elucidates the reasoning. Their nocturnal expeditions are strategically timed for precisely that reason, the monster. Before Hira and Gomdall can succumb to misguided assumptions, the elder elaborates swiftly. Monsters, he explains, are creatures of the night, their activity peaking under the moon's watchful gaze. Under the cover of darkness, they abandon their lairs, embarking on their nightly hunt. While these fearsome creatures are thus occupied, the villagers seize the opportunity to infiltrate their deserted dens and procure vital provision. Hira, however, remains dubious. Is this a jest? A grim joke disguised as a strategy? Fixing the old man with a suspicious glare, she demands an explanation. Just how does he intend to navigate a gauntlet of ravenous monsters, and emerge unscathed? She's had enough of these cryptic pronouncements. She demands the truth, plain and unvarnished. Sensing her rising ire, Gomdall interjects, attempting to placate the elder with a hasty apology. I'm a bit sensitive, you know, she explains, attempting to soften the blow. But the principal remains unfazed by her sharp tone, adamantly insisting that his words were not meant in jest. What the hell? Gomdall thinks, incredulous. He, too, had assumed the old man was merely joking. A smug smirk spreads across the principal's face, confident in his ability to deceive them. He'll make them believers, he thinks. Once he reveals the miracle of Food's Day. Dawn breaks, and finding Chuckbox still engrossed in play, Gomdall returns to confront the matter. Do you actually believe that crazy old man? He asks. Gomdall confesses his uncertainty. The old coot could be spouting complete nonsense, he admits. But there's a sliver of hope that this could be Chuckbox's cure. If the old man's claims hold even a grain of truth, it's a chance they can't afford to ignore. Hira declares she's out. She wants no part in this. Gomdall isn't surprised by her refusal, especially given that she isn't a parent. Hira readily acknowledges this, pointing out that it's a depth of desperation only a parent could truly understand. Still, She offers him a warm smile and words of encouragement. Good luck, I'll be waiting for good news. The big guy, though slightly bewildered by her unwavering optimism, declares his unwavering loyalty to Chuck, vowing to do whatever it takes. As darkness descends, Gamdal finds himself consumed by a growing sense of dread. The weight of his foolish decision begins to crush him. Why, oh why, didn't I listen to Hero? The thought echoes relentlessly in his mind as he stands frozen, face to face with the unsettling figure of the ancient principal. A sudden, chilling laughter erupts from the old man's lips. Look around, Gondal, the old man commands, his voice laced with an unnerving mirth. Breathe in the crisp night air. Feel the gentle caress of the breeze upon your skin. Admire the moon's silvery glow bathing the world in its ethereal light. But Gondal is oblivious to the beauty surrounding him. Terror grips him. He and everyone around him tremble uncontrollably, sensing the presence of countless unseen monsters lurking in the shadows. Meanwhile, the instructor, the principal, and the robed woman remain unmoved, their faces betraying no hint of fear. The entire area is absolutely teeming with monsters, a nightmarish spectacle. But what truly chills Gamdal to the bone is the sight of the monsters encircling the individuals clad in crimson cloak, yet refraining from attacking. He notices children too, sheltered amongst those in the vibrant red robe, amplifying his unease. The perspective dramatically shifts, soaring to a wide aerial view, revealing the strategic positioning of the red-robed figure. They've formed a protective circle around the other villager, a living barrier against the monstrous horde. Gamdal is now certain the principal harbors a secret understanding of these creatures. Sometime later, the villagers descend into bickering, their voices rising in a cacophony of discontent as they squabble over the meager supplies they've managed to gather. Accusations fly. I grabbed it first, as they lay claim to the same paltry items, their desperation fueling the conflict. Amidst the chaotic squabbling, Instructor Back, his voice a low murmur, discreetly inquires of the principal, shall we commence? The old man nods, a knowing glint in his eye. Indeed, he replies, the moment is ripe. Let us begin. With a sinister smirk, the principal snaps his finger, declaring it's time to unveil a miracle. Observe, he commands. The very instant his fingers snap, the monstrous horde launches itself upon the unsuspecting villagers. A chilling scene unfolds as the monsters, clearly visible, grapple with and restrain the villagers, their grip tightening. Yet, strangely, there's no intent to kill. They hold back, their actions restrained. A bizarre, unsettling atmosphere pervades the scene, a meticulously orchestrated chaos. Panic erupts among the villagers, though for the old man, this despair is a familiar sight, a spectacle he's witnessed countless times, and he relishes it, now as much as ever. The familiar thrill courses through him. He delights in the pathetic helplessness of these humans, their vulnerability laid bare, their desperate pleas for mercy, their faces contorted with fear, strike him as both pathetic and, in a twisted way, strangely endearing. A flicker of disappointment crosses the old man's face. The instructor he chose, the one he handpicked, isn't reacting as expected. But then, Instructor Beck, with a voice filled with pride, boldly instructs his senior, watch the front lines closely. Intrigued, the principal shifts his gaze forward. His eyes widen, reflecting the sheer disbelief of the scene before him. Gamdal, single-handedly, is obliterating the monstrous horde, a whirlwind of destruction. He crushes them with the effortless ease of counting beads on an abacus, each creature falling before his mind. The tide of battle has turned dramatically. Now, it's the monsters who tremble, whimpering in fear, cowering before the overwhelming display of Gamdal's raw power. Gamdal, amidst the carnage, struggles to comprehend the sudden, unprovoked attack. Why this frenzied onslaught? And even more perplexing, the unsettling passivity of the red-robed figures, standing idly by, observers to the massacre. Their inaction fuels Gamdal's suspicion. A chilling thought takes root. Was this their plan all along? A carefully orchestrated ambush? He had always known the inherent danger of traversing this area under the cloak of night, but even he hadn't anticipated facing such an overwhelming number of adversaries. Suddenly, a monstrous form lunges, jaws agape, attempting to sink its teeth into Gamdal's hand. But with contemptuous ease, Gamdal seizes the creature, as if it were a mere sack of refuse, and hurls it away with a flick of his wrist. Yet, undeterred, more monsters surge forward, launching themselves at Gamdal from behind. Reacting with lightning speed, he executes a blur of motion, spinning with almost supersonic velocity. A devastating blow lands squarely on each of their heads, sending the overeager attackers sprawling to the ground. Witnessing this display of raw power, the principal is left utterly speechless. It's been ages since he's encountered someone so remarkably intriguing. Now, observing this breathtaking scene unfold, he finally understands the depth of Instructor Beck's immense respect for Gamdal. Gamdal, armed with nothing but his backpack, single-handedly pushes back the monstrous horde, achieving a feat that defies all expectations of a mere human. Yet, even with Gombal's extraordinary strength, his human limitations begin to show. The sheer number of monsters, their relentless assault, slowly takes its toll. Defeat seems inevitable. Just as the creatures close in, poised to tear him apart, the old man decides he must intervene, putting an end to this brutal spectacle. But before he can act, a sudden turn of events leaves him utterly stunned. The monsters swarming our formidable hero are obliterated in a blinding flash of power, annihilated in the blink of an eye. Gombal, flashlight in one hand, axe in the other, stands defiant. He's a whirlwind of destruction, laying waste to the monstrous horde. He manages to push them back momentarily, creating a brief respite, but the reprieve is short-lived. The injured monsters, their wounds rapidly closing, surge forward once more. His attacks, though powerful, have failed to strike their vital point. He's trapped, ensnared in a seemingly endless cycle of violence. If he can't stop their regenerative abilities, he's doomed. But Gombal refuses to yield. There has to be a way out, a solution. He closes his eyes, focusing his mind, searching for an answer. Hira's warning echoes in his memory, her voice urging him to reconsider following that treacherous old fool. Regret washes over him. He was a fool to ignore her wisdom. If only he possessed the overwhelming power of Chuckbox's mother, or the unmatched skill of Hira. He needs every ounce of strength, every bit of cunning, to protect his beloved daughter. But a bitter truth settles upon him. He's outmatched, hopelessly outclassed. This is a battle he cannot win. The monstrous forms close in, their menacing presence suffocating him. The unsettling figures beneath their crimson hoods remain silent observers, lurking in the shadow. Gombal, realizing the utter hopelessness of his situation, makes a desperate decision. He'll take the creepy old codger down with him, mustering every ounce of strength he possesses. He makes a frantic attempt to outrun and overpower the monstrous horde, but their sheer numbers prove overwhelming, and he's relentlessly pinned to the ground. As death's icy grip tightens around him, a vivid memory floods his mind. The solemn vow he made to Monster Mama echoes in his thought. He promised, no matter the circumstances, to always be there for her and her child. In exchange for his unwavering protection, he asked for her hand in marriage. And in that moment, Monster Mama agreed to become his wife. But now, lying defeated and helpless, a crushing wave of disappointment washes over him. He has failed. He can no longer protect them. Then, in a completely unexpected turn of events, the old man begins to clap, a slow, deliberate rhythm filling the air. As if responding to an unseen command, the monsters abruptly withdraw. They retreat as swiftly and silently as they arrived, vanishing into the darkness. Gombal and the villagers are left alive, spared from a gruesome fate, though physically unharmed. The sheer terror of the ordeal has etched itself deeply into their minds, leaving an indelible scar. The village elder, however, declares this a miracle, a testament to the divine protection bestowed upon Hope Village. By this miracle, every soul has been preserved, safe and sound. As the reality sinks in, they realize the truth of his words. They are unscathed, without a single bite mark or injury upon their body. The elder continues, his voice resonating with authority, painting a vivid picture of a fulfilling life in Hope Village. A future free from the constant threat of monsters, a future brimming with hope. No longer will they cower in fear, dreading the darkness. He promises them a life where dreams can take flight, where aspirations can be realized. Within the sanctuary of Hope Village, he vows to forge a brighter tomorrow, a future even more magnificent than they can imagine. All that is required is their unwavering trust in it. Unsurprisingly, tears stream down the faces of the newly recruited villagers, overcome with emotion. They willingly surrender their faith to the elder, placing their lives in his hand. They are ready to sacrifice everything for the sake of their new home, their new community. Meanwhile, the truth dawns on Gombal. He finally grasps the cunning scheme orchestrated by the old scoundrel. The manipulative old man has preyed on the villagers' fears, twisting them into blind trust. He has skillfully woven a web of fear, ensuring their unwavering loyalty. A chilling certainty grips Gombal. These seemingly simple villagers are incredibly dangerous. The scene shifts abruptly, plunging us back into the dimly lit depths of the underground ward. Chuckbox lies motionless in his bed, while the doctor remains sprawled beneath it, hidden in the shadow. The eccentric, arguably insane, doctor finds sleep elusive, tossing and turning restlessly. The weight of the sleeping ladies draped over him further complicates his quest for slumber. As the doctor's complaints continue to fill the air, Hira silences him with a single, chilling death glare. The unspoken threat is enough to humble the creepy doctor, effectively ending his whining. With the irritating noise finally quelled, both ladies relish the prospect of finally enjoying some undisturbed, peaceful sleep. We transition once more, this time to the apartment where Mama Monster resides. Night has fallen, and a sense of dread hangs heavy in the air. Mama Monster is certain that the cannibalistic tribe will inevitably come for her. She suspects they might even be utilizing the insidious tentacle planted within her. To pinpoint her lost memories, she focuses on the yellow-eyed fiend, recalling his desperate pleas for the return of his body. shrouded. Not only does that fateful day remain shrouded in darkness, but her entire past life is a gaping void, a complete blank. Lost in these troubling thoughts, a grotesque monster suddenly crashes through her apartment window, shattering the quiet contemplation. Mama reacts with lightning speed, leaping aside and unleashing a deadly counterattack, her blade a blur. Her eyes fix on the hairy monstrosity before her. A spark of recognition ignites within Mama. She's certain she encountered this creature in the depths of that dungeon. But how did it find her? How did it breach her defenses undetected? The questions gnaw at her. Her confusion deepens as the monster speaks, its voice a guttural rumble. The creature's first words confirm her worst fears. It knew exactly where to find her. And more than that, it seems deeply offended by her dismissive label of hairy monster. There's a chilling undercurrent to its next statement. It has long yearned for a confrontation with Mama, a one-on-one duel. It has waited for this moment. But Mama isn't interested in pleasantries or explanation. In a flash of brutal efficiency, she seizes the monster by the throat, lifting it bodily before slamming it into the ground with bone-jarring force. The sheer audacity of this monster, reading her thoughts, sends shivers of unease down Mama's spine. Her anxiety intensifies when the monster brazenly confirms, "Yes, I did read your thoughts, Mom." Mama, her voice sharp with suspicion, demands answers. "Are you from the cannibal tribe? Are you working with someone?" The hairy monster remains silent, offering no response. Instead, a menacing aura emanates from her as she prepares to strike. Left with no other option but to defend herself, Mama throws the monster off, sending the hairy creature scrambling. But Mama is relentless. Her needles fly once more, but to her dismay, the poisonous projectiles have little effect. A smug grin spreads across the monster's face. "I know everything about you, Mama." Mama's confusion deepens. Who is this creature? What does she want? Abruptly, the monster changes tack, casually mentioning, "Such a charming husband you have, Mama, and such an adorable daughter." She continues, her voice dripping with malice, "I hear your family went to the village with the axe woman." And as if to twist the knife further, the hairy monster reveals a chilling truth. "The cannibal tribe is looking for you too, Mama." Mama is utterly bewildered by the hairy monster's cryptic pronouncement. If this creature isn't a member of the cannibalistic tribe, then who, or what, could she possibly be? The hairy woman begins a swift, unsettling transformation. The thick mass of hair covering her body begins to writhe and tighten, constricting around her form. The transformation complete, she launches herself at Mama with ferocious speed. Mama is paralyzed with shock. As a horrifying realization dawns upon her, this monster bears an uncanny resemblance to her. But before witnessing the clash between these two titans, before Eren Yeager enters the fray, we journey into the depths of Mama's memory. She recounts a persistent unease, the chilling sensation of being watched, of eyes unseen upon her. Each time she turned to confront her observer, initially, she found nothing. Emptiness. Dismissing it as mere paranoia, the byproduct of exhaustion, she would soon discover the unsettling truth. There were times, countless times, when the icy grip of a relentless stare pierced her very being. Now, finally, the veil of mystery begins to lift, offering a glimmer of understanding to those enigmatic gazes. The monster lunges, violently ejecting Mama from the confines of the apartment. But with lightning reflexes, Mama retaliates, delivering a swift and brutal kick, sending the vile creature crashing to the earth below. Landing gracefully, Mama remains unscathed, safe and sound. Surely, plummeting from such a height must have been fatal, or so she thought. Her assumption is shattered as a grotesque hybrid, reminiscent of venom, rises, seemingly impervious to harm. Undeterred by the fall, it stands before her, a chilling testament to its resilience. Mama finds herself cornered, her arsenal of tricks depleted. Her paralyzing poison, once a reliable weapon, has proven ineffective. She even resorted to a desperate attempt to sever the monster's arm, but her efforts proved futile against this bizarre, seemingly invincible anomaly. Yet, Mama's spirit remained unbroken, refusing to surrender. She clung to the belief that there had to be a weakness, a way to overcome this hairy horror. But the monster, as if privy to Mama's every thought, delivered a chilling reminder. She had already exhausted every possible option. According to this creature, escape was an illusion. Defeat was inevitable. Mama was trapped, and as if to amplify the terror, the monster declared its ability to sense Mama's every emotion, to feel her fear. Panic began to constrict Mama's heart, a chilling premonition of her doom. And the creature, reveling in its power, felt it too. The fear, the despair. Overwhelmed, Mama bolted, fleeing the scene with a primal desperation. Escape was her only recourse. A deep, instinctive dread warned her of the immense danger this monster posed. But her flight was a futile gesture, a desperate gambit against fate. Before she could even reach a semblance of safety, the monstrous entity struck, its attack swift and brutal, piercing her from behind. "You cannot deny my existence any longer," the monster hissed, its voice dripping with malice. "Accept the truth. Face your demise." The monstrous creature continues its relentless assault, piercing poor Mama again and again. Each strike is delivered with savage brutality, showing no mercy. Crimson blood splatters as the creature's attacks tear through her flesh, ripping and rending. Finally, succumbing to the overwhelming onslaught, Mama collapses, her strength depleted by the devastating blood loss and horrific injury. Meanwhile, the enraged Mama photocopy seethes with fury. The real Mama's lack of attention is a stinging insult, a deep wound to her pride. All she craves is acceptance, a recognition of her existence. As Mama lies bleeding, the cold grip of death tightens around her. A fleeting kaleidoscope of cherished memories floods her consciousness. Teetering on the precipice of oblivion, her mind drifts back to that fateful day, the day her child was born. And in the ethereal realm of memory, a vision appears, her newborn babe, covered in hair, just like the monstrous creature attacking her. Suddenly, Mama jolts awake from the terrifying nightmare. Her body is drenched in a cold sweat, her heart pounding in her chest. But before she can catch her breath, before she can process the disturbing images, or untangle the chaotic threads of her dream, she finds herself surrounded, the menacing figures of the cannibal tribe looming over her. They have dragged her outside, into the open. Dion, fueled by rage, unleashes a ferocious punch aimed squarely at Mama's face. But in a display of spectacular misjudgment, it's Dion who suffers the consequences. A nasty gash opens up on her hand, courtesy of the razor-sharp fangs lining Mama's mouth. Enraged by the unexpected injury, Dion resorts to a brutal barrage of kicks. Just then, one of the cannibalistic tribesmen leeringly announces that Mama is precisely his type. And the fact that she has a child? Well, that just sweetens the deal. The implication is clear. Mama would never lower herself to be with such a vile, disgusting creature. With lightning speed, she delivers a devastating kick between his legs, sending waves of agonizing pain through his filthy being. Dion attempts to retaliate, but she's met with a swift and powerful kick of her own, sending her crashing into the wall with a sickening thud. Seizing the opportune moment, Mama sprints out of the den, her escape fueled by adrenaline. Dion is left seething, consumed by fury at their humiliating defeat. Furious, she whirls around, barking orders at Rin to pursue Mama. Get her! But the voluptuous Rin remains supremely confident. Escape? Impossible. No matter where they try to hide, she assures them, there's no escaping their grasp. After all, the tentacles embedded deep within Mama's chest act as a living track. Despite Mama's desperate attempts to outpace them, to break free, Dion closes in, unleashing a brutal blow that slams into Mama's back. But Dion's triumph is short-lived. She recoils in horror as she realizes her attack landed not on Mama, but on a mere, ordinary zombie. And in a swift retaliation, Mama inflicts a deep, nasty gash across Dion's back. The tables have turned. Enraged, the lecherous monster, still smarting from his earlier groin injury, lunges at Mama. But his attack proves equally futile. He too finds himself on the receiving end of a devastating counterattack, a massive cut across his belly. Next, the juggernaut-like monster enters the fray. His powerful punch sends Mama reeling backward. But with surprising agility, she recovers her footing, bracing herself for the next assault. Dion and her companions are clearly struggling, battered and bruised. But Rin, ever the loyal servant, is already working her magic, tending to their wound. Even Mama is taken aback by the unnatural speed at which her wounds are closing. It's a phenomenon she's never encountered before. Dion then shifts her focus to Mama's family, and with a cruel twist of the knife, claims to know their exact location, Hope Village. The sinister smile that spreads across Dion's face leaves no doubt about her wicked intentions towards Mama's loved one. The mere thought of this vile creature threatening her family sends Mama into a blinding rage. She lunges at Dion with unrestrained fury, but her reckless attack leaves her vulnerable. The lecherous brute seizes the opportunity, and with a single, monstrous punch, tears several holes into Mama's belly. Despite the excruciating pain, Mama struggles to her feet, lashing out with her tentacles in a desperate counterattack. But the depraved creature uses his own tentacle, like a pair of vice-like grips, ensnaring Mama tightly. He binds her completely, rendering her helpless. Dion, her repulsive face contorted in a smug grin, savors her victory. In a terrifying surge, the entire area is overrun by a swarm of grotesque monsters. A wave of satisfaction washes over Dion. Revenge, sweet and brutal, is finally within her grasp. She relishes the thought of tearing Mama limb from limb. But even as the words leave her lips, the monstrous horde descends upon Mama, their claws ripping at her flesh, tearing off her hand. Mama's agonizing screams fill the air as she endures unimaginable pain. Dion, the despicable wretch, revels in the horrific spectacle. A twisted idea takes root in Dion's mind, keeping Mama as a pet once her father has finished with her. But their cruel plans are about to be shattered. Their meticulously crafted scheme is about to unravel. A figure emerges from the shadows, approaching them with an ominous presence. Before anyone can react, Dion is struck down with brutal force, sent crashing to the ground in a heap. The single blow leaves her a bloody, broken mess. Her companions are frozen in shock. utterly stunned by the swift and devastating attack that felled Diane in an instant. Even the surrounding zombies tremble, gripped by a primal fear. The identity of this mysterious figure is no longer a mystery. Enter the dungeon master, accompanied by her mischievous child. The formidable mother arrives to stage another daring rescue and reunite with her daughter. Meanwhile, her son, true to form, is brimming with playful anticipation. Dion's team, facing this formidable opponent, is visibly unnerved. Beads of sweat form on their brows. Even Monster Mama is baffled by the dungeon master's unexpected appearance. Of all the possible times, why now? Already entangled with these bumbling thugs, she lacks the strength to confront the dungeon master. She's completely outmatched. It seems our mama hasn't grasped the crucial fact that the dungeon master is actually her ally. Mistaking her for a new threat, Mama braces herself for another fight. The lecherous monster nervously asks Rin for guidance, unsure of how to proceed. The same bewildered expression is mirrored on the faces of the other monsters. But Rin, summoning her courage, commands them not to panic. Their objective isn't to fight the dungeon master. Their sole focus is Mama, the bearer of a piece of their father's remains. For the sake of their father, she orders them to capture Mama. With a single, decisive command from Rin, the monsters surge towards Mama, intent on seizing her. Meanwhile, the insufferable brat whines to his mother, desperate for playtime. His mother, acknowledging his request, unleashes her colossal hands, swatting down the monsters that dare to approach Mama. The monstrous appendages wreak havoc, obliterating every zombie in their path. But Mama Rin, her face slick with sweat, notices a chilling pattern. The dungeon master's attacks seem focused solely on her family members. Even Mama is initially baffled. But the truth dawns on her as she catches the dungeon master's knowing smile. The cannibal tribe, sensing the imminent danger, braces themselves to confront the looming threat. Rin barks out the order to attack, but the lesser monsters, paralyzed by fear, break ranks and flee at the sight of those devastatingly powerful hands. Meanwhile, the elite members of the cannibal tribe charge headlong into the fray. Their attack met with brutal efficiency. The lecherous one's head is swiftly severed from his body. With a single, swift slash of her hand, Mama unleashes devastation. The juggernaut, witnessing his comrade's sudden demise, erupts in a frenzy of grief and rage. He throws himself into a furious assault, slamming his colossal hand down with terrifying speed. The ground beneath him shatters under the force of the blow. But Mama, anticipating his attack, has already vanished. She's a ghost, gone before the juggernaut's attack can connect. The behemoth frantically scans his surroundings, desperate to locate his elusive prey. He dares not strike blindly, knowing that his own kin could be caught in the devastating crossfire. But the colossal fool remains oblivious to the danger lurking right behind him. Mama stands silently, a predator poised to strike. The juggernaut's realization comes too late. Mama's poisonous touch takes hold, his flesh beginning to melt away. Before he can mount a defense, Mama prepares to deliver the final blow, her needle poised to pierce his skull. Sometime later, Dion stirs from unconsciousness. Her eyes flutter open, blurry and disoriented. She sees them then, both Mamas, looming over her. Terror washes over her, paralyzing her with fear. The horrifying truth dawns upon her. Her entire family has been butchered, reduced to nothing more than mincemeat. Surrounded by the grisly remains of her comrades, including the core members of the cannibalistic group, terror grips Dion as Monster Mama looms before her, a menacing figure radiating power. Mama demands answers, insisting Dion reveal everything she knows. Overwhelmed by panic, Dion spills the beans, divulging every juicy detail. Hope Village, she confesses, is their secondary hideout. And yes, she confirms with a trembling voice, she saw Mama's family there. The scene abruptly shifts to Hope Village, where the newly arrived villagers have returned, having successfully completed the rigorous test they were subjected to. As a result of this trial by fire, the villagers place unwavering faith in their enigmatic principle. Meanwhile, Gondal remains deeply disturbed by the unsettling realization that the monster, under the principal's control, possessed the ability to speak. He knows, with a heavy heart, that even if he were to confide in Hera, their options would be limited. Suddenly, a mysterious woman beckons him, her voice a low murmur as she informs him of a planned rendezvous at the hospital. True to her word, she appears at the hospital a short time later, where Hera awaits, seemingly prepared for a crucial conversation. After settling into her seat, she introduces herself as young Julie, mother of young Hei. She explains that her daughter has spoken highly of Gondal, piquing her interest. Gondal's gaze immediately falls upon the woman's missing right arm. She extends her left hand in greeting, offering a warm handshake. However, instead of reciprocating the gesture, Hera merely clicks her tongue dismissively, amplifying the already palpable awkwardness in the air. Undeterred, young Julie initiates the conversation, inquiring about Gamdal's opinion on the so-called miracle of food day. She asks if he was impressed by the spectacle. Gamdal is taken aback by the peculiar question, utterly bewildered. He certainly harbors no belief in miracle, much to his surprise. The woman expresses relief at his skepticism, openly dismissing the miracle as utter nonsense. She confesses to a lingering worry that he might have fallen under the sway of that old coup, the self-proclaimed principal. Finding a kindred spirit in Gamdal, she feels a sense of relief wash over her. Gamdal urges her to divulge everything she knows, every single detail, about the true nature of this place and the principal's sinister activity. She reveals the principal's modus operandi, a deceptively innocent smile used to lure unsuspecting victims into a gruesome fate, either becoming monstrous feasts or being transformed into monsters themselves. He's nothing more, she explains, than a bloodthirsty, decrepit old man responsible for the creation of the dreaded cannibal tribe. The mere mention of the cannibal tribe sends a shockwave through Gamdal. Even Hera recoils at the name, a palpable unease settling over her. Gamdal, seeking confirmation, asks incredulously, "Is this place truly run by the cannibal tribe?" Youngju calmly affirms his question. She explains that beneath the facade of an ordinary village lies a horrifying truth. This is a monster factory, a place where unspeakable horrors are manufactured. Hera's suspicions intensify. A nagging feeling of unease creeps over her. Why would Youngju, whom she'd only just met, divulge such sensitive secrets to complete strangers? She demands the unvarnished truth. Youngju, resolute, agrees to reveal everything she knows. And with a newfound determination, Hera declares her intention to leave tomorrow. The big man is taken aback. After all, no progress has been made on Bokchuk's treatment. Gamdal is reminded that they cannot linger. Their current predicament demands urgency. They're already in deep trouble before the treatment has even begun. She proposes a plan. Upon their departure, they will take the doctor as a valuable hostage. Furthermore, she intends to pilfer necessary medical supplies from the village. That's not all. Hera is consumed by a murderous rage, barely containing her desire to kill the woman on the spot. The poor woman gulps nervously, feeling the weight of Hera's intense, murderous glare. Gamdal attempts to quell Hera's fury, but the doctor, still shaken by Hera's killing intent, issues a sharp warning, "Watch your tongue." Even in sleep, the brute woman remains a formidable threat. He reminds them that, despite having every imaginable resource at their disposal in this well-equipped facility, curing Bokchuk is proving to be an exceptionally challenging task. He voices his uncertainty. Would returning the little girl home truly benefit her treatment? Youngju concurs, cautioning that if Hera acts impulsively, Chukbok might not receive the timely treatment she desperately needs. Her condition could deteriorate rapidly, potentially transforming Chukbok into a rather adorable little monster. While the prospect of becoming a cute monster might not seem entirely dreadful, it's most certainly not an outcome Hera would ever accept. Consumed by a sudden surge of anger, she violently grabs Yonghee by the throat. Both men attempt to reason with the enraged Hera, but her fury is unwavering. She demands answers. How did Youngju learn about Chukbok's illness? The knowledge was supposed to be confined to the doctor alone. Panicked, the doctor stammers, insisting Youngju can be trusted, but Hera remains unconvinced. A seething rage consumes her, a determination to eradicate any potential threat to their future. Her grip on Youngju's throat tightens, as she demands to know how the principal already knew about Chukbok's condition. Struggling to breathe, the poor woman manages to respond. The principal, she insists, is a dangerous man, relentlessly pursuing Chukbok. Escape is futile. Even if they flee this place, he will unleash relentless monsters upon them. Despite her desperate pleas, Hera's grip only tightens, a vice around Youngju's throat. Driven to the edge of despair, Youngju unleashes a blood-curdling scream, promising Hera anything, treatment, food, anything at all, in exchange for a single act of mercy. Her voice cracks with desperation as she begs, pleading with Hera to kill the old man and save her daughter's life. A heavy silence falls over the two men as they witness the mother's anguish. Even Hera falls silent, her rage momentarily suspended. Slowly, the fury recedes, the iron grip on Youngju's throat loosening. Finally, Hera releases her, the pressure lifted. Hera agrees to Youngju's desperate plea, but demands that Youngju uphold her end of the bargain. She extends a hand, a gesture of tentative trust, helping the shaken woman to her feet. Unseen, unheard, Chukbok has been awake throughout the ordeal, silently absorbing every word spoken by the adult. Later, Youngju is seen with the doctor. Youngju's neck throbs with pain, a constant reminder of her recent ordeal. Despite her incessant complaints, she can't seem to get enough attention, but the doctor assures her she's incredibly fortunate. A sore neck is a minor injury considering the circumstances. He then poses a serious question. Was that truly the right decision? He reminds her of the immense danger they face, tangling with the notorious cannibal tribe. Are you certain, he presses, that you won't regret this choice later? Furthermore, The doctor confesses his uncertainty about treating Chukbot. Without knowing the cause of her symptoms, a cure remains elusive. But Youngju appears unfazed by the doctor's concern. She has unwavering faith in the doctor's intelligence, confident he will find a solution. As for regrets, she harbors none. This decision, she firmly believes, is crucial for her daughter's future. She's convinced her father would have made the same sacrifice for her. This is also an opportunity for redemption, a chance to uncover the truth about this woman's past. To understand, we must journey back 3 years, trudging along desolate roads. She and her family journeyed together, bound by the threads of survival. Each step was a risk, a desperate gamble to find sustenance and evade the lurking monster. Their destination, a village whispered of in hushed tones, a haven her husband had spoken of, Hope Village. As they pressed onward, young Hai, the little girl, began to succumb to the gnawing pangs of hunger. Her father, his voice filled with a desperate reassurance, urged her to hold on, just a little longer. We're almost there, he promised. Then gestured towards her mother. A pillar of strength amidst the harsh realities of their journey, fighting to maintain her composure. Young Yu, her heart aching, considered the unthinkable, sacrificing herself to conserve precious supplies for her daughter. But against all odds, they reached Hope Village. It was a triumph born of her husband's unwavering belief. Minsugo, whose optimism had fueled her spirit and given her the courage to persevere. As the gates of Hope Village swung open, welcoming them into its embrace, they were greeted by the principal, his face beaming. A broad smile illuminated his features, as he extended a warm welcome to the weary traveler. And there, amidst the welcoming faces, the principal and the villagers alike. The villagers, radiating warmth and genuine joy, welcomed the newcomers with open arms. To young Ju, it felt surreal, like a dream. A stark contrast to the living nightmare they had endured in the outside world. The village was a haven of happiness and warmth, a poignant reminder of life before the apocalypse. Mama's worries melted away, replaced by a profound sense of relief. They had made it. Against all odds, they were safe. And for the first time in what felt like an eternity, a flicker of hope ignited within her. Overwhelmed with emotion, she wept uncontrollably that day. The thought of her family returning to a life of normalcy, of happiness. After settling into this sanctuary, it was almost too much to bear. Hope Village was a utopia, a place that seemed too good to be true. Young Hee, once frail and weak, blossomed into a healthy, vibrant child, strong enough to run and play with friends. Her husband found his purpose, becoming a leader, the voice of the village. Thanks to their family's unwavering spirit and the collective efforts of the villagers, Hope Village thrived. Mama, too, healed and found new strength, embracing the responsibility of caring for the new arrivals, guiding them through their transition into village life. The day the doctor first arrived at Hope Village, he found himself captivated by this peculiar place, yet a nagging sense of doubt lingered. The sight of her husband's affectionate embraces sparked an unexpected irritation within him, a feeling he couldn't quite explain. The source of this unease remained a mystery. The turning point for young Ju arrived with a witnessed miracle, orchestrated by the enigmatic principal. Initially, the principal's unorthodox method seemed to be the sole guarantor of her family's safety. She clung to the belief that the village offered sanctuary, a haven from the dangers lurking beyond its borders. The warmth and vibrancy of the community fostered a sense of security, a temporary respite from the horrors of the outside world. This illusion shattered one fateful day with her husband's return. His face, etched with fear and worry, spoke volumes. He delivered a chilling message. The village harbored a darkness far more sinister than she could have imagined. He had seen the monsters firsthand, and discovered a gruesome secret, the bodies of villagers who had dared to leave, concealed within the depths of the village basement. His plea was desperate. They had to pack their belongings and flee immediately, issuing a dire warning: comply, or risk becoming monsters themselves, condemned to the horrors of the basement. But Youngju stood firm, resolute in her refusal to leave. Even if escape were possible, she argued, the outside world offered no sanctuary. Danger and death lurked beyond the village walls, just as they did within. She couldn't bear to risk her daughter's life again, exposing her to the harsh realities of a cruel and unpredictable world. If hell awaited them, then they would face it together, here in the village. She would protect her family within these familiar walls, no matter the cost. Urging him to remain calm, she vowed to handle the situation herself. Convinced her husband was merely overreacting, she decided to confront the principal directly. She would reveal everything her husband had uncovered. The principal listened patiently, his demeanor calm. To Youngju's immense relief, he assured her there was nothing to fear. He even commended her bravery in coming forward. He emphasized trust as the bedrock of their village's strength, the very foundation upon which their community thrived. For a fleeting moment, a wave of reassurance washed over her. She allowed herself to believe in the principal's sincerity,
in the genuineness of his word. But that fragile relief shattered, replaced by a terror so profound it defied comprehension. Before her very eyes, her husband lay dead, his body brutally mutilated, a gruesome testament to unimaginable violence. Her own hand, severed, lay nearby. The horrific scene unfolded before her like a nightmare, leaving her paralyzed with shock. Her mind struggled to grasp the sheer horror of the situation, the devastating swiftness with which everything had unraveled. Was it her husband's impulsive decision to venture into the basement that sealed his fate? Or was it her own fault, her willful ignorance of the warning signs, the ominous whispers that she had so readily dismissed? Had she misplaced her trust, blindly believing in the wrong person? The principal's voice broke the silence, his tone strangely detached. He began to speak of cuckoos, their peculiar, parasitic habit. He described how cuckoo birds lay their eggs in the nests of other, unsuspecting birds, leaving the arduous task of raising their young to the unwitting foster parent. Upon hatching, the cuckoo chick, driven by instinct, ejects the rightful eggs from the nest, a ruthless act of self-preservation. This ensures that the cuckoo chick alone receives the undivided attention and nourishment it needs to survive. The chick thrives at the expense of its foster sibling. The devoted mother bird, blinded by love, diligently raises the cuckoo chick. Even as the cuckoo matures into adulthood, it remains a parasitic burden, selfishly dependent on its adoptive parent. Ultimately, it abandons the nest without a second thought, leaving behind only devastation and heartbreak. This inherent treachery was one of the many reasons the principal despised cuckoos. He reminded her that he had nurtured her with unwavering faith and trust, believing wholeheartedly that they were family. But the mere suggestion of betrayal, of someone acting like a cuckoo, ignited a furious rage within him. He became utterly consumed by anger, unable to comprehend the audacity of the rat who had violated his trust, who had betrayed their family. They no longer had a place in his village. They were outcast. That day brought unimaginable sorrow to the grieving mother, her tears flowing uncontrollably, a torrent of grief. Between choked sobs, she apologized profusely, vowing it would never happen again. She accepted full responsibility, claiming that her failure to convince her husband was the root cause. Desperate to appease him, she promised to do anything he asked of her, whether as his servant, his slave, anything at all. Desperate, she pleaded with the old man, begging him to spare her husband's life. But before the leader could respond, Instructor Bayek exploded, delivering a brutal kick to her face. Infuriated, he roared, "How dare you ask for our trust? You, who betrayed us without a second thought. I will not tolerate ungrateful vermin infesting our sanctuary." The elder intervened, calming the enraged Bayek. Acknowledging her honesty, her full confession of everything her husband had revealed, he offered a final chance. One last opportunity for redemption. But it came with a steep price. He tossed her a knife, his voice cold and hard. "Kill that cuckoo bird," he commanded. "Only then will you be welcomed back into our fold." Torn between loyalty and survival, the woman couldn't bring herself to murder her husband. Her refusal was met with the elder's chilling reminder of her daughter's fate. Young Ju, caught in the crossfire, became the ultimate bargaining chip. Left with no other choice, the woman steeled herself, preparing to take her husband's life with trembling hands. As she raised the dagger, her husband met her gaze one last time, his voice a whisper. "Do it." He leaned in, whispering words meant only for her ears, a secret pact sealed in darkness. Empowered by his insidious suggestion, she committed an unthinkable act. She took her own husband's life. Moments later, the manipulative old man embraced her, officially welcoming her into the village fold, a chilling reward for her heinous deed. The following day, the villagers assembled, their faces etched with grief, mourning the loss of one of their own. The old man, a master of deception, began to weave his web of lies. He painted a picture of heroism, telling the villager how the deceased had valiantly fought against a monstrous horde, sacrificing his life in a desperate attempt to protect them, while his wife lost her arm in the struggle. Thanks to their supposed sacrifice, he proclaimed, the village remains safe and secure. With crocodile tears streaming down his face, he expressed his profound sorrow and remorse, lamenting the tragic loss of a valued member of their community. Predictably, the villagers rallied around their deceitful leader, offering words of comfort and support. They insisted he bore no responsibility for the tragedy, absolving him of any blame. Truly, this manipulative old man was a master of his craft, a wolf in sheep's clothing, masterfully manipulating the crowd, swaying their opinions and reclaiming their trust and sympathy. The very man who had treated her husband with utter contempt, like a mere insect, now stood before her, offering hollow condolences with a bouquet of flowers. But the most repugnant person in that sea of faces was herself. She was the architect of this entire charade, the puppet
master pulling the strings of deceit. The mere memory of her husband's murder, a crime she orchestrated, sent waves of nausea through her, threatening to make her vomit. Her insatiable greed had effectively signed her husband's death warrant, and yet, she lacked the courage to end her own life. The crushing guilt, the thought of her daughter, Young-hee, who had clung to the principal like a lifeline since her father's death, stayed her hand. Forgiveness, even self-forgiveness, felt like an impossible feat. She would rather die. But she had a purpose, a duty to fulfill. If she remained passive, they would inevitably prey on her daughter as well. Young-hee would be condemned to a life of misery, a fate far worse than even her husband Minsu. In that moment, her resolve hardened into steel. A decision was made. No matter how long it took, no matter the cost, she would eliminate them all. She would protect Young-hee and avenge Minsu's death. She would pay any price, make any sacrifice. The flashback fades, and the scene shifts abruptly to the sterile white walls of a hospital room. After 28 grueling experiments, a breakthrough. The doctor has finally confirmed it. Chukbok is fundamentally different from the other monsters observed in the second experiment. He injected a lab rat with a blood sample taken from her mutated finger. The result? A terrifyingly rapid mutation in a mere 35 seconds. In stark contrast, a control rat injected with blood from a non-mutated area of her body showed no change whatsoever. Further tests, employing a variety of methods, failed to pinpoint the exact cause of her unique mutation. However, one crucial discovery emerged from the research: a peculiar membrane at the very edge of the mutated tissue. This membrane appeared to act as a barrier, preventing the virus from spreading to other parts of Chukbok's body. More research was urgently needed. Could Chukbok possess a gene capable of halting the infection's progress? Or could she be entirely immune? The questions lingered, unanswered. A sudden sneeze erupts from Chukbok, startling the deeply focused doctor. The doctor, lost in concentration, jumps in surprise. A glistening strand of snot dangles from the sweet girl's nose, and this time, she shattered her previous record for the longest, most impressive snot trail. A wave of discomfort washes over the doctor. He offers her a tissue, a subtle suggestion to address the situation. With innocent curiosity, the girl asks, "Am I going to turn into a monster?" She explains that she overheard him talking last night. Unsure how to provide comfort, the doctor fumbles for the right word. He tells her not to worry, though he admits it might not be easy. There must be a way, he assures, a solution to whatever was discussed. He emphasizes that she shouldn't dwell on last night's conversation. The doctor pauses, silently wondering if his words have provided sufficient reassurance. The prospect of her tears is less than appealing. To his surprise, the girl seems completely unfazed. Instead, a smile brightens her face. She's thrilled by the possibility of becoming strong. Just like her mother's monstrous transformation, she dreams of becoming a colossal monster herself, a formidable protector for her mother and father. The mere thought of possessing such strength, shielding her family and basking in the ensuing praise, fills her with a profound sense of pride. Yet, while she envisions herself as a magnificent superhero in her childish imagination, the doctor sees a different picture entirely. To him, she's but a mindless Chukbok, subconsciously yearning for her mommy and daddy, reaching out with tiny, monstrous hands to offer them food. Suddenly, the ward's gate creaks open, revealing Young-ji. "We're ready," she announces. Chukbok, her curiosity piqued, inquires about her parents and their destination. Youngju offers a gentle pat on the little one's head, reassuring her they'll return soon. "Want to play a game?" she asks Chukbok. "A hostage game," she adds with a sinister undertone. The scene shifts abruptly outdoors, where Young-hee is seen conversing with a friend. Her friend, curious, asks if she knows the principal's current whereabouts. Without hesitation, the young boy points towards the basement, suggesting he's likely in the newcomers' area downstairs. Descending into the dimly lit basement, we find the principal and Bayek, followed closely by our inquisitive duo. The old man, radiating warmth, greets them with effusive praise, expressing his delight at their decision to remain in the village. Dondal responds with equally enthusiastic gratitude, mirroring the old man's cordiality. Then, Dondal's curiosity piqued, he gestures towards their surroundings, remarking that he was completely unaware of this hidden space within the basement. The old man explains that it serves as a shelter, a safe haven in times of danger. Turning to the imposing figure of the big guy, the old man inquired, "Did Youngju visit the hospital to see you on your first day?" The big guy readily confirms this, his response immediate and affirmative. Pressing further, the old man poses another question. "What did she say to you?" The big guy replies that she spoke extensively, sharing her positive impressions of the village and speaking highly of its inhabitants. She attributed much of the credit for this positive environment to the principal himself for ensuring the smooth operation of the village. Just as Dondal concludes his fabricated tale, the old man emits a low chuckle, which quickly escalates into a full-blown, unsettling laughter. Hira, unnerved, inquires, "Why are you laughing?" The creepy old man, Beck, replies, "Gomdal's story, it's quite amusing. A clever fabrication." His tone shifts, becoming serious. "Now that you're supposedly family, such blatant lies are unacceptable." He leans forward, his eyes piercing. "You're lying through your teeth. There's no reason to keep you alive." Beck's words hang heavy in the air. "I'd prefer to keep you," the old man muses, a flicker of genuine interest in his eye. "You've proven yourselves valuable assets to the village." "But," he sighs, a hint of regret in his voice, "I must acknowledge the threat you pose. You don't belong here." "Can we leave then?" Hira asks, her voice trembling slightly. "Leaving isn't necessary," Beck replies smoothly. "There's another way to become true members of our family." He pauses, letting the implications sink in. "Become my family, in every sense of the word." He assures them a reunion with their daughter, making a solemn promise. The scene shifts abruptly to the outskirts of the village, where chaos reigns supreme. Panic grips the villagers, their faces etched with fear. Youngju, a figure of authority in her crimson robes, commands the other red-robed figure, forcefully subduing the frantic crowd. Her orders are simple and stark: if they value their lives, they must obey her and evacuate the village immediately. Youngju's daughter watches in stunned disbelief as her mother orchestrates this rebellion. We then discover that the old man, with unsettling foresight, had anticipated this uprising from the very beginning. He knew this rebellion was inevitable, fully aware of Youngju's meticulous planning. He had witnessed her persuasive tactics in the hospital, swaying the duo to her cause, and even her audacious plan to threaten his own family. He had observed her every move, her unwavering determination. Yet, he chose not to intervene, allowing her plan to unfold. For him, this rebellion presented a unique opportunity, a chance to identify the traitors within his ranks, those who had betrayed his trust. He would root out the disloyal, purging them from his myth. He envisions a chilling fate for them, a brutal extermination. Those deemed useful might be spared, forced into servitude as his new family. But the rest? They would become a gruesome feast for the monsters, their bodies sacrificed to his twisted ambition. He relishes the thought of the devastation etched on her face, the crushing despair, when she realizes her frantic efforts have been utterly in vain. Meanwhile, our valiant duo faces a horrifying adversary, a grotesque monster, with a nightmarish array of multiple tongues, forcing them into a desperate dance of evasion. Gomdal wields the weapon entrusted to them by Youngju, but the sheer size of the monstrous foe before them renders it almost insignificant. This weapon alone cannot bring down such a behemoth. Retreat is their only option. He urges Hera to fall back, but the woman is as stubborn as they come. Instead, she charges headfirst into the fray, her blade slicing through the monster's slimy, grasping tongue. They writhe and lash out, attempting to ensnare her, but she's too quick. Having severed the grotesque appendages, she sets her sights on the monster's head, preparing for the killing blow. The monster senses movement behind it, a blur of motion, but it's only Hera's scarf, fluttering in the air. The scarf was a clever ruse, a distraction. With blinding speed, Hera throws her jacket over the monster's face, blinding it, capitalizing on the monster's momentary disorientation. Hera swiftly brings her blade down, severing its head in a clean stroke. Despite successfully decapitating the creature, Hera's swing is slightly off the mark. The monster, finally freed from its constricting skin, makes its grand reveal, but the dramatic unveiling proves futile. The creature is instantly met with a crushing blow from Hera's axe, and she does so with effortless grace, not even breaking a sweat. Meanwhile, Youngju's rebellion is gaining momentum. To further intimidate the villagers, she injures the hapless doctor, sending a spray of blood across the room. Observing the scene, Chuck Box appears remarkably unfazed. Apparently, she'd been instructed to feign fear upon the doctor's injury. With a noticeable delay, she hastily affects a look of terror. Just then, one of the villagers confronts Youngju, his voice dripping with contempt. He expresses his disgust at her defiance against the principal, the very person who provided them all with a life of contentment. However, Youngju had already anticipated this criticism, steeling herself for the inevitable backlash. Her response is icy, her demeanor chilling. The villagers, initially poised for retaliation, falter. Their morale crumbles, weapons clattering to the ground. A wave of relief washes over the lady. Damage control is now possible. At least now, the immediate threat can be mitigated. The villagers can be escorted to safety, and the discarded weapons repurposed for defense. Sending those two with the principal was a stroke of genius. Without their intervention, the old man might have already slipped away unscathed, and the incensed crowd, fueled by righteous anger, could have erupted into a full-blown riot. However, a nagging doubt persists. Could that cunning old man have anticipated all of this? Youngju remains vigilant, refusing to lower her guard. Then, the unthinkable happens. Youngji bursts onto the scene, the little one cradled in her arms, a gun clutched in her hand. A deafening shot rings out as she fires into the air, commanding everyone's attention. The gun barrel swings around, now pointed directly at her mother. "Release the villagers," she commands, her voice unwavering. Her mother is not the only one stunned into silence. The villagers gasp in collective shock at the sight of young he wielding a firearm. It's a chilling realization. The principal has already poisoned the young girl's mind. He had planted the insidious lie, whispering to he that her own mother would lead a rebellion against the village, manipulating her into accepting the gun for this very purpose. As young he levels the weapon, her finger trembling on the trigger, her mother cautiously begins to approach. Frantic cries erupt from her companions, warning her of the imminent danger. "Don't go near her, it's too dangerous." But young Ju ignores their pleas, continuing her slow, deliberate advance, her voice a calming balm. "He, relax. It's all right." But young he, consumed by confusion and manipulated truth, is desperate for answers. A torrent of questions floods her mind. Her voice trembles as she confronts her mother. "Why would you take the villagers hostage?" she demands. "How could you hurt the doctor?" Young Ju reaches out, attempting to gently remove the gun from her daughter's grasp, but young he's mind, twisted and warped by the principal's insidious influence, clings to a horrifying belief: it should have been her mother who died, instead of aiming at her father. A wave of panic overwhelms the girl. In a moment of sheer terror and confusion, she swivels the barrel towards Chuckbox's head, unleashing a volley of bullets at the red-robed figure. She then breaks into a run, sprinting towards the basement gate, the conviction hardening within her that the principal is her only remaining family. She must obey his instructions. She must reach him. The scene shifts abruptly to Mama, where we find Dion, her face slick with sweat, held captive, forced to reveal the secret entrance to the village. Dion trembles, her anxiety palpable. The sight of her slain minions fills her with dread. But as her gaze falls upon Mama, she detects a flicker of exhaustion in her weary form. For a fleeting moment, a glimmer of hope ignites within Dion. Perhaps this is her chance to escape. But Mama, ever perceptive, reads Dion's intentions clearly. Her voice, sharp and accusatory, cuts through the tension. "What are you thinking?" Dion freezes, a shiver of fear crawling down her spine. Mama's words pierce her like daggers. Sensing the tension, she swiftly changes the subject. "Mama looks tired," she observes, "and we still have a bit of a walk ahead of us." Their conversation is abruptly cut short by a resounding thud that echoes through the air. All eyes turn towards the source of the commotion. Rin, astride her colossal pet monster, has arrived. A look of pure malice contorts Rin's face as she fixes Mama with a vengeful glare. Dion is overcome with a mixture of relief and bewilderment. Her sister, whom she believed to be dead, is very much alive. She had assumed Rin had already met her demise. Clearly, she was mistaken. Rin, foregoing any pleasantry, curtly orders Dion to get out of the way. "Unless," she warns, "you want to become collateral damage." With a sharp command, Rin unleashes her ferocious beast, Washuan, upon Mama. The monstrous creature lunges, a blur of teeth and fury. Dion, recognizing the imminent danger, flees for her life. Mama braces herself, steeling her nerves for the impending confrontation. But before the epic clash can unfold, the scene shifts abruptly back to young he, who is desperately running, Chuckbok clutched tightly in her arm, pursued relentlessly by her mother and the crimson-robed figure. The young girl hears her mother's urgent plea, "Don't go any deeper, it's too dangerous." But the daughter, defiant, unwavering, once again levels the barrel of her gun directly at her mother's heart. With chilling finality, she rejects the woman before her as her mother. Her sole desire is to erase this woman from her life entirely. She has a family already, the principal, the villagers, they are her true kin. Suddenly, little Chuckbok's voice cuts through the tense air, laced with clear annoyance. "You shouldn't be so mean to your mother," she scolds. A wave of genuine sympathy washes over Chuckbok for the distraught mother. How heartbreaking it must be to endure such cruel words from one's own child. Chuckbok's words penetrate the young girl's hardened facade. Her grip on the gun falters, her hands trembling. At that precise moment, her mother offers a heartfelt apology. Genuine remorse fills her voice as she laments her absence, her failure to be there when her daughter needed her most. She had believed she was acting in her daughter's best interest, but now, the painful truth is undeniable. She had been a terrible mother who seemingly cared so little for her. The mother attempts to reassure her daughter, explaining that the doctor incident was just a performance, a harmless spectacle with fake blood. She would never hurt her own flesh and blood, she insists. All she desires is her daughter's unwavering trust. Going even further, the mother claimed that her daughter's earlier cruel words about her dying didn't sting. But just this once, for the last time, she begs her daughter to believe in her, despite her evident flaws. To believe in this trash of a mother. Overwhelmed by a torrent of emotion, the young girl breaks down in tears. Finally, through her sobs, she apologizes for her harsh words. Just then, a monstrous figure descends from above, before anyone can react. It snatches both the young girl and the unfortunate Chuckbox. Seeing her daughter in mortal danger, the mother lunges forward, driven by a primal instinct to protect her child. But the monster, its prize secured, leaps away with terrifying speed. Consumed by a furious rage, the young girl, she immediately barks orders to her team, demanding backup. Fury consumes her. That devious old man orchestrated this entire charade, daring to kidnap her precious daughter. Meanwhile, as the monster drags the two girls away, Chuckbox witnesses a fierce battle unfolding around her. Her eyes widen in shock as she recognizes Hira and Gomdal amongst those bravely fighting the monstrous horde. She cries out to them, her voice filled with desperation. Both turn at the sound of her voice, and Hira's face pale, as she spots the monster clutching Chuckbox in its grasp. Hira explodes with righteous fury. With a single, swift slash, she dispatches the monster before her. But before she can reach Chuckbox, the monster carrying the young girl makes its escape. After a short, terrifying journey, the monster finally stops, releasing both girls. Just as young Chuckbox catches her breath, she hears the principal's voice addressing her. He praises her quick thinking in escaping the traitor, and bringing this other child to him. He acknowledges the ordeal must have been harrowing, but assures her that she performed admirably. The old man then makes a solemn vow, from this day forward, his family will be her protectors. With that promise declared, he turns his attention to Chuckbox, but as the repulsive man extends a hand towards Chuckbox, he abruptly freezes. He notices that Young still clings tightly to the child, refusing to let go. A flicker of annoyance mixes with curiosity as he questions her persistent grip. Why? For a moment, Young remains silent. Then, finally, she speaks. She confesses that she always found it peculiar how people who professed their love for the village would vanish without a trace, without a goodbye, or how others were abruptly expelled for supposed wrongdoing. That's the story the principal always told them. But now she understands the horrifying truth. She recounts how, during their harrowing journey with the monster, she recognized familiar faces amongst the monstrous horde below. Faces she had seen within the village itself. Faces that should have been friendly, but weren't. Those who had vanished from the village years ago. A horrifying realization dawns upon her. The monsters, they were the missing villagers, transformed into grotesque parodies of their former selves. He remembers how each missing person had been a vital member of the community, now twisted into mindless, monstrous beings. Just as the horrifying truth sinks in, Beck slams his foot down, a blatant attempt to intimidate her into silence. He's infuriated by her audacity, her questioning of the principal's authority. With a sneer, he questions if she's forgotten the kindness he showed her, the years he spent raising her. Fear grips her. She doesn't want to appear ungrateful for all she's been given. But the burning question remains, how could their loved ones be turned into monsters? Before she can voice her anguish, Bayek delivers a brutal kick to her stomach. The force of the blow sends her spiraling into unconsciousness. The large man looms over her limp form, his voice a menacing growl. Consider this a warning, he tells her. Continue speaking out of turn, and death will be her punishment. In that chilling moment, the old man intervenes, ordering instructor Bayek to compose himself. He then turns to Young, his voice devoid of any warmth or compassion. He condescends, reminding her that this concept might be too complex for her feeble little mind to grasp. But in this harsh reality, happiness is not a universal privilege. The world is a brutal dichotomy, divided between the powerful and the powerless, governed by the unforgiving law of the jungle. Survival is a game where anything goes. There are no rules. While the weak passively await their inevitable demise, the strong seize everything they desire, leaving nothing for the meek. The only path to survival for the weak is to seek the protection of the strong, just as he and his monstrous underlings have demonstrated. The old man smugly asserts that with age, young Balkshuk will eventually come to understand this fundamental truth. But before he can finish his condescending lecture, Balkshuk interrupts, with unwavering conviction. She labels him a bad old man. She dramatically rips the bandage from her infected finger, raising it high in the air like a tiny, accusing flag. People who make others cry are bad, she declared, and if they don't stop being mean to her, she'll tell her parents on every single one of them. Her impassioned, albeit miniature, speech captures the attention of everyone present. A wave of laughter erupts. Amused by the sight of such a tiny girl talking so boldly, the little one is not only annoyed by their mocking laughter, but Balkshuk is equally furious that they aren't taking her seriously. Taking a deep breath, she inflates her lung, her belly swelling visibly. Then, she unleashes an ear-splitting shriek, a desperate cry for her mommy and daddy. The old man chuckles at her valiant, yet futile, attempt. They find her charming and admirable. A tiny beacon of hope. In the face of overwhelming despair, her innocence is so profound that the old man savors the thought of personally tearing her limb from limb. As the monstrous old man draws close, genuine panic finally sets in for Balkshuk. Instinct takes over, and she bursts into tears, screaming for her mom. at the top of her lungs. This time, her desperate cries are not in vain. The old scoundrel found himself on the receiving end of a sudden and unexpected projectile. The projectile in question? Rin's head. Instinctively, Instructor Byack reached for his weapon, but before his fingers could even grasp the trigger, a whirling axe blade sliced through the air, cleaving his gun cleanly in two. Pandemonium erupted. Every monster in the vicinity went berserk, their minds buzzing with a single question. Who dared to commit such an act of defiance against their principal? The answer materialized before their very eyes, Mama, standing defiantly amidst the chaos. On the opposite side stood Hira, a mirror image of Mama's fury and astonishment. Together, the two women were an unstoppable force, their rage fueled by a single, shared purpose: vengeance for the harm inflicted upon their precious Balksha. United in their maternal fury, they unleashed a deafening roar, a chilling promise of death to all who stood against them. Meanwhile, Dion cowered in a secluded corner, her body trembling uncontrollably with fear. She remained in a state of shock, utterly bewildered by Mama's unexpected display of power. Not only was the pet Rin had brought utterly obliterated, but Rin herself had perished in the ensuing chaos, lost amidst the brutal carnage. The moment the monsters locked eyes with Mama's piercing yellow gaze, recognition dawned upon them with chilling clarity. This was the very female monster their father had relentlessly sought. Confusion gripped them. How had she breached their defenses? The entrance was supposed to be heavily guarded. Her presence could only mean one thing: she had slaughtered every single guard. Meanwhile, Chuckbox, oblivious to the tension, waves excitedly at her mama. Relief washes over Mama as she sees her daughter safe and unharmed. However, a gnawing worry for Gomdal persists. Simultaneously, Hira observes a disturbing transformation in Mama's monstrous form. 3 tendrils now writhe around her, and something unsettling is emerging from her tentacle. Something different. This chilling sight solidifies Hera's conviction. This woman poses a grave threat to Chuckbox. A sudden wave of unease washes over the principal. Something feels terribly wrong. Recognition dawns upon him. The yellow-eyed woman standing before him is the very monster his father? The founder of this institution had tirelessly sought. One of the monsters, hesitant and wary, inquires after the principal's well-being. But the principal's fury is palpable. He is far from all right. The humiliation of having Rin's severed head thrown at his feet burns deep within him. Straightening himself, the principal barks out a series of commands. Capture the yellow-eyed woman, he roars. She must be taken alive, at any cost. He then directs the remaining forces towards Hira. Kill him. Meanwhile, Young, paralyzed by a wave of terror, trembles uncontrollably. Chuckbox, we have to run, she cries, her voice frantic. Now, before it's too late, while we still have a chance. But Chuckbox, unwavering in her courage, refuses to flee. My mommies are strong, she declares, her voice filled with unwavering faith. They can handle this. She holds on to this belief with absolute certainty. Instructor Byack, leading a contingent of monsters, advances menacingly toward Hira. Simultaneously, another group charges towards Armama Young. Overwhelmed by sheer terror, Young terror grips the principal, a desperate yearning to flee consuming it. But Chuckbuck remains unperturbed, her faith in her mama's formidable strength unwavering, and her confidence is not misplaced. The monsters remain blissfully unaware of the impending doom, as Mama's tentacles begin their deadly dance. In a blink of an eye, a flurry of needles finds their mark, piercing flesh and chitin. Screams of agony erupt, a chorus of pain filling the air. As the potent venom coursing through the needles takes hold, Mama moves with terrifying grace, her tentacles a whirlwind of lethal precision, lashing out and stabbing with deadly accuracy. The monsters are utterly helpless, their bodies disintegrating into gruesome piles of flesh and blood. The principal is paralyzed with fear, his eyes wide with disbelief. She's obliterating them, reducing them to nothing, with seemingly effortless ease. Meanwhile, one of the monsters unleashes a torrent of bullets towards Hira, but with blinding speed, Hira zips and weaves through the deadly projectile, leaving her attackers utterly bewildered and disoriented. Their confusion is short-lived, as one of them meets a brutal end, his head cleaved in two by a swift axe blow. With a sudden burst of motion, Hira materializes directly in front of Instructor Baya. In a swift, decisive strike, she eliminates the monster lurking at Bayek's right shoulder. Then, with lightning-fast reflexes, she turns her attention to Bayek himself, inflicting a deep wound across his chest. Meanwhile, Chuckbox races towards her mama, launching herself into a fierce, heartfelt hug. The little one, her voice filled with unwavering confidence and pride, declares that she didn't shed a single tear while they were separated. Overcome with emotion, the proud mama bursts into tears. Mother and daughter weep openly, the depth of their love and longing pouring out in a torrent of tears. Witnessing this poignant reunion, Zhang is consumed by a wave of self-recrimination. Memories of her harsh words and disrespectful behavior towards her own mother flood her mind. She's tormented by the realization of her cruelty, unable to comprehend her past action, overwhelmed by remorse. She breaks down, sobbing uncontrollably as she begs her mother for forgiveness. Meanwhile, the old coot is losing his composure. Panicked by the realization that all his monstrous allies have been vanquished, he's the next lamb to the slaughter. With Hira looming ominously behind him, having dispatched Instructor Beck, Hira radiates a chilling aura of death, reducing the old man to a trembling, sweat-drenched mess. In a desperate plea for salvation, he bellows for the founder, his voice a raw scream tearing through the air. But as Hira raises her axe to silence him permanently, her motion abruptly freezes. A grotesque monster erupts from the old man's mouth, demanding to know why it was summoned. A wave of unease washes over Hira as she realizes this repulsive old man harbored a monster within him all along. Founder or not, Hira wastes no time. With a swift, decisive swing, she brings her axe down upon the monstrous creature. But as expected, this monster is no ordinary foe. It effortlessly catches the axe with its bare hands, its strength undeniable. Retaliating swiftly, it sprouts sharp projectiles from its hand, launching them at Hira with deadly accuracy. Hira leaps back, narrowly avoiding the attack. Meanwhile, the old man finally expels the founder from his mouth, a wretched cough accompanying its emergence. The monstrous figure quickly recognizes Mama and Chukbok as the very targets his father has been relentlessly pursuing. A thrill courses through him, a predator's delight, as he realizes his prey stands directly before him, ripe for the taking. The old man stammers, attempting to apologize for summoning the founder so abruptly, but his words are cut short in a gruesome display of power. The founder silences the pathetic old fool by slicing off his ear in one swift motion. The monstrous being continues its horrifying transformation, growing larger, sharp, deadly projectiles erupting from its back. In a sudden, violent explosion, the creature launches the projectiles across the chamber. Hira reacts instantly, throwing himself over Young-hee to shield her from the onslaught. Mama, with unwavering protective instincts, shields Chukbok from harm. The projectiles impact with devastating force, shattering everything in their path. It becomes horrifyingly clear that the creature's true target was the lighting fixtures on the ceiling. Plunged into darkness, the chamber is enveloped in an oppressive blackness. Only the area surrounding Mama and Chukbok remains dimly illuminated. While Chukbok struggles to regain his bearings after the attack, Mama's sharp eyes detect something amiss, and instinctively lashes out with her tentacles in retaliation. But a wave of relief washes over her as she recognizes Hira and another human girl. In the nick of time, Hira manages to seize the deadly tentacle before it can pierce Young-hee. Suddenly, ominous voices reverberate through the chamber, sending chills down their spine. Both mamas instantly go on high alert, their bodies tensed for battle. They stand back to back, vigilantly scanning their surroundings for any sign of danger. Mama is plagued by doubt. Can she possibly fight while simultaneously protecting Chukbok? Hira proposes a daring plan: make a desperate run for the exit. Get the children to safety, first and foremost. Once the children are safely in Gamdal's care, she can return to confront the monstrous threat. But before they can act, a sneaky attack pierces Mama's flesh, gripping the enemy's tentacle with all her might, preventing its advance. She commands Hira, take the children and run. Now, the monster retaliates with ferocious intensity. Hira, knowing there's no time to waste, sprints out of the chamber. Young-hee close behind, Chukbok cradled securely in her arms. They leave Mama behind, bravely facing the colossal monster alone, a harbinger of imminent danger. Panic grips Chukbok as she witnesses her mother's perilous predicament. But amidst the chaos, Hira's sharp eyes notice something even more alarming. Instructor Bayak is no longer on the ground. The chilling implication is undeniable. The vile creature is still alive. Worse, he's right behind her. Before Hira can even react, he unleashes a whirlwind of slashes, leaving her with barely a moment to defend herself. Terror consumes both girls. Overwhelmed by fear, Young turns and flees. But Chukbok, her voice filled with defiance, screams at Hira to put her down. She's no coward. The despicable Bayak wastes no time. With a series of swift, expertly executed maneuvers, he pins Hira to the ground. A mocking smirk plays on his lips as he asks, have you ever heard of the formidable martial arts of the Philippines? He boasts of his mastery of these techniques, honed during his time as a police officer in the island. He admits to being impressed by her earlier display of speed and unique fighting style. But now, with the tables turned, he taunts her, what will you do now to escape this predicament? Meanwhile, as Young-hee sprints away, Chukbok clutched tightly in her arm. The creepy old man intercepts her path, effectively blocking her escape. But before he can lay a hand on her, Young-hee's mother appearing seemingly out of thin air, fells the old man with a single, resounding blow to the head. Furious, she unleashes a torrent of angry words upon the downed assailant, berating him for daring to threaten her child. Overcome with emotion, he bursts into tears, relief washing over her as she witnesses her mother's heroic intervention. Tossing the weapon aside, the mother engulfs her daughter in a fierce, protective embrace. Not wasting a precious moment, Young-hee, uttering apologies and fervent promises to forever banish harsh words from her vocabulary. Meanwhile, poor Chuckbox, trapped in the vice-like grip of this passionate mother-daughter embrace, is being squished to a pulp, caught between two overwhelming forces of love. Just then, Gomdal arrives, flanked by a retinue of crimson-robed figures. Panic floods Chuckbox's voice as she cries out, alerting everyone to her mother's dire predicament. Moments later, a sickening cacophony of sounds assaults their ears, the brutal banging, the heavy thudding of impacts, and the chilling splatter of blood echoing from the distance. The source of this horrifying symphony? None other than poor Mama. That monstrous villain has pierced her mercilessly, leaving gaping holes riddling her body. Chuckbox's jaw drops in abject horror, while even the crimson-robed figures stand frozen, awestruck by the gruesome sight of monster Mama. Instantly, they raise their weapons, intent on ending her reign of terror. But before they can unleash their fury, Gomdal interjects. With a roar that echoes through the chamber, he proclaims her his wife. Gomdal rushes to his wife's side, gently lifting her broken body into his arms, but his escape is cut short. Suddenly, the monstrous figure materializes directly behind him. Gomdal freezes, paralyzed by fear at the sheer immensity of the creature. Chuckbox, with a tiny finger pointed accusingly at the behemoth, shrieks, "Bad monster!" Her small voice rings out, identifying the source of danger. As Gomdal turns and flees for his life, the other red-robed figures unleash a furious volley of bullets. Each shot finds its mark, striking the monster with pinpoint accuracy. But the creature remains utterly unfazed, an impenetrable, bulletproof beast seemingly impervious to harm. Not only does the monster shrug off the attack, but it swiftly launches a brutal counteroffensive. With terrifying speed, a tentacle lashes out, impaling one of the robed men straight through the stomach. The others desperately try to dislodge the tentacle, but they are too late. The monster mercilessly drains every last drop of blood from the unfortunate victim, leaving him a pale, unconscious husk on the ground. The monster savors the taste of its freshly acquired meal, its bloodlust now fully awakened. Insatiable, the monster lashes out with its tentacles, targeting the remaining robed figure. One by one, they are pierced and drained of life, each victim succumbing to a gruesome fate. Their lifeless husks litter the ground, a testament to the monster's terrifying power. With no more sustenance to be found, the monster unleashes a chilling roar, a bone-rattling threat that echoes through the chamber. It demands the immediate surrender of Mama and Chuckbox. Compliance, it promises, will be rewarded with a miracle unlike any they've ever witnessed. Panic grips the hidden onlookers, driven by desperation. One of the robed women seizes little Chuckbox and thrusts the child towards the monstrous being. Desperate to appease the creature, she vows to capture Mama as well, pleading with the monster to honor its promise and spare the townspeople's lives. She reminds it of its past benevolence, but the monster scoffs at the notion of mercy. It sees no value in these insignificant humans. With a brutal display of power, it plunges its hand into the woman's belly, its rage fueled by the destruction of the community they once cherished. All of this devastation, wrought by their insatiable greed, it reminds them of the prosperity it once bestowed upon them. Shelter, food, everything they could possibly need, all squandered. He believes himself the ultimate arbiter of life and death, deciding the fate of the livestock he has reared. A palpable fear grips everyone present, uncertain how to confront this terrifying monstrosity. Meanwhile, Mama lies battered and bruised on the ground, her body bearing the marks of a brutal assault. But a steely resolve hardens her gaze. She knows, with absolute certainty, that within minutes, she will destroy the creature on the other side. Hira continues to wage a fierce battle against the vile creature, their struggle punctuated by a brief exchange of words before they clash once more. The fight rages on, each blow carrying the weight of their fury. Monster Mama, recovered and reinvigorated, springs back into action. With a burst of speed, she scoops up Chuckbox, launching her away from the monstrous threat. The god doll, with remarkable agility, intercepts Chuckbox mid-air, ensuring her safety. Now, with Chuckbox out of danger, Mama turns her full attention to the monster before her. A volley of poison needles erupts from her fingertips, aimed at the monstrous figure. Undeterred, the monster absorbs the attack head-on, boastfully declaring his imperviousness to pain. His body, he claims, is devoid of senses, rendering him immune to suffering. To him, it's a futile exercise, a meaningless waste of energy. But Mama sets him straight, vowing that this monster will not escape the eternal torment that awaits. The monster retaliates with a furious lash of its tentacle, landing a devastating blow that leaves Mama grievously wounded. Meanwhile, Hira and that despicable brute are still locked in a desperate struggle. Judging by the ferocious exchange, the enemy appears to have gained the upper hand in this brutal confrontation as well. Elsewhere, the remaining villagers unleash a volley of gunfire upon the monstrous creature, but their efforts prove futile, the bullets seemingly having no effect. The beast appears utterly impervious to harm, an unstoppable force of nature. Youngju, however, refuses to accept a life where her family is treated as expendable, mere fodder for the monstrous enemy. She yearns for a village where her daughter can grow up in safety and peace, free from the constant threat of monstrous attacks. The monster, upon hearing this heartfelt plea, merely coughs in disdain. Mama elevates her attack, unleashing a new level of ferocity. After peppering the monster with a relentless volley of poison needle, she readies herself for the final, decisive strike. But before witnessing the culmination of Mama's battle, Hira decides she's had enough of her own opponent's game. Patience exhausted, she prepares to end this petty squabble once and for all. In a stunning display of raw power, Hira delivers a resounding slap across the creature's face, leaving him momentarily blinded and disoriented. Capitalizing on his momentary weakness, she snatches the very weapon he wielded against her, and unleashes a furious torrent of blows upon it. The monstrous creature feels a sickening cracking sensation spreading throughout his body. Unbeknownst to him, Mama's relentless assault had been meticulously chipping away at his defenses from the start. Realization dawns, he's in grave danger. Panic sets in, and he turns tail, fleeing for his life. Desperate to put distance between himself and his formidable adversary, he runs with all his might. Meanwhile, Hira has triumphed over her adversary. Both Balk and the monstrous creature roar in disbelief, each unleashing their full power before the captive audience. But in a stunning display of strength and skill, both women overpower their opponent. Mama pierces the vile creature with her tentacle, while Hira delivers a resounding final slap across Bayak's face, knocking him unconscious, seemingly for good. However, Mama's opponent is far from finished. Despite taking a searing hot drill straight to its chest, it remains stubbornly alive. With astonishing speed, it retaliates, forcing Mama to momentarily retreat. The monster undergoes a grotesque transformation, morphing into a pulsating ball of razor-sharp spike, but Mama is undeterred. She charges her hand, forming a poisonous spear, dripping with venom. With a single, decisive thrust, she obliterates the beast, exploding it like a ripe watermelon. Later, the battlefield is a gruesome sight. Red-robed figures and monstrous corpses lie scattered across the ground, silent and still. The treacherous old man, against all odds, still clings to life. Cowering behind a vehicle, he gnashes his teeth in bitter resentment, his mind consumed by thoughts of his unwavering devotion to this village, and the cruel betrayal he has received in return. He provided food, shelter, alike, and this is how they repay his sacrifices? Lost in his bitter ruminations, he's jolted back to reality by a sharp smack on his backside, courtesy of little Chuckbot. Whirling around, he finds himself face to face with Gomdal and Chuckbot. Later, the survivors of the massacre gather around the disgraced old man. As he pathetically begs for his life, he insists that everything he did was for the good of the village, a desperate plea for understanding. His words might have found purchase with some, but they fall on deaf ears where Young-ju and her daughter are concerned. With unwavering resolve, Young-ju raises her gun, aiming directly at the old man's head. A single shot rings out, piercing his skull, ensuring his swift descent into hell. It's finally over. Overcome with exhaustion, Young-ju collapses. She had avenged her husband's death, and a profound sense of relief and satisfaction washed over her in the aftermath. In the span of just a few days, the village underwent a dramatic transformation. The bodies of the principal and the monstrous creatures were respectfully disposed of, and a somber memorial service was held to honor the victim. A collective decision was made to seal off all access points to the basement, posting guards to maintain a vigilant watch. However, a new problem emerged, casting a shadow over the village. Instructor Bayak's body was nowhere to be found. If he were still alive, the consequences could be dire. Who knew what havoc he might wreak? Once the horrifying truth about the village's dark secret was revealed, panic ensued. Villagers gathered their belongings and fled in droves. The doctor watched their exodus with growing frustration. They should have stayed, united in the face of adversity, supporting one another. Instead, they chose the path of fear and desertion. Sometime later, within the sterile walls of the hospital, the doctor prepared to administer antibiotics to Hira, inserting a syringe into her muscle. The young woman protested vehemently, recoiling from the sting of the needle. She refused the injection, claiming it hurt too much. The irony was almost comical. She would rather bear the permanent marks of battle. Despite her bravado, a tremor of fear runs through her at the thought of the impending injection. She quickly exits the ward, the doctor's call for the next patient echoing behind her. In the wake of the chaos, a temporary vaccine had been developed, a crucial breakthrough in halting the spread of infection amongst the wounded. Its temporary nature, however,
necessitated regular injection. And, like any treatment, it came with its share of side effects. But those were minor inconveniences compared to the alternative. The survival of the villagers was a testament to the courage of the monster mama and her extraordinary daughter. The doctor had been utterly astonished to discover that Bokchuk's mother was, in fact, a monster, and their unique DNA had proven invaluable to the research. Meanwhile, Youngju was slowly recovering from surgery. All that remained was for her to awake. The doctor was confident that the sight of the liberated village would bring her immense joy. He envisioned tears of relief streaming down her face as she reunited with her daughter in their newly freed home. He prayed for her swift recovery. But even as the doctor recounted the tales of others, he carried a heavy burden of his own. It's a conundrum that continues to elude him, a puzzle he can't quite piece together. The perplexing connection between Chuckbox and her monstrous mother is driving him to the brink of madness. His research has yielded utterly baffling results, defying all expectation. The scene abruptly shifts, transporting us to a past event unfolding in a desolate, monster-infested wasteland, a realm ruled by creatures of nightmare. A gargantuan, mutated monster lumbers through the debris, its senses keenly following the tantalizing scent of fresh human blood. The Crimson Trail leads the behemoth directly to Instructor Baya, who stands battered and bruised, his body a testament to a brutal encounter. He finds himself trapped in a living nightmare. Not only is his weapon pathetically inadequate, but he's facing a monstrous adversary of immense power and ferocity. To exacerbate his dire situation, he's bleeding profusely, the intoxicating aroma of his blood further inflaming the monster's hunger. Suddenly, a powerful blow strikes the monster's head, staggering the beast. The savior emerges from the shadows, the yellow-eyed enigma, the figure revered by all as their father. Without hesitation, he demands answer, seeking every crucial detail regarding the recent event. Within minutes, Beck, filled with shame, recounts the tragic fall of the village to the yellow-eyed man. He explains how everything crumbled after the deaths of the principal and the founder, having brought disgrace and ruin upon his father's legacy. Beck believes he's unworthy of being called a son. Yet, gratitude lingers for his father's act of bestowing life upon them all, when all hope seemed lost. Despite failing to protect the precious village, entrusted to them by their father, Beck pleads for power, the same power wielded by his other family member. He yearns for revenge against those who have wronged them. Acknowledging the foolishness of his request, a sliver of hope remains that it might be granted. The one-eyed man turns to Beck and swiftly extinguishes his light. In his eyes, Beck is nothing but worthless, disposable trash. Having eliminated the power-hungry fool, the yellow-eyed man releases a heavy sigh. Regret washes over him for entrusting the responsibility of Hope Village to such incompetent individual. He has lost so much, and now finds himself forced to rebuild from the ashes once more. His primary concern now is Mama, whose power has grown exponentially. He can't afford to waste any more time here. The words are barely out of his mouth when a figure lurking behind the stairwell catches his attention. The figure argues against sending more family members, believing it would lead to needless sacrifices. Rushing headlong into this is a fool's errand, the one-eyed man retorts sharply, declaring that he's already devised a plan. This time, he will go himself. But the voice from the shadows reminds him of the immense danger. The risks are too high. The father insists he has no other option, though a glimmer of hope remains. He places his faith in his son, Jack, to provide assistance. Finally, Jack emerges from the shadows, vowing to do everything in his power to aid his father. A bitter thought crosses the one-eyed man's mind. If only he were whole, if only he had his complete body, nothing would be beyond his reach. His mind is suddenly flooded with memories of the past. The agonizing moment his body was ripped asunder, torn apart during his ill-fated attack on the pregnant mom. It was the day he lost everything. But the key to reclaiming his physical form, to his resurrection, lies within her child. Chuck Bach, uniquely unaffected by the blinding light, the one-eyed monster is convinced she possesses the core, the very essence he needs. If he could only get his hands on her, his plan would be halfway to fruition. Driven by this singular obsession, capturing Chuck Bach becomes his paramount objective. 2 months have passed since tragedy struck the village. Now, a semblance of normalcy has returned. A sense of optimism pervades the air. We find Chuck Bach, looking utterly adorable in her new clothes. Her parents, their eyes brimming with emotion, beam with pride. The little girl plants a sweet kiss on her mother's cheek, while her father playfully steals a kiss of his own. With a skip in her step, Chuck Bach sets off for school. Later, we find her grappling with her study, her brow furrowed in concentration, until a triumphant smile breaks through as she finally lands on the correct answer. Her teacher rewards her effort with an encouraging pat on the head. However, things aren't quite as rosy for young Ju, who finds herself on the receiving end of a stern scolding. A heated exchange ensues between Ju and the teacher, who also happens to be her mother. Meanwhile,
Little Chuckbot quietly and diligently solves every problem on her own, a picture of focused concentration. Impressed by Chuckbot's dedication and progress, the teacher decides to dismiss the class for the day. Both girls eagerly head outside, seeking a breath of fresh air. Young Ju, however, adamantly refuses to join them, preferring to remain indoors. Left to their own devices, the two girls revel in their newfound freedom, their laughter echoing through the air as they engage in playful antics. During their games, Chuckbot inadvertently stumbles upon a group of villagers. Their faces contort with annoyance at her intrusion. Recognizing her as the offspring of a monster, they curtly order her to leave. Whispers follow her like shadows, rumors of her strange finger, the one concealed beneath the bandages she wears. Their faces contort with condescending, utterly contemptuous sneers. As if she were the most repulsive, loathsome creature to ever walk the earth. Overwhelmed by terror, the poor girl flees, escaping the suffocating judgment. The two witches, consumed by their own cruelty, continue their mocking laughter, but their cruel amusement is abruptly silenced as Hira appears. In an instant, the loudmouths who moments before spewed their venomous words are struck with fear. They scramble to greet Hira, feigning innocence and respect. But Hira sees through their charade. She won't let them off so easily. With a sharp command, she orders them to the ground. One can only hope this serves as a much-needed lesson in humility. Meanwhile, as dawn approaches, we find poor Chuckbot sitting alone in the village, lost in a quiet sorrow. Her father approaches, his concern evident in his eyes. "What troubles you, my child?" he asks gently. "I just want to go home," Chuckbot whispers, her voice heavy with longing. Her father's expression turns somber. "It's not safe yet, my dear. Those monstrous creatures know where we live. Going back now would put us in grave danger." Chuck acknowledges her father's words, but adds with a wisdom beyond her years, "Monsters may be scary, but the people who hurt mommy are even worse. Some people here are kind," she continues, "but others, they can be just as cruel." With unwavering conviction, she declares, "Mommy is a good person. I know it. She's warm and kind, and she loves us so much. But when people say mean things about her," her voice quivered. It hurts my feelings." Her father nods, his gaze filled with understanding. He gently reassures her, "There's always a way to make things better, Chuck. People fear what they don't understand," he explains wisely. "If we can show them who your mother truly is, they'll stop being afraid. They might even love her." Later that night, as Mama prepares to venture out, gathering supply and food for the villagers, she's met with a mixture of reaction. Some acknowledge her selfless efforts with gratitude, while others remain stubbornly hostile, their hearts hardened by the unshakable belief that she is nothing but a monster. Yet, amidst the sea of criticism, a beacon of hope emerges. A few kind souls bravely step forward, offering their unwavering support, demonstrating their unwavering faith in her. Despite this outpouring of support, a wave of anxiety washes over Mom. The harsh words, the cruel judgments, they sting. But just as her worries begin to consume her, a familiar voice rings out, clear and strong. Her daughter, her beloved Balkchuk, proudly proclaims to all that her mama is the kindest person in the world, always showering her with love and affection. And Gondal? He wastes no time in expressing his own deep admiration for Mama, showering her with praise. Overwhelmed by the unexpected outpouring of affection, Mama blushes crimson, suddenly the center of attention. It seems Bokchuk's charm is working its magic. A palpable shift occurs. The mood in the crowd transforms. Smiles bloom, hearts lighten, and a sense of positivity fills the air. Meanwhile, far from this heartwarming scene, Hira finds herself embroiled in a confrontation with those two loudmouthed girls. Determined to teach them a much-needed lesson in manners, the scene shifts abruptly, introducing us to a formidable couple who have just vanquished a monstrous foe, obliterating its head in a shower of gore. Victorious, they set their sights on Hope Village. Rumors of the yellow-eyed monster lurking within the village have reached their ears, and the man burns with a fierce desire to slay the beast with his own two hands. We return to Chuckbot, who is beaming with pride as she displays her new teddy bear, lovingly crafted and stuffed by her mom and dad. It's a special token of their affection, a reward for her exemplary behavior. Hera, however, remains unimpressed. With her characteristic bluntness, she declares the toy rather unappealing, boastfully claiming she could fashion a far superior creation. Unfazed by Hera's critique, Chuckbot reveals that her beloved bear is still nameless. Turning to Hera, she asks for suggestion. Hera, ever the straightforward one, pauses in thought for a moment. Finally, she proposes a name, Soa, explaining that the name signifies beauty and prosperity. The name Soa triggers a memory within Balkchuk. She recalls a time when Hira, while hovering in and out of consciousness, subconsciously murmured the very same name, Soa. Balkchuk, her face beaming, declares her fondness for the name, and vows to cherish the toy. Hira reveals the name holds deep personal significance for her, but before Balkchuk can inquire further about its origin, young Ju bursts into the room.
excitedly announcing the arrival of newcomers to the village. She urgently explains that her mother is in grave danger and desperately needs their help. The scene abruptly shifts to the heart of the village, where a throng of villagers has gathered outside, their attention riveted on the loud commotion emanating from the office. The imposing figure from earlier beams with pride as he observes young Ju working diligently, displaying remarkable independence despite her physical limitations. Young Ju attempts to express her gratitude, but her words are lost in a fit of coughing as she speaks too loudly. Just then, Hira enters, and young Ju eagerly introduces the newly arrived couple. This imposing figure is Chunbi, and due to his hearing impairment, young Ju must shout to ensure he understands. The young girl by his side is his daughter, Yujung. For a fleeting moment, they appeared to be a couple, but clearly, a mistaken assumption. With a flourish, young Ju proudly introduces Hera as their ultimate weapon, and beside her stands Chuckbox, an undeniably adorable little one. Hera notices Eugene's gaze fixed upon her, filled with an inexplicable contempt. Perplexed by the persistent stare, and the undisguised disdain it carried, Hera decides to meet Eugene's challenge, intensifying her own gaze. The intensity proves too much for Eugene, who quickly averts her eyes, a blush creeping onto her cheek. Meanwhile, Chunbi, captivated by the quiet child, eagerly opens his notebook to jot down her name. However, his poor hearing leads him to write Chubby. Chuckbox cheerfully corrects him. It's Chuckbox. The misunderstanding continues as Chunbi mishears again, inquiring, Chow Chow. Patient but persistent, Chuckbox corrects him once more. Yet, the well-meaning but hard-of-hearing Chunbi settles on Chuckle. Exasperation etched on her face, Chuckbox is now thoroughly annoyed. Convinced the old man is deliberately provoking her, she jabs a finger at him and states emphatically, it's Chuckbox. The large man abruptly grabs Chuckbox's hand, a gesture that immediately prompts Hera to seize him by the collar. Fury radiates from her, he has clearly overstepped his bound. The large man stammers out an apology, his face flushed. Driven by curiosity and tales of Chuckbox's discolored finger, he explains his amazement and the urge to see for himself. Then, a question arises. Hesitantly, he inquires about the presence of a yellow-eyed monster. The direction of this conversation is all too predictable. Hera's response is a chilling glare that speaks volume. Young Ju interjects, her voice cutting through the tension. Stop it, both of you, she commands. There's a child present. You need to calm down. Leaning closer to the man, she whispers in his ear. What exactly do you plan to do if you find this monster? Before he can formulate a response, Gomble bursts onto the scene, shattering the awkward silence. He's searching for Chuckbox, his question hanging in the air, is she here? The moment Chunbi turns around, he's met with a startling sight, Gomdal, standing before him. Recognition flashes in Gomdal's eyes. He instantly identifies the man as his former master. The connection between them is undeniable. To delve into the shared history between Chunbi and Gomdal, we're transported back in time. The scene unfolds with Gomdal effortlessly dispatching a group of opponents, his movements fluid and precise. He doesn't even break a sweat, a testament to his overwhelming strength. Panic sets in among the opposing gang members. They realize that Gomdal is an unstoppable force, their weapons proving utterly useless against his might. Gomdal's comrades erupt in cheers, their excitement palpable as they witness his complete dominance. But amidst the chaos, Gomdal barks out an order, loot the enemy. Don't let them escape with their possession. The entire gang surges forward, weapons drawn, ready to plunder. As it turns out, Chunbi was the captain of this very squad before Gomdal's arrival. A mischievous glint appears in Chunbi's eye. He's enjoying this, needling Gomdal relentlessly about his marriage to a monster. As the old man's tirade continues, his daughter, Yujung, summons her courage and hesitantly asks Gomdal if he ever regrets his decision. Gomdal, utterly bewildered, has no idea what she's talking about. Yujung clarifies, reminding him that by marrying a monster, he painted a target on his back for the cannibal tribe. They will inevitably return, seeking revenge, and he will be forced to defend his family from their insatiable hunger. Does he now regret choosing to build a life, a family, under such perilous circumstances? Gomdal falls silent, Yujung's words hanging heavy in the air. A flood of cherished memories washes over him. He remembers the day he first encountered her, a helpless monster, desperately protecting her newborn child. The scene shifts, transporting us back almost 6 years. A younger Gomdal attempts to discreetly slip away from a boisterous gathering, eager to rendezvous with his monster wife, but young Yujung, ever observant, stops him, questioning his destination. Caught off guard, he hastily fabricates an excuse, announcing a patrol to ensure the coast is clear. Gomdal promises a swift return and depart, leaving a rather irritated Yujung behind. Meanwhile, her father playfully teases, suggesting that perhaps Gomdal has a secret girlfriend he's sneaking off to see. The thought stings Yujun with unexpected jealousy. And as we know, there's a kernel of truth to her father's jest. Not a girlfriend in the conventional sense, but Gamdal is indeed on his way to visit the monster mama, who, as we know, has a small child in her care. Their relationship is in its nascent stages, and the monster mama remains understandably cautious, but Gamdal gently reassures her, explaining he's only brought a few necessities. He carefully places the supplies, baby formula, clothes, and soft blankets, in the shade. His task complete, Gamdal turns to leave. He walks away, seemingly departing for good, but instead of truly leaving, he discreetly ducks behind a nearby building, secretly observing the monster mama's reaction to his thoughtful gesture. And just as he anticipated, the monster mama is utterly. Her delight at the sight of his gifts was evident. Observing the monster mama's joy from a distance filled Gamdal with a profound sense of happiness. Her happiness was his. He reveled in the sight of her smile. Drawn to her joy, he found himself spending more and more time in her company. Days melted into nights, and their bond deepened without either of them realizing. As their connection grew, so too did Chukbok. One day, it dawned on Gamdal just how close he had become to the monster mama. The realization, so subtle yet profound, brought a blush to his cheek. Meanwhile, the rival gang watched Gamdal's every move with suspicion. Upon returning to the monster mama one day, Gamdal was met with a terrifying discovery. The baby was burning with fever. Panic surged through him. He raced out, every ounce of strength propelling him forward. Desperate to find medicine, time was of the essence. If he failed, he might lose Chukbox forever. But as he desperately navigated the desolate city street, he walked straight into an ambush. His enemies had been waiting. Her tentacles writhe and transform, morphing into menacing, centipede-like appendages. Each one pulsates with grotesque power. Growing in length and girth, the tentacles become truly monstrous. With a furious lash, she hurls the transformed tentacles towards Mama. But Monster Mama is more than a match for this attack. Focusing her energy, she gathers power into her hand, and with a blindingly fast strike, slices through the incoming tentacle. Each severed appendage falls uselessly to the ground. Dion is visibly struggling, unable to keep pace with Mama's ferocity. The difference in power is stark. Meanwhile, Mama's power seems to surge, reaching terrifying new heights. Danyan's tentacle strikes become increasingly frantic, yet each attack is effortlessly dodged by Mama with almost preternatural grace. Danyan grows increasingly frustrated by Mama's superior agility. The relentless back and forth continues, a whirlwind of motion and power. Mama slowly but surely gains the upper hand, pushing Dion back. Then, in a crucial moment, Mama closes the distance, putting Dion in grave danger. One of Mama's razor-sharp tentacles is poised to strike, mere inches from piercing Dion's face. Unable to evade the impending attack, Dion desperately raises her hand, shielding her face from a potentially devastating blow. At least she manages to avoid a gruesome disfigurement. The relentless exchange has taken a significant toll on Dion, leaving her barely able to stand. Meanwhile, Mama stands before her, unmoved and composed, cool as a cucumber, adding to Dion's growing unease. The wound inflicted by Mama refuses to heal. She can't even feel it. The realization dawns on her slowly, a chilling discovery. None of the injuries sustained in this brutal battle are healing. A terrifying thought takes root. Could Mama be using poison? But the epiphany comes too late. Dion is left trembling, helpless in the face of her predicament, with her life hanging in the balance. She resorts to a desperate, last-ditch effort. In a swift and brutal act of self-preservation, she rips off her injured tentacle, the useless appendage that refuses to mend. She then severs her injured hand, discarding it like a broken tool. With a feral scream, she lunges at Mama, a cornered beast striking out in blind fury. Mama groans inwardly. This childish game is a tiresome distraction, and she has far more pressing matters to attend to, like finding Chuck. This charade ends now. But as Dion closes in, she sprays a gruesome mist of blood from her severed hand, the crimson liquid quickly blinding Mama's eye. Panic sets in. The cowardly wretch turns tail and flees, running for her life. Her immediate priority, find her hooded companion, Chi-gun. He's her only hope. With him by her side, she might stand a chance. But Chi-gun is faring no better, suffering a brutal beating at the hands of Hero. He's been dismembered, limb by limb, rendered utterly helpless, incapable of fighting back. Meanwhile, Dion gives chase, her pursuit relentless, screaming for Chi-gun. But Mama is not about to let this vile creature escape so easily. Not a chance. She will not rest until her daughter is returned. Convinced that these monsters have kidnapped her precious child, the scene cuts back to the battered and broken Chi-gun. His body is a tapestry of bruises. His pride is wounded, his ego bruised even further. As the humiliating reality sets in, he can barely comprehend the fact that he's being thoroughly dominated by a mere human,
someone he considers utterly beneath him, a weakling. Hira observes the confusion etched across the bastard's face, the bewilderment in his eye. She can practically hear his thoughts. How could a human, so demonstrably weaker than a monster, possess such overwhelming strength? She sets him straight, her voice dripping with disdain. I am not weaker than you. With that declaration, she slams his head with brutal force, the sickening sound of impact echoing through the chamber. But surprisingly, the gruesome splattering noise wasn't the result of Hira's attack. It was the sound of the monster piercing his own chest, driving his hand through his flesh and bone. He chooses death by his own hand, believing it a more honorable end than being killed by this despicable woman. With his dying breath, he vows that his father will avenge him, and with that final thought, he expired. At that very moment, Dion enters the scene, only to be met with the devastating sight of Shagan's lifeless body. Before Dion can even comprehend the stinging humiliation of defeat, a searing pain erupts across her back as Mama's whip lashes out. The single, brutal blow sends Dion crashing to the ground, utterly defeated. Chuck Box's face lights up with unrestrained joy at the sight of her mother. Even her husband's stern features soften with relief. But their fleeting moment of happiness evaporates as Hira charges towards Mama, a whirlwind of fury. Mama, caught completely off guard, is bewildered by the sudden attack from this unknown assailant. Instinct takes over, and she quickly assumes a defensive stand, prepared to face this new and immediate threat. Before the situation can escalate into a bloody free-for-all, Gondal intercepts Hira, seizing her arms in a vice-like grip. His voice booms with authority. Don't even think about laying a hand on my wife. Hira struggles against his immense strength, desperate to break free. Mama stares at her husband, a mixture of surprise and exasperation washing over her. Annoyance and a flicker of passion war within her as she demands to know why he disobeyed her instructions and followed her. He was supposed to wait outside. Gondal's response is unwavering. When my family is in danger, I don't just stand idly by. As Gondal wrestles to restrain the enraged Hira, Chuckbox, her tiny feet a blur, races towards her mother. Mommy, she cries. I ran away from the monster. Just like you said. The sight of her brave little girl brings tears to Monster Mama's eye. They embrace in a fierce, passionate hug, a moment so pure and heartwarming it illuminates the entire scene. Even the imposing figure of the large man can't contain his emotion, his own eyes welling up with tears. Hira, however, finds the display rather unsettling. As the emotional reunion unfolds, Hira's gaze falls upon Chuckbox's mutated finger. The sight ignites a furious fire within her. She erupts into a scathing tirade, berating the parents for their negligence. Their careless actions, she believes, have led to this horrific outcome. And to make matters worse, they were completely oblivious to the changes in their own daughter. The sheer ignorance fuels her anger even further. As her harsh words rain down upon Monster Mama, unable to bear the insults directed at his wife, Dumdal interjects. He firmly places the blame on himself, asserting that it was his fault from the very beginning, and Hera shouldn't be venting her anger at his wife. But Mama quickly silences her husband, once again utilizing him as her intermediary. Through Gumdal, she expresses her profound gratitude to Hera for saving her life. She humbly accepts responsibility for her daughter's plight, acknowledging her own culpability. She explains that everything that befell her daughter was a direct result of her action. After gathering supplies, they will journey to Hope Village to seek treatment for their daughter. She promises Hera a substantial and well-deserved reward in the future for her extraordinary kindness. Finally, she inquires about Hera's name. Hera responds without hesitation, adding that she is a friend of Chuckbox. An unsettling silence descends upon the parent. This woman appears far too old to be acquainted with their young daughter. Mama turns to her daughter, a question in her eyes. Is this true? The little girl nods enthusiastically, confirming Hera's claim. The large man is taken aback, completely bewildered by this revelation. He questions the little girl, asking how she could possibly keep such a significant secret hidden. The girl quickly offers an apology, explaining that Hera had explicitly instructed her not to tell anyone, but she vehemently defends Hera, insisting that Hera is not a bad person, but rather, has been incredibly kind to her. Her parents interrupt, ready to scold their daughter for her clandestine activities, but, before they can unleash their reprimand, Hera steps forward and silences them with a raised hand. She accepts full responsibility, admitting that she was the one who asked Chuck to keep her presence a secret. However, since Chuck has remained unharmed, she sees no reason for alarm. Nevertheless, she swiftly steers the conversation back to the urgent matter at hand, advising them to concentrate on finding essential supply, instead of squandering precious time on idle chatter. With that, she turns and walks away, and the little girl quickly follows in her footsteps. A wave of gratitude washes over Mama as she silently acknowledges Hera's role in her rescue. It was Hera who had bravely faced down that monstrous creature, saving her from certain death. Turning to her husband, she once again relies on him to translate her words, a familiar pattern in their communication. Stopping Hera, Mama poses a crucial question, a question that delves into the very core of Hera's identity. Who are you, Hera? Hera doesn't answer immediately, a moment of silence hanging heavy in the air. Finally, she offers a simple, enigmatic response. I am a friend of Chuckbox, nothing more. Without allowing them time to dwell on her cryptic word, Hera urges them forward, her voice firm. We must move. Time is of the essence. As they depart, a fleeting glimpse of Diane reveals that, against all odds, she still clings to life. Pressing onward, the group navigates the treacherous path, dispatching zombies left and right with ruthless efficiency. They finally arrive at a warehouse, promising a much-needed respite and a wealth of supply. Chuckbox and her father eagerly tear open a box, their faces lighting up with childlike glee at the contents within. A treasure trove of snacks. A discovery enough to brighten even the darkest of days. The father, with swift efficiency, gathers the delectable snacks, stuffing them into his backpack. He's confident this haul will more than cover the cost of Bokchuk's treatment. Meanwhile, Monster Mama stands silently observing, lost in thought. Hera's true identity remains a perplexing enigma. Mama knows, with unwavering certainty, that Hera is no ordinary individual. Her exceptional combat skills speak volumes. Mama acknowledges Hera's crucial role in Bokchuk's survival. Without her, he would surely be lost. Yet, a nagging feeling persists. Something about Hera feels strangely off, an unsettling peculiarity that Mama can't quite decipher. Hera's every movement, her fighting style, her unwavering composure, all contribute to this growing sense of suspicion. Try as she might, Mama can't place her finger on what it is. Their supplies replenished, they resume their journey. Bokchuk, perched comfortably on his father's back, enjoys a piggyback ride. Suddenly, a disquieting presence deep within the tunnel alerts Monster Mama. She slams on the brakes, bringing their progress to an immediate halt. Without warning, two colossal hands erupt from the darkness, sending the entire group scrambling in the opposite direction. But whatever this monstrous entity is, it possesses blinding speed, making escape seem impossible. To their horror, a cluster of monsters blocks the hallway ahead, cutting off their escape route. But just when all hope seems lost, a stroke of luck intervenes. These monsters are just as terrified of the pursuing behemoth as they are, prompting them to turn tail and flee for their own lives. As they sprint down the tunnel, desperately seeking an exit, a fork in the path appears, leaving them with a crucial decision. Which way to go? Suddenly, the massive hand whirs past the large man's right shoulder, swiftly sealing off the right passage. The chilling realization dawns upon them. The dungeon master is toying with them, herding them like cattle. Left with no other option, they veer left. Damdal, fueled by a desperate hope, believes the exit lies just ahead. But the relentless pursuit of the massive hand continues, its presence a constant threat. Finally, against all odds, they burst forth into the open air, gasping for breath, miraculously alive. But their path leads them into a claustrophobic chamber, teeming with monstrous figures. To compound their predicament, they find themselves trapped in a dead end. Now, the dungeon master's earlier decision to block the right passage becomes chillingly clear. Both women assume fighting stances, preparing to confront the imminent danger. The creature before them is not just grotesquely unsettling, but radiates a palpable power that dwarfs the ordinary zombies they've encountered. Its malevolent yellow eyes mark it as a truly formidable threat. Those piercing yellow eyes signify sentience, a conscious awareness. This monster possesses free will, capable of acting independently. The scene abruptly shifts back to the past, revealing the lifeless body of the alien-like monster, Dahan, also known as Father. It appears he has finally succeeded in possessing the dungeon master's body. He revels in the newfound sustenance it provides, content in the knowledge that he won't require another host for quite some time. As he walks, his thoughts drift to Danyan and the hooded monster, wondering where their paths have led them. His gaze falls upon one of Danyan's tentacles, severed and lying amidst the carnage. Following the gruesome trail, he discovers both the hooded figure and Danyan incapacitated, seemingly defeated. But Dion, though grievously wounded, still clings to life. He approaches her cautiously, his voice filled with concern. Who did this to you? He asks. For a fleeting moment, Dion believes she's staring into the face of the dungeon master himself, but her father quickly dispels the illusion, urging her to reveal the identity of her attacker. A monster, with yellow eyes, Dion gasps, her voice with the same piercing yellow eyes that burn within her father's gaze. Back in the present, Mama breaks into a cold sweat at the mention of the yellow-eyed monster, noticing her intense reaction. Gondol inquires, "Do you know this monster?" Mama shakes her head, a look of terror etched on her face. No, as far as she can recall, the monster was incapable of speech. But one striking change has occurred. A grotesque eye now pulsates within its chest. Meanwhile, the monstrous being and grotesque, giant limbs sprout beneath its feet. While Mama is completely unaware of this creature's identity, the yellow-eyed monstrosity seems to know her all too well. It accuses her of stealing a body, demanding its immediate return. Confused, Gondal turns to his wife, asking if she has taken anything from this creature. Naturally, Mama is utterly baffled. She has no idea what this creature is talking about. The monster, however, isn't surprised by Mama's lack of recognition. Its form has drastically changed, but whether she remembers or not is irrelevant. The monster intends to kill her and reclaim the stolen body, right here, right now. Hira steps forward, urging the behemoth to simply ensure Chuckbox's safety. She commands it to stay out of the fight, declaring that she will handle this situation, no matter the cost. But before Hira can advance, Mama intercepts her, declaring her intention to confront the monster head-on. She doesn't know if she can defeat it, but she will do everything in her power to stop it. To achieve this, unleashing her trump card will come at a cost, excruciating pain, but she's left with no other choice. Her fangs lengthen, their ivory turning a menacing crimson, and that's not all. From her tentacle emerges another razor-sharp needle, pulsating with the same ominous red hue. The immense effort leaves her utterly drained, but she fights through the exhaustion, knowing she can't afford to falter. Gondal's jaw drops in disbelief as he witnesses her resort to her ultimate weapon. The gravity of the situation is undeniable, even her husband is terrified. Without hesitation, Mama launches herself forward with terrifying speed, determined to intercept the monster. Meanwhile, the battlefield swells as more and more monsters pour into the fray. Hira steps forward, ready to engage these lesser creatures, while Mama confronts the formidable leader. The one-eyed behemoth is mesmerized by the crimson needles protruding from Mama. They are a key reason he craves her body, coveting their power. He unclenches his massive hands, preparing to strike, but Mama doesn't flinch. With a blur of motion, she slices through his flesh as if it were mere air. The yellow-eyed monster's eyes turn an inky black, consumed by a furious rage. He seethes, realizing the immense effort expended to obtain this body, only to have his hands destroyed so effortlessly, rendered useless. His hands now necrotic and decaying. Mama presses her attack, charging towards the hideous one-eyed monster. But just as her strike is about to land, the monster's tongue lashes out, ensnaring her feet in a vice-like grip. Frozen in place, mere inches from her target, she realizes the one-eyed monster had lured her closer, intentionally. A cruel smile twists his lips as Mama falls prey to his deception. Mama retaliates, lashing out with her own tentacle, but the monster effortlessly hoists her higher into the air, before sending her crashing down to the ground with brutal force. The impact is sickening. Poor Chuckbox looks on in horrified panic. The monstrous figure, relentless, continues to pound Mama mercilessly. Unable to bear the sight any longer, Chuckbox charges forward with reckless abandon, determined to save her mother. The vibrant yellow light in Mama's eyes dims abruptly with the brutal impact, plunging her into the depths of unconsciousness. She finds herself adrift in a formless void, running aimlessly, lost in the darkness. Suddenly, the tentacles on her back begin to writhe and grow, sending a chilling, alien sensation through her bones, causing her to break out in a cold sweat. She struggles desperately to tear them away, but her efforts are met with agonizing failure. However, with a final, desperate surge of strength, she manages to rip the tentacles free, but her relief is short-lived. Terror grips her as she watches the parasitic entity, now separated from her body, begin to advance towards her. It lunges with terrifying speed, and she braces for the inevitable. But just as the horror is about to consume her, she's jolted away, drawn from the nightmare by the familiar voice of her little one calling out to her. The vibrant yellow light reignites in her eye. Chuckbox stands defiantly, a tiny but formidable figure, positioned directly between her mother and the monstrous creature. With her mutated finger pointed accusingly at the monster, she unleashes a torrent of fierce reprimand. Meanwhile, the monstrous mother, taken aback by this unexpected defiance, her voice trembles, a desperate plea escaping her lips, urging her little girl to run, to flee for her life. Meanwhile, Hira and Gondal find themselves embroiled in a struggle with other monstrous foes, helpless to intervene, their hearts gripped by anxiety as they watch the unfolding horror. Despite being paralyzed by fear,
Mama summons a primal courage to protect her child, though her body remains trapped, unable to move even an inch.
The yellow-eyed monster, a figure of pure malevolence, looms over the defenseless little one.
Intrigued by Bokchuk's presence, he questions her nature, demanding to know if she is human, or perhaps,
a monster herself,
for he notices something peculiar,
a mutation on her finger.
A burning curiosity consumes him.
How did she come to possess a part of his body?
The meaning behind his cryptic words remains shrouded in mystery.
But one thing is certain, this one-eyed monster is fixated on Bokchuk, obsessed with her and her unusual form.
With a fierce defiance that belies her age, the little one snarls at the monster, commanding him to leave her mother alone. Now thoroughly captivated by such a rare specimen as Bokchuk, the one-eyed monster decides to take both her and her mother.
Intent on dissecting them, on exploring their inner working, Hira is utterly stunned by this monstrous declaration.
As the monstrous hand descends, casting a colossal shadow over them, the monster mother urges her child to flee, to save themselves.
But the little one, though trembling with fear, refuses to budge.
Terror grips her tiny heart, yet her resolve remains unshaken. She will protect her mother, no matter the cost.
Witnessing her child's unwavering courage,
a fierce protectiveness ignites within the mother's soul. She will defend her family to her last breath. With a desperate embrace, she pulls her little one close, holding her tight.
The monstrous hand is upon them. In a heartbeat,
it slams down, crushing them beneath its immense weight.
Hira and Gamble watch, frozen in horrified awe, at the yellow-eyed monster lets out a cruel, triumphant snicker.
Finally, he has his revenge.
But underestimating Mama is a grave mistake.
With blinding speed, she retaliates, her attacks so swift and relentless
that the yellow-eyed monster can't even track them.
A whirlwind of motion, she pummels him, each blow drawing a fresh spray of blood from the monster's battered body.
In the aftermath of the relentless onslaught, Mama finally puts a safe distance between herself and the ravaged monster.
The creature is utterly decimated, reduced to a grotesque ruin.
Its body, once a formidable force, is now a mangled wreck.
Melting like butter under an unrelenting heat, its flesh begins to dissolve. Even Gondal, seasoned warrior that he is baffled by this display of power.
In all his years, he's never witnessed anything remotely like it.
It appears Mama has undergone a profound awakening, emerging with two whips, each embedded with menacing red needle.
Meanwhile, in a quiet corner of the chaotic scene, a wave of terrified monsters flees in abject terror. Panic grips them as the malevolent brat from earlier relentlessly pursues them,
his shrill voice demanding they play with him. But none dare entertain the violent whims of this cruel child, who holds no regard for life or limb.
Elsewhere, the yellow-eyed monster is consumed by rage and despair.
Having suffered a crushing defeat, he laments the destruction of his newly acquired, precious body. The bitter taste of ruin clings to him, fueling his fury.
His previous claims of holding back are now shattered remnants of a bygone era.
Enraged, he vows to unleash the full fury of his power.
No more mercy. With a terrifying roar, he hurls his massive hands towards the party once more.
But in a shocking twist, the party isn't his target.
Instead, his colossal hands snatch up nearby monsters,
devouring them with savage hunger.
He gobbles them down as if they were the most delectable delicacy. Confusion reigns supreme. No one understands
the monster's motives or the purpose behind this gruesome feast.
But as they gaze upon the monstrous figure,
a horrifying transformation unfolds. He grows stronger, his body regenerated, fueled by the consumed monsters.
He swells to a truly gargantuan size, towering over everything.
Gondal, witnessing this terrifying spectacle, is drenched in sweat, paralyzed by fear.
The giant monster looms before him, an insurmountable obstacle. Mama, her voice filled with urgency, commands Gondal to grab the girl. She will confront this behemoth alone.
But Gondal hesitates, his mind screaming for escape.
Survival, not heroism, is his priority. Mama, sensing his fear, places a reassuring hand on his shoulder
in an attempt to soothe his wounded pride.
But the burly man is consumed by self-pity.
The thought of being such a weak, inadequate husband fills him with shame and anger. Yet, he vows to protect Chuckbox with his very life.
As Mama prepares to face the monstrous threat, both the big guy and the little one erupt in cheers,
urging her to obliterate the creature.
With a determined smile, Mama advances towards the monster,
who immediately attempts to crush her beneath its massive hand.
The monster scoffs, finding it utterly ludicrous.
That Mama would risk her life to protect such pathetic, weak human. When she speaks of family, the monster counters with its own twisted definition. Its offspring, it boasts, obey every command without question. Their obedience, it claims, is an act of repayment for the arduous task of raising them. This, the monster believes,
is the true essence of family, unquestioning obedience. But Mama refuses to yield.
In a flash, she appears directly behind the one-eyed behemoth, her voice ringing with conviction as she declares that this is not what family means.
To her, family It's evident that he's been treating them as nothing more than his personal slave. Without hesitation, she unleashes a volley of her crimson needles, aiming for the vile creature. The yellow-eyed monster reacts swiftly, conjuring a fleshy shield, just in the nick of time to deflect the direct impact. The needles sear and burn the flesh upon contact, but they fail to penetrate completely. The monster retaliates with a swing of his massive hand, but the moment it connects with Mama, she sinks her fangs deep into his flesh, her bite unrelenting. The flesh around her bite begins to sizzle and disintegrate as she continues to tear into the monster's hand with ferocious determination. In a desperate attempt to subdue her, the monster grabs her foot with his grotesque, fleshy hand, clenching it tightly into a fist. He intends to immobilize her completely. Rage consumes the monster as he realizes she has severely damaged his arm. He will make her pay dearly for her defiance. With a terrifying surge of strength, he tightens his grip, intending to crush her bones and organs. The pressure becomes excruciating, and poor Mama is overwhelmed by waves of agonizing pain. Darkness creeps in at the edges of her vision as she begins to lose consciousness. Suddenly, the monster crumples to its knees, its grip on Mama loosening in a moment of blessed relief. The reason for its sudden collapse? A clean severing of its leg, executed with surgical precision. The architect of this masterful strike is none other than Hera. Run, she urges Mama, I'll buy you some time. But Mama's maternal instincts override any thought of self-preservation. She surges back into the fray, launching herself at the wounded monster. Hera, without hesitation, follows suit. Together, they unleash a coordinated assault, their movements a symphony of skill and deadly precision. Gumball watches in awe, mesmerized by the breathtaking display of combat prowess. These two warriors, equally matched in their mastery of fighting, are a force to behold. Victory, he realizes, is now within their grasp. But just when the situation seems to be resolving itself, a jarringly familiar voice pierces the air, the whiny, insistent voice of that insufferable child who only wants to play. Chuckbox is stunned. It can't be. It's the unmistakable voice of the brat who stole her precious candies. The same infuriating tone, the same demanding whine. Meanwhile, Mama fights with unwavering ferocity, her every move driven by the primal need to protect her daughter. Hera, however, is momentarily distracted, torn between continuing the fight. Should she grab Chuckbox and flee, abandoning the others to a potentially fatal fate? The thought is agonizing, but it might be the only way to ensure Chuckbox's survival. Torn between her loyalty and her desire to protect the child, Hera's resolve hardens. She will destroy this vile creature. Mama burns with the same fiery determination. This monster will pay. A silent understanding passes between them. They will tear this beast apart and escape this nightmare together. But suddenly, the monster undergoes a horrifying transformation. Its body swelling, muscles bulging with terrifying power. Now a grotesque behemoth, the yellow-eyed fiend believes their deaths are imminent, inevitable. He revels in his perceived victory, his confidence unshakable. Meanwhile, the brat, caught in the chaos, is stunned by the unexpected appearance of Chuckbox. A peculiar odor emanating from the monster catches Gumdaw's attention, and Chuckbox, with a chilling reminder, warns his father of the monster's ability to extend its arms to terrifying length and strike her with them. Gumdaw, observing the scene, appears slightly unnerved by the sheer intensity of the little brat's fury, and who could blame him for being enraged? After all, he'd just been thoroughly humiliated by this girl, beaten like a helpless child. Our little girl, equally annoyed by his presence, sticks out her tongue, playfully taunting the fuming brat. This simple gesture sends him into a blind rage, and he charges towards her. But Gumdaw, ever vigilant, swiftly scoops up his daughter and attempts to blast the approaching child away with a wave of energy. Much to his surprise, the brat halts his charge, stumbling backward. Gumdaw is utterly astonished by this unexpected turn of events. To think that this monstrous creature is actually recoiling from a mere flick of his leg. Could it be that this brat is weaker than he initially appeared? But something doesn't quite fit. If the brat were truly weak, he would have fled like the other. Gumdaw is baffled. Why would this child even approach them? Suddenly, the brat's gaze shifts, drawn to a commotion nearby. He's struck with awe, his eyes widening in disbelief at the sight of his mother. The truth, as we know, is a heavy burden. He is the dungeon master's son. Even Gumdaw, with his keen senses, perceives the stark shift in the brat's demeanor. Something is undeniably different, and the change does not bode well. Meanwhile, amidst the chaos of the ongoing battle, as the dust clouds gradually dissipate, a grim reality emerges. Hera has suffered a crushing defeat.